Imagine a school student whose father is a gang member, and every day he beats him. But a day comes when this student's girlfriend goes to talk to his father to stop beating him, but his father beats her instead. And here, this student finishes him off, breaks a vase over his head, and goes to prison. And his journey with the bullies in prison begins. Will he get out of prison and continue his life with his girlfriend? Or what is waiting for him in this prison? And what will the gang do with him after the student finished off one of its most important men, his father? Let's see what happened with Young. Our story begins in juvenile prison, and our hero Young is standing terrified with circles drawn on his face, and his prison mates are holding him so he doesn't move. The cell leader aims a silver coin at him and will hit him with it using a rubber band. So our hero says, "Wait a second, can't you just hit me normally?" There's no need to do this. The leader, whose name is Song, charged with harassment and sentenced to 2 years, replies, "What, you don't want it? But you said you wanted the money? You do everything to earn money. I mean, you were shoveling snow for 301 and warming our shoes for 101, and you agreed to be our dog for a day for 201. And now you'll be a human target and take 501 from us." The truth is, guys, this prison is a juvenile prison, and this is where criminals under 19 are imprisoned. Or in other words, it's a place where all the hideous teenagers in Korea gather, and it's the place where violence and crime happen naturally every day. We go back to Song again as he says, "Better for you to close your eyes so they don't pop out. You'll look so funny when I hit you in the middle of your face between your eyes." But before he shoots the silver coin, the rubber band snaps and the coin flies and falls into the toilet. It then falls into the water, so Song asks, "Does anyone have an extra rubber band?" His mate replies, "You know rubber bands are very rare here." Song looks at our hero and says, "You're lucky, young boy. You're still standing there. Go on, get the money." Our hero is happy, thanks him, and runs towards the bathroom. But Song tells him, "Wait, it'll be too boring if you get it that easily. Get it with your mouth." Our hero stands inside the bathroom looking at the money while his mates outside are talking about someone having diarrhea yesterday. But suddenly our hero puts his head inside the toilet bowl and the water, and they're all shocked by the filth he did. One of them says, "He sold all his principles for money and it's barely 501. Of course, for our hero, after getting the 501, he has collected 50,001 so far. One of the people there says, "Boss, isn't it time for roll call?" They all head out and Song tells our hero, "Hey, Young, don't come out too fast because you stink." Got it? We see them walking down the prison hallway talking about how our hero ended up like this in just a month. And even if there was no money, he gave up on being human. He's in prison now because he was convicted of murder. And of course, our hero's sentence, guys, is 3 years. Song says, "I mean, whether he's a killer or anything else, it doesn't compare to money." His friend replies, "But why is this kid so obsessed with money? Could he have debts or loans or something like that?" We see a god calling our hero, telling him he has a visitor. As for our hero, guys, he's saving money for one reason, which is his girlfriend, Yoon. We see her waiting in the visiting room, asking him, "What's wrong? Why has your face thinned out like that? Is there no food in prison, or is someone hitting you in there too?" Our hero replies that none of what she's saying is true. Yoon continues, "You idiot. I told you the first impression is the most important. Didn't I also tell you to gouge someone's eye out as soon as you got in?" Young says, "Forget about that. Why are you visiting me so much? Don't waste money like that." Yoon gets angry, bangs on the glass, and says, "Do you think I'm begging? And besides, come here. What's the deal with these coins? Where did you get them to send them to me? It's true, I don't have a family, but that doesn't mean I'll accept shady money, understand?" Our hero asks her, "Wait a second, why did you bring them here with you?" She replies, "They have to do with the promise between us. Our promise to live together in Seoul after we graduate from high school. I'll get the money ready in my own way. You just take care of yourself." And here the guard says the visit is over. Yoon stands up and says, "Do you understand me? The only thing you should think about is getting out of here and don't pressure yourself at all. Promise me, okay?" Our hero waves goodbye to her as she leaves. After she leaves, he sits thinking about the promise, and he remembers when he was in the hospital sitting next to her saying, "Yoon, I'm sorry for what my father did." We see Yoon, and signs of being beaten are visible on her. She replies, "Sorry? Are you kidding? This isn't the right time to worry about me. Your father is in a coma now after I hit him with the vase. And if he doesn't wake up, the police won't let it slide." Our hero tells her, also showing signs of being beaten, "It's okay. I mean, if we compare it to how he treated me, the punishment won't be that bad." We see our hero in court, and the judge tells him, "Defendant Young, the court sentences you to 3 years in prison." At that moment, our hero was surprised he was imprisoned for resisting just once, even though he had been abused by his father his whole life. When the police come to take him to prison, Yoon says, "You must eat well and let me know if anyone bullies you." Okay? That's a promise between us. Our hero looks at her without replying and walks with the police to prison. The truth is, guys, when a prisoner causes trouble in prison, it extends the sentence even more. And to reduce the sentence, the prisoner must follow the rules. We see our hero in his cell, looking at a photo of him and Yoon, thinking he'll hold on for 3 years so they pass peacefully. And here, Song comes up behind him and says, she's a beautiful girl. Our hero gets startled and hides the photo immediately. So Song asks him if she's his girlfriend, and he replies, no, she's just a friend. Song continues laughing. So it's unrequited love. Give me that photo, kid. Our hero refuses to give him the photo. So Song says, Young, you dare to resist? I guess I have to set things straight every now and then. It seems you need to be taught a lesson again. He raises his hand to strike him, but at that moment, a guard enters with a new prisoner. And he says, cell number 36, you have a new cellmate. Sung is surprised and says, someone new? I haven't heard anything about this. The guard tells the new prisoner, don't cause any trouble. We'll be watching you from now on. One of the inmates is shocked and says, I know this kid. He's the one who killed 7 people at his school. His name is Guillaume. And Guillaume, everyone has been sentenced to 20 years, which is the maximum sentence in juvenile prison. As soon as our hero sees him, he's amazed that this person killed 7 at once. They're all standing there staring at Guillaume, and Sung says as he walks toward him, why are you idiots trembling? What do you mean he killed 7 people? No one is here unless they did something bad, like this killer. Look, see the filthy face in front of you. You're accused of murder, right? Don't be arrogant here, you understand? And behave yourself and be respectful. Guillaume looks at Sung's hand but doesn't respond, leaving him and walking away. Sung laughs and says, I thought this would be easy. You animal! And here, Sung attacks him to strike him, but Guillaume moves quickly and dodges the blow, shocking everyone present. And Sung says to himself, this joke dodged my attack. Our hero stands there watching what's happening in front of him, and he sees that Guillaume is a different kind of person for killing 7 people. We see Guillaume aiming a blow at Sung, but he stops his hand in front of his face, and Sung takes advantage, hitting him and knocking him down. He starts kicking him while insulting him, saying, know your place, you animal? Who do you think is the boss here? Everyone in this cell, whether they're killers or drug dealers, they all bow to me. Our hero thought Guillaume would resist a little, but now he sees him as just a failure. Later, we see Guillaume sitting in the middle of the cell, and Sung approaches, hits him on the head and says, go get some water, kid. But Guillaume stays in his place and doesn't respond to anyone. And of course, the reaction is that everyone in the cell gathers and beats him up. As for our hero, we see him cleaning the bathroom, wondering why Guillaume doesn't listen and subjects himself to this beating. Night comes and we see them sleeping in the cell. Guillaume, whose face is swollen from the beating, lies next to our hero, who says, listen, are you stupid? Is it that hard to bow a little to the boss? I know he's a jerk, but the boss here is the king of the cell. It's only natural to keep quiet and do what he tells you. There's no need to stand up to him if you can't fight. Just do what he says tomorrow. Guillaume replies, do you always live so submissively? Our hero is shocked by his response, even though he was giving him advice. But those words affect him, and he says to himself, yes, I must always back down and live submissively until the very last moment so I can get out of this place. Time passes, and we see Yoon standing on the sidewalk waiting for the light. Thinking that Young has lost a lot of weight, she's brought him some food. And of course, she knows she shouldn't talk about what happened, but she understands that his mental state isn't great. But he needs to eat well during this time, and the food she brought isn't much. But he'll be very happy with it. The light turns green and she crosses the street. But before she reaches the other side, a large truck comes and doesn't stop at the light. Yoon looks at it in shock, and suddenly the truck hits her. We see Yoon lying on the ground along with the food. The next morning, we see the guard telling our hero, I'm sorry for your loss. Our hero asks him what he means. The guard continues, yesterday, an accident happened in front of the prison gate, and this accident happened to the girl who was coming to visit him. Our hero is shocked and devastated as soon as he hears the news, and he returns to his cell and sits there. And Guillaume keeps looking at him, surprised by his condition. And here Seong comes out of the bathroom shouting, you animal Yong, why didn't you clean the bathroom today? Have you gone crazy, kid? And he runs towards him. But at that moment, he's surprised when he sees him holding the photo and continues, what? Are you back to looking at this photo again since the start of the day? What's going on now? One of his cellmates tells him that yesterday there was an accident in front of the prison gate and that girl died. So Seong says to him, are you serious? So that girl was your girlfriend. That's why she was visiting you. Why were you lying to me? And what are you going to do now that she's dead? He takes the photo from him while laughing, looks at it, and continues, cute, isn't she? Too bad she was with Yong. Does anyone want this photo, guys? The price starts at 500 won. It's very cheap. The guys in the cell start raising the price as if they're in an auction. And one of them raises his hand and says, "A question, boss. Can we go out on a date with this girl?" The one next to him replies, "Are you stupid, kid? How are you going to go out on a date with her when she's dead?" Sejong says, "If she were alive, it wouldn't have been just a date. You would have also had a lot of fun with her." They keep talking about Yong, and our hero sits without moving. And Guillaume keeps looking at him from afar and remembers when he told him that he lives in submission, but suddenly he's shocked by what's happening in front of him. We see Sejong still talking, and at the same time, he gets a punch to the face. That punch is from our hero, who slams him to the ground. Of course, everyone here is shocked by what happened. Our hero keeps staring at Xiong with a terrifying gaze, while Guillaume watches in surprise, recalling when they were in a workshop at the prison's rehab center. Then our hero says, "You know, my father was the right hand of a gang leader, and he was very successful. And every moment when I was young, I was subjected to daily abuse as naturally as breathing. But what could I do? Even though it was very disgusting, but I was forced to live with him because he's my father. And in any case, there was only one time when I couldn't control myself and couldn't stand it, when he laid a hand on my girlfriend. And during the time I was being beaten by him, I learned to fight well." And we return to the cell again. And Seong is looking at him and saying, "Ah, you animal, everyone finish him off." Everyone in the cell attacks our hero, who starts beating them one after another, knocking them all to the ground afterwards. And of course, Guillaume is watching him and seeing what's happening in front of him. And after this battle, everyone has been beaten and fallen to the ground. And our hero is holding Seong, who says to him, "Yong, I'm sorry, I'll give you money." "Don't you need money? How much do you want?" Our hero replies, "Money? Money isn't bad, but right now I don't need it because the reason I wanted to get out of here, or even what always makes me hold back, is no longer there." We see our hero punching Xiong's face left and right with terrible force, and Guillaume is shocked by what our hero is doing to him. And of course, guys, our hero's father wanted him to follow in his footsteps so he could become a world-class gangster. And this was since our hero was young. He used to beat him very violently. And every time our hero fell to the ground, he would tell him to stand up so he could attack him again. And he would also beat him and knock him down again. This story used to happen every day until one time. And even though our hero couldn't look into his father's eyes, who always told him he had to be stronger, when he reached that day, he would have the gang tattoo on his body, which is the dragon. And of course, our hero's only target for his anger was the dragon's eyes in his father's tattoo. We return to the cell once again, and the guards enter, and one of them says, "You idiots, what are you doing? What's this? What happened? Young, did you do this?" Of course, the guard is shocked when he finds everyone in the cell beaten and lying on the floor. Our hero is standing in their midst and says to him, "Yes, I'm the one who did this." A bit later, we see our hero in solitary confinement sitting on the floor and looking at the picture of Yoon. And here he remembers when they were at school. Yoon says to him, "Did he get angry with you again? What kind of father beats his son like this on his first day of high school? This is really too much, honestly. He should be here with you to congratulate you." Young replies, "It's no problem. It's not the first time." Yoon continues, "No, this is a big deal. I'm going to go and talk to your father about this." Our hero tells her, "You promised me you wouldn't come to the house at all. If you don't keep that promise, then you'll have to call me brother for the rest of your life." Yoon replies, "You know how to calm people like me who don't have a home?" So our hero tells her that's not what he meant. And here Yoon looks at the school sign and says as they're leaving, "I'm going to Seoul. I'm sick of living in the orphanage. I suffered a lot in this neighborhood. I'll go to Seoul, graduate from a decent university, and get a job at a big company. And I'll drive a car, carry expensive bags, and live in the best apartment on the Han River." Our hero asks her, "What's this? Why have you become so materialistic?" Yoon laughs, so our hero looks at her, thinking that if she leaves, he'll be all alone here. So she says to him, "That's why you're coming with me, right? Let's make a promise." She takes his hand, hooks her pinky with his, and continues, "If you don't keep your promise to me, you'll have to call me sister for the rest of your life." Of course, our hero doesn't want to call her his sister at all. At that moment, a man carrying a camera comes and says to them, "You two look great together. How about I take a picture of you together?" And indeed, the man takes their picture, and it's the photo our hero keeps with him in prison. We return to solitary confinement, and our hero is hitting the wall, thinking that if he hadn't been in this place, Yoon wouldn't have come to visit him here. And he keeps punching the wall with all his might, and blood starts to drip from it. He feels that what happened to Yoon was because of him. Then the guard comes, calls out to him and says, "I'm sorry for what happened to you, but I can't stand to see this sight in front of me anymore. You haven't touched your food since yesterday. You need to calm down and eat. Life goes on, it doesn't stop." While hero sits on the floor, starts crying and says to him, "I'm sorry." And in the prison cafeteria, we see the inmates eating. Guillaume is sitting at the table and hears someone talking and saying, Did you hear the rumors? There's a guy named Young, and this kid beat up all his cellmates, and now he's in solitary confinement. His friend asks him why. So the first one continues. Apparently, the cell leader was mocking his girlfriend who died in a car accident, and it seems he lost control of himself. They all laugh at this story because Young is in a mess now. Then one of the inmates comes and reaches his hand toward the speaker, who says, that means there's a new cell leader now. But before he finishes, the inmate standing behind him slams his head into the food tray and says, what are you guys talking about without me? You seem very happy. Why don't you let me in on the joke? This inmate's name is Chan, and he continues, what's the story with the kid who became leader through rebellion? And why are you guys even talking about this anyway? Do you want to rebel against me? Of course, the inmates sitting at the table are terrified and tell him they won't do that at all, and no one would even dare to do that anyway. He takes his hand off the prisoner who was talking and asks, are you okay? The prisoner replies to him, I'm sorry, Chan. I shouldn't have said those things. Chan continues, okay, this kid's name is Young, right? A week later, we see the guard standing with our hero at the cell door saying, Young, the kid you beat up with his group is still in the hospital. We allowed you to come out after a week because of your special circumstances, but don't cause any trouble in the coming days. Understood? And here I'd like to tell you, by the way, guys, that the password for our episode today is Young. The cell door opens and our hero enters. Guillaume is sitting inside, looking at him, thinking that our hero managed to defeat the cell leader. Then the rest of the prisoners stand up and go toward our hero, and one of them says, are you okay? Now, I know the situation was tough for you, wasn't it? Solitary confinement is hard on anyone. Rest now. Would you like me to bring you water or give you a massage? Of course, they're all afraid of our hero after what he did to them and to Song. As for Guillaume, he's sitting writing in a notebook, thinking that he's realized something lately. Whether a person is in school, their family, or even their appearance and grades, all these factors are important. But here in prison, the most important thing is strength. Time passes, and we see Guillaume standing in the prison yard, holding a notebook in his hand. Our hero is standing near him, calls out to him, and says, why did you do that? Guillaume is surprised by his question, and our hero continues, on the day I was going to finish off the cell leader, why did you stop me? Even though you yourself went to prison after finishing off 7 people. Explain to me, why did you stop me? Guillaume is shocked by his words and remembers when he was in school at the time of his incident. The whole classroom is covered in blood, with students' bodies lying around him as he stands among them asking himself, why did I do that? Why? Our hero is about to answer his question, but at that moment Chan comes and says, are you young? You look younger than I expected. How can someone like you defeat Song? But anyway, that Song kid is weak and pathetic. So why did you do it? What made you rebel against him? Did you want to be the cell leader? Young replies coldly, get lost. I don't care about this at all. Chan is shocked by our hero's response, smiles and says to him, great, Young. You're a filthy kid and you know how to talk dirty, don't you? But you know what I hate most? Animals like you who don't know their place. And since Song didn't know how to teach you, I'll be the one to teach you. He knees our hero in the stomach, then grabs his head and prepares a punch to hit him in the face. He continues, now see what happens to the dog that dares to bite its master's hand. Just before he hits him, a guard passes by them and coughs while looking at them, so Chan realizes he can't do anything. And he says to the guard, oh, I'm just joking with him. The guard continues on his way and leaves. Then Chan lets go of our hero and says to him, you know, when you're a cell leader, you can fight as much as you want. And the excuse is that you're maintaining order. That's the rule in juvenile prison. So face me and do what you did to your leader, Song. He grabs him by his clothes again and punches him in the face. Then he throws him, and our hero hits the prison fence and falls to the ground. Chan continues, what's wrong, killer? Why are you acting like a dog now? If you keep acting like this, beating you won't be fun. And here, Chan rolls up his sleeve to reveal a new tattoo on his arm. Our hero looks toward him and is shocked when he sees the dragon tattoo. He remembers his father at that moment carrying him off the ground with the dragon tattoo on his chest. Chan says, it's clear from the way you talk that you're not afraid. Don't tell me you did that because of the car accident. And Chan raises his hand to strike our hero. But at that moment, our hero lands a kick to his face, sending him backward. But our hero doesn't let go. He grabs his arm, twists it, shoves Chan against the fence, slams him into it, and then steps on his face. Chan says, great, you animal, great. So our hero tells him to repeat what he said if he can. Chan is surprised by our hero's reaction, his face pressed against the fence. And here our hero presses hard on his head and tells him again to repeat what he said. Chan says, let me go, you animal, you're dead meat. But our hero presses down harder on his head and says, say what you said again. Then he grabs Chan's hand with both of his and breaks it. Chan screams, what are you doing? No. Of course, Guillaume stands watching, shocked by what's happening before him and what our hero is doing. who is still telling Chan to repeat what he's saying. And here our hero lifts his foot off Chen, whose face is marked by the fence. And of course, everyone, our hero was venting his anger on the tattoo that was on his father's chest. We go back in time a bit to the neighborhood where our hero used to live, and we see a neighbor saying, "I heard this boy's father works with gangs." The man next to her replies, "It seems he beat him again." This neighborhood has become really bad. Of course, our hero is coming back from school, thinking he must endure because it's the best he can do. He arrives at the front door and hears someone screaming inside, but he knows that voice very well. He opens the door and says, "What's going on?" His father replies, "You came at the right time. Look, son, isn't this your friend?" And we see Yoon lying on the floor. Our hero screams her name. His father continued, "This girl came here and started talking nonsense, saying she wouldn't let it slide if I laid a hand on you again, and that you're better off without a father like me. So I taught her a lesson." Our hero remembers when Yoon told him she would go and talk to his father, so our hero thinks that this submission isn't the best thing he can do. Here, his father looks at him and says, "Make her understand. If she talks that nonsense again, I'll send her to meet her ancestors." At that moment, our hero knew he couldn't take it anymore. He grabs the vase, runs to his father, and smashes it over his head. Then he sits on top of him and keeps hitting him. And at that point, his father was admitted to the hospital. We see the doctor standing with our hero in his father's room saying, "His condition is very critical. I'm sorry, but you could say the chance of him waking up is almost zero unless a miracle happens." Our hero stands before his father's bed and says to himself, "This is what you deserved." And we return to the prison again in the present time. And we see the prisoners gathering in the yard around our hero who was beating Chan. The prisoners talk about how our hero lost control even though he just got out of solitary and has now started causing trouble again. And we see Chan after his face was battered and his hand broken, lying on the ground and not moving. Here, the voice on the prison radio says that exercise time is over and everyone must return to their cell. In the warden's office, we see someone looking out the window saying, "This noise never stops in the prison. It seems there are many impulsive young men here." The warden, whose name is Seok, replies, "We've gotten used to this atmosphere, but I'm glad you're in good health. I heard you just got out of the hospital. If you have any problems, please let me know. We'll do our best to make sure you're comfortable, but you didn't tell me, who do you want to meet here?" We go to the cell now where our hero is, and we see them sitting on the floor without a word. And they're looking towards our hero, who's sitting silently looking at the floor. Ji-woo is holding a pen, looking at our hero and writing in a notebook. It seems like it's over for me. And now he and I are in the same cell, and I've become the insignificant one. And here the guard calls our hero and tells him to come out because he has a visitor. Our hero is shocked and goes out with the guard, wondering who could possibly come to see him, since his mother ran away when he was young and he has no contact with any of his relatives. But he's surprised when the visit is in the prison warden's office. He's very puzzled about who he's going to meet that's visiting him in the warden's office. And as soon as the door opens, our hero is shocked when he sees who's visiting him, and he says to him, "Finally we meet, young." At this moment, our hero remembers his father at home when he finished him off. The guest continues, "I'm glad to see you. And you had that energy a while ago. I mean, when you were on the field." And the truth, everyone, is that the guest is our hero's father, Kang. Our hero stands stunned, not believing his eyes that his father is still alive. And he says, "How are you?" But before he finishes, Seok approaches him, puts his hand on his shoulder and says, "What's wrong, son? You look very surprised. He woke up in the hospital not too long ago. A miracle, isn't it? You must be happy that your father is doing well." Our hero remembers the doctor's words when he told him that his father's chance of waking up was very slim unless a miracle happened. So he wonders how he even woke up. And here our hero's father, Kang, says, "I can't believe that the person who put me in this state, even though I'm the right hand of the great organization's leader, wasn't one of my enemies or even the police. But the one who did it was my son. When I opened my eyes, I found myself in the hospital and I felt a great sadness." And of course, here Kang starts to cry and continues, "That sadness was for you. And as a father, I wanted to meet you. I love you so much, son, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for you. But I had no choice but to finish off your girlfriend." And we go back to the moment of the accident when the car hits Yoon, and we see her after she falls to the ground with food around her, trying to speak and catch her breath, asking for help with great difficulty. But she's surprised when she finds Kang standing in front of her saying, What's wrong? It's like you've seen a ghost. You were saying that my son would be better off without me, weren't you? Even though parents give everything for their children. But after thinking about it, you won't understand this because you never had parents to begin with. And Kang walks away, leaving her lying on the road. And now we return to the prison warden's office in the present, and Kang continues his speech. "I thought you were just a useless fool. And you became the boy who listens and remains submissive all his life. But on the day the accident happened for the first time, I saw the true potential you have. And the key that solved your problem was that girl. And that's what made me erase her. That's why it was a very long road until we reached this stage. And the solution was to finish her off for you. Our hero looks towards the desk. And suddenly Seok says, "What are you doing? Get him!" We see our hero getting up and attacking his father to hit him. But before he reaches him, the police's electric wires enter his body and they shock him with tasers so he falls to the ground. We see the police surrounding him from all sides, and Seok continues, "Hold him tight." This whole thing scared me. Our hero looks toward his father, who is still being electrocuted. So Kang stands before him and says, "You want revenge and to finish off your father? Fine, I'll tell you the only way you can ever hope to finish me off. There's a group of our men right here in this prison. And right now, they only have the tattoos on their bodies. But some of them will become members of the organization in the future. You'll prove to me you're the best of them all and take control of this prison. If you can grow here and the organization notices you, the day will come when you can kill me. And then you'll surpass me and become the second in command as well. Prepare yourself to face the Dragon organization. You'll achieve something I couldn't in my entire life. And if you can do that, then my life will finally end because of you. Mr. Shock, could you please keep an eye on my son?" He replies to him, "Of course, don't you worry." At this point, the guards are surprised by the movement taking place, so Seok looks toward them and asks what just happened. We see our hero holding the electric wires without being affected, thinking that his father's words are empty and that he'll finish him off. We see him pulling the wires off and getting up to attack him again. Kang is already leaving the office and our hero runs after him to strike him. Naturally, the guards and Seok are shocked by what's happening. Our hero says to himself, "Today is the day that you are going to die." The moment our hero reaches the door, someone comes from behind, grabs his head, and says, "Forgive my rudeness, young master." Then this man slams our hero's head into the ground, and the guards are astonished by what just happened. The man continues while pinning our hero to the floor. "It is my duty to serve the boss." But here, our hero moves his legs and tries to get back up. The man wonders how he still has this strength just by using his legs, even though he himself is a leader in the Dragon organization. Then Kang says, "You're such a simple boy. Open your eyes wide and look around you. Do you really still not understand? It's impossible for you to even touch me." And this haste only leads to more trouble. "The only way you can finish me off is if you can take control of this prison. And I'm waiting for the moment we meet again, my son." Kang and his men then leave, leaving our hero lying on the floor. And then he stands up, leaning on his hand after his father has gone. We now go to the woodworking room and see Guillaume working with a hammer. One of the guards comes and tells him, "You've done your work for today. You can rest." Guillaume replies that he understands and hears one of the inmates nearby saying, "That Guillaume kid uses the hammer in a terrifying way. Could he have smashed the bullies' heads at school using that hammer? But you know, he doesn't look like a criminal at all." His companion replies while laughing, "Man, he's a loser. Forget about him." Another person enters the room and says he's brought the toolbox. So the guard tells him to put it on the shelf. The boy walks while carrying the box, and there's a tattoo on his body. As soon as he gets close to Guillaume, he drops the box on the floor. So the guard asks him why he dropped it. He replies, "I'm sorry, but I suddenly lost feeling in my hands." Guillaume is looking between his feet and finds a nail, and he's shocked when he sees it. Then the boy says, "You're Guillaume, aren't you?" "Finally, man. This is the first time we've seen each other since middle school." Actually, everyone. This boy's name is Min, and his charge is theft. Min continues, "I saw you on the news, and now here we are meeting once again. Do you remember me?" Guillaume answers, "Yes, of course, you're Min." Min replies, "Yeah, you know, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. That story in the news about you taking out 7 people, did you really do that? I still can't quite believe it. I mean, I can't imagine the Guillaume I knew in middle school doing something like that." Guillaume asks him what he means by that while holding a stick in his hand. Min answers, "Nothing in particular, but you were known for being a good student." Then the guard calls out to them, "You two, stop talking and get back to work." Min says, "Yes, sir," takes the toolbox, waves to Guillaume and says, "See you later, Guillaume." And here Guillaume looks toward the table, then looks at the stick in his hand, which has a nail in it, and because Guillaume was squeezing the stick, his hand gets cut. Time passes and night falls. Inside the cell, our hero sits thinking about his father telling him that to take him down, he must control the whole prison. So he asks himself, how am I going to start taking control? One of the inmates has his hand on his stomach and says, "I'm so hungry." The second one replies, "The food in this prison is all vegetables. It's so boring. How about we report the violence we're facing to the human rights organization?" The third one says, "Forget about that nonsense. You know what I'm craving right now? I want a slice of pizza. If I died after that, I'd die happy." The first one tells him, looks like you forgot you're in prison. He replies, that's why it's just a wish, you idiot. Quiet, quiet, the guard is coming. Of course, our hero is sitting there listening to them. He stands up, approaches the window, and calls the guard, who stops and asks if there's a problem. His cellmates are surprised. Why is he talking to the guard? Our hero says, there's no problem. But can we order some pizza? The guard replies, young, you seem to have forgotten you're in prison. Get out here right now, let's go. We see one of the inmates in the cell eating pizza and looking very happy. He and his cellmates are talking about how long it's been since they've had outside food and how this pizza tastes absolutely delicious. They thank our hero, who's thinking that he wasn't sure about this, but the warden and guards treat him specially because he's Kang's son. He wants to see how far this special treatment goes. He hears one of his cellmates say, is it Young? I mean, Mr. Young. What's his real identity? Is his father really a member of Congress? Our hero says to himself, to get my revenge, I have to control everything, even the fact that I'm that man's son. Then he hears another say, why is Guillaume acting like that? Hey, Guillaume, aren't you going to eat any pizza? The one next to him replies, leave the kid alone. He's been acting strange today. I don't know if something happened to him. Guillaume is sitting alone away from them, deep in thought. The next day in the workshop, Guillaume is working next to our hero and puts the box on the table. Suddenly, Min comes over carrying the toolbox and drops it like last time, saying, what's this? I can't carry this box. But this time, there's a box of nails on the crate that all fall on Guillaume. So Guillaume looks at the nails, and here Min continues, sorry, my hands just couldn't hold the box. Guillaume looks at him and says, Min, what are you doing right now? Then a group of prisoners arrives, and the big one among them says, what's this, Min? He's not like you said. He's even looking down on you. I mean, you said he was a high-level killer and you're subordinate, and I had my expectations. You were lying to me, saying he's the famous bully from your neighborhood. Min replies, what lie? This is Guillaume from my area, and I'm sure he remembers our beautiful memories. Right, Guillaume? Have you forgotten the beautiful memories between us? Well, if I do this, you'll remember the past. And here Min grabs Guillaume's head and brings it close to the table where a nail is standing. So Yum looks at him, and he remembers the past when Min locked him in a locker and set nails on the door, saying, why are you trembling like that, Guillaume? So Guillaume replies, please, Min, enough, please. Min laughs at him and says, what's wrong? What are you saying? I can't hear you very well from here. Guillaume begs him to let him out of the locker, and Min continues, don't say that, because the real fun starts now, and we'll start counting. 1, 2, 3. Min is holding a hammer and starts hitting the nails. And Guillaume is standing inside the locker, terrified with every nail strike that pushes it inward. And we return to the present in the workshop where Guillaume is trembling, his head close to the nail. Here Min says, well, do you remember now? The big guy replies and laughs. Is this loser trembling? He looks really scared. Min grabs some nails in his hand and says, guys, do you really believe a coward like him could finish anyone off? He points his hand with the nails at Guillaume's face. But here Guillaume grabs his hand and the nails immediately fall to the floor. The men are surprised by what happened, and Min is shocked by Guillaume's reaction, who says, do you want me to teach you how to finish someone off? At that moment, the guard calls them and says, you two, the break is over. Everyone back to their places and work. So he pulls his hand away and says, get your hand off me. Afterwards, they leave the place, talking about how much more fun it would have been. And of course, Min leaves the place with his eye on Guillaume, saying, this is so disgusting and annoying as usual. After a while in the cell, our protagonist's cellmates leave, and he and Guillaume are left alone. So our protagonist says, thank you. If you hadn't stopped me last time, I'd be spending 10 years here in prison now. Guillaume replies, before you were complaining that I stopped you. What made you change your mind? He replies, because now I have an important reason to get out of this place. Because the person who finished off my girlfriend is my father, and I have to meet him. Guillaume continues, I thought your father was in a coma and wouldn't wake up from it. So Young says to him, it's a long story. Anyway, thank you. I might get out of here soon. Guillaume looks at him and says, are you joking? I mean, you're saying this to someone who's going to spend 20 years of his life in prison. Our protagonist gets confused. No, I don't mean it like that. But what I want to say is that I'll return this favor. So Guillaume says to him, no problem. Time passes and we see Guillaume in the workshop room. And the workshop supervisor is giving him a key and saying, here, Guillaume, this is the workshop key. I'm sorry, but something happened at my house and the workshop must be in your care today. Good luck. Guillaume tells him he understands. And he looks at the table and finds a moth on it. He remembers that moment from when he was 11, showing him the collection of butterflies he'd preserved. Back then, Guillaume told him, I don't like insects, they're really gross, and that includes butterflies too. Min says to him, Guillaume, you're acting like such a scaredy cat. Of course, everyone. To Guillaume, Min was his very first friend. One time in class, a group of students were talking about how gross Min was for collecting insects. One of them approaches and asks, "Are you collecting those just so you can eat them?" Min tells him, "Of course not." But the boy continues, "You're lying. I know that's how you get all the protein you need. How about I feed you with my own hands? Come on, open your mouth." Just then, Gayam walks in and says, "That's enough. I know you're bored, but everyone needs to get back to their seats." The students get scared, and one of them says, "That's the class president. He could punish us." "And we're sorry, President. Please forgive us." They leave Min alone, and Guillaume approaches him to ask if he's okay. He replies, "Yes, thank you. By the way, you're coming over to my house, right?" Then his other classmates call out to him, saying they're playing a soccer match against the kids from class 4 after school. Guillaume replies, "I'm busy today." They try to convince him, of course, as Guillaume recalls this situation. He wonders to himself, realizing back then he didn't know that he and Min were growing up in such different ways. Indeed, the following year, they were both in different classes. As Gayam was passing by Min's classroom, he noticed his seat was empty and assumed he'd gone home. But then he hears two people talking about a rumor that the loser Min was being mocked and even beaten by bullies. They had taken him to the school storage room. Guillaume rushes there and enters the storage room, calling out for Min and asking the students there about him. One of them looks at him and answers, "You mean the loser? Who knows where he is right now?" Suddenly, Guillaume hears Min's voice saying, "He's standing right behind you," as he pushes him into the storage room. Guillaume is shocked and asks, "Min, what are you doing?" At that moment, Min shoves him into a locker and locks it, while the bullies say, "Great job. You really managed to catch that insect well." The one next to him adds, "I told you this kid was seriously crazy." The first one approaches and says, "I told you that you had to offer up your most precious insect to join us." "So is this the most precious insect to you?" Guillaume screams from inside the locker, "Min, let me out." "Why are you doing this?" He replies, "Be patient, Guillaume, because when I catch an insect, I need to preserve it while it's still alive." We return to the present time with Gayam in the workshop. At that moment, Min walks in, grabs a butterfly, and says, "Moths and butterflies are both insects, but people hate one and not the other. And that's a lot like me. And it's all because of you." Then Min crushes the butterfly in his hand. Guillaume responds to him, "What do you mean by saying everything is because of me?" Min continues, "Stop acting like you don't know what I'm talking about. You act like a saint, pretending to care about me as a friend. But in secret, you were planning to distance yourself and betray me. Did you think I wouldn't understand what was going on in your head? I'm the disgusting moth, but you were the butterfly that everyone loved. When I realized how you truly felt about me, it made every day feel like it could be my last. That's a heavy burden, and you're the one who pushed me to this point. You're the one who threw yourself into the abyss of your own free will. And all of this happened when I heard the news that you're a killer who finished off 7 people. I felt an incredible happiness. I felt that justice was finally served. Understand?" Guillaume trembles, and we see blood dripping from his hand as he says, "What is this delusion you're living in? Because of you, I..." But here, Min interrupts him and says, "It doesn't matter if you're living in a delusion or not. Your life is completely ruined, and now you'll turn to dust and vanish into thin air." At that moment, 2 people come and grab Guillaume from behind, covering his mouth, and one of them says, "I knew you weren't normal when you bribed the guard, but you turned out to be quite fun, Min." Min replies, "Just wait, because when I catch an insect, I have to mummify it first." They take the poor guy toward the locker in the room, so Guillaume tries to speak and escape from them. Min continues, "Because of you. All of this was because of you, Guillaume." They lock Guillaume inside the locker and secure it with a chain. And Guillaume says, "Do you think I'll be fooled twice?" Min replies, "You reminded me. I've prepared a gift for you inside. These are my insect friends." And we see the insects starting to crawl on Guillaume's body, who is shocked when he sees them, but he remains standing in place. Min continues and asks, "What do you think, Guillaume? Do you like them? What is this? Why is there no reaction? Even butterflies used to scare him before. Is he really trying to control himself?" And we see Guillaume holding back as the insects crawl on his body, and the men outside are talking. How? He's holding it together until now and isn't crying. One of them says, "Min, are you sure about this? This man went to prison for a murder charge." Min says to them, "You're saying murder? So what?" The man says to him, "Seriously, you're a crazy person." Min replies, "Wait for me, I'm just getting started." And now we'll hear him screaming, and it will be as if his vocal cords are being torn apart. At that moment, our hero enters among them and says, "How?" Those present are startled by the way he entered, and our hero continues, "Regarding the screaming you're talking about, how exactly are you going to make him do that?" And our hero grabs one of them by the neck and presses on his shoulder, knocking him to the ground. Of course, this man screams very loudly, so another one attacks our hero and says to him, "What do you think you're doing, you animal?" But here our hero Young kicks him in the face, sending him flying and hitting the locker and says, "Or are you going to make him scream like this?" Min and the large man are standing shocked as they watch what's happening. And here our hero calls out to Gyum and says to him, I told you I'd return the favor, right? Now we're even. Our hero stands in front of Min and cracks his knuckles. And we go back a bit in time to when our hero was in the cell, and one of his cellmates says, Where's Gyom? The one next to him replies. The workshop supervisor asks to meet him to ask about a few things. The first one asks, Is it possible at this late hour? And here, our hero stands up, goes toward the window, and calls out to the guard. So the guard looks at him and says, You again? His cellmates whisper if he's going to order pizza again. Or maybe this time he'll order chicken for them. So Young says, Open the door. His cellmates are shocked by the request. And the guard is surprised and says to him, What did you say? And we return to the workshop again. And our hero is standing next to the locker. And the large man says, You're Young, the one who's been causing trouble lately. Min looks toward our hero, smiles, and says to him, I wasn't sure when I saw Gyom and his reaction, but now I understand. You two are close to each other, aren't you? It must be great, Guillaume, to have great friends you can rely on. I wish I had a friend like him. The large man approaches our hero and says to him, Young, you're very loyal. I like that kind of talk. How about you be my friend? He raises his hand to strike our hero, but our hero kicks him, grabs him by the neck, and flips him onto his head. He replies, You want me to be your friend? I'd rather die than be your friend. And you, Blondie? Why are you doing this? You've gone too far, by the way. Min says to him, I've gone too far? Are you kidding me? Because of that traitor in the locker, I've lived a life of pain and misery. He pretended to be my only friend since childhood, but he didn't care about me. He was sneaky and betrayed me, dragging me down to finish me off like a snake. So I'm warning you, as long as you're with Ji-Yoom, only turn your back to a wall. At that moment, the giant stands behind our hero, grabs his neck, and says, Think you can beat me easily? Everything was planned up to this very moment. Min tells him, Crush his head and let's be done with him. The giant asks, What do you think now? Want to be my friend? Of course, our hero is struggling against the giant's strength, thinking his arm is incredibly strong. This is no joke, and he can't escape his grip like this. But at the same time, he knows he'll break his finger, so he can't use it again. Our hero grabs the giant's finger, but then Min runs over and stabs him in the stomach, saying he's scored a point. The giant replies, Min, you really are a great friend. Then the giant tightens his grip on our hero's neck, who feels like he can't breathe. At that moment, Ji-Yoom says, Don't move or your head's coming off. He's put a chain around the giant's neck, who's shocked to see him and wonders when he got out of the locker. Remember when our hero knocked one of the men toward the locker? Then our hero moves and strikes Min in the face, knocking him to the ground. Afterward, he catches his breath and says, I was about to suffocate. Ji-Yoom is tightening the chain on the giant, who says, You have no chance against my strength. The giant starts moving forward and Min says, That's it, keep going forward. Ji-Yoom says, I told you if you move and I pull hard, your head will pop. We see him stepping on the opponent's neck with his foot on his head, and the giant is unable to catch his breath. Ji-Yoom continues, calm down or you'll die. Then the giant loses consciousness, so Ji-Yoom lets go and he falls to the ground. Ji-Yoom catches his breath as our hero stands before him. Ji-Yoom looks toward Min and approaches him. So Min says, Wait a second, I'm the victim here. All of this was your fault. I was just defending myself. I didn't do anything wrong. As soon as Ji-Yoom stands before him, Min falls to the ground, kneels, and says, I'm sorry. Forgive me, Ji-Yoom. I didn't know how I'd do this. You know me, right? I've always been a failure and stupid. Just consider this a mistake by a fool. Please, just this once. He replies, You're wrong. I never thought of you that way at all. You're a victim of your own selfish mindset. You ruined my life and I couldn't change a thing. I've finished off 7 people and I'm thinking of doing the same to you. But seeing you now, I understand. I don't hate you that much because we were friends. Ji-Yoom leaves him and walks away. So Min sits remembering when he and Ji-Yoom were young, thinking to himself, This is nonsense. And you, Ji-Yoom, are just a curse. Just wait and see what I'll do. But before he can finish his thought, our hero jumps and hits him in the head, flipping him to the ground where Min lies motionless. Then our hero says, Now we can say we're even. Gayum is surprised by our hero's reaction and recalls when they were alone in the cell. Young says, Anyway, I wanted to ask you something. Are you stupid? Guillaume is surprised and asks him, What are you talking about? Young continues, You finished off 7 people and now you're afraid of a tiny insect. So Guillaume tells him that he wasn't afraid. Our hero replies, I know, but I don't know what kind of bad history was between you two. But at least you're not considered a despicable enemy. We go back to the workshop and our hero is holding his wound and asks Guillaume, Are you still here? Guillaume replies, Young, thank you. Our hero asks him, Why are you talking like that? Suddenly they hear someone's voice. So our hero looks behind him and finds a man standing next to him saying, Min, you! Why did you leave the cell without my permission? Do you know how scared I was? There was a cockroach there and no one was around to catch it. I was absolutely terrified. Of course, this person grabs Min and keeps punching him in the face in a terrifying way. After completely mangling his face, he stands up, wipes the blood off his own face, and says, "My face is covered in blood. I don't like getting dirty like this." There are germs everywhere. He approaches our hero, grabs his t-shirt, and wipes his face with it. Our hero stands there, shocked by what he's doing. Then the man looks at our hero and asks him, "What's the situation now? Is my face clean now?" Our hero replies, "No, it's very filthy." The man says to him, "What did you say?" "I'm filthy?" And he raises his hand to strike our hero. But at that moment, the workshop supervisor enters and shouts, "If you finished your work, everyone get back to your cell immediately. What do you think you're doing?" The man leans in close to the number on our hero's t-shirt and keeps repeating the number over and over. The next day in the yard, our hero is sitting and asks, "Why are you all gathered around me like this?" "We're not in the cell right now." One of them, whose name is Namin, replies, "Why are you asking?" "It's because of you, Yong." There's a group standing nearby talking about our hero, saying he's the one who broke the other boy's hand. Namin continues, "Rumors say you're insanely strong, and since you're here, no one dares to come near us to pick a fight." Yong replies, "Do whatever you want, just don't annoy me." Of course, our hero is thinking that there are things he must do, which is to look for people with the dragon tattoo surrounded by red flowers. He looks around, wondering where the members of this cursed organization could be. So Namin asks him what he's looking for. Our hero replies, "I'm looking for something." Namin continues and says, "Tell me what it is and I'll find it for you." "You know, people call me an information hacker." Young answers, "I'm looking for a tattoo, a filthy tattoo." Time passes and we see our hero and his cellmates watching television. The announcer says, "Juvenile crime has begun to increase. These groups form gangs to steal money and valuables, and acts of violence and serious crimes are rising among students." And here our hero says, "Those criminal dogs should be thrown in prison for 100 years until they rot." His cellmates look at him, very surprised why he's saying this. He replies, "Not everyone who goes to prison is bad, and you know that." Then Namin, standing to the side, says, "How about I tell you my story and what brought me here? Once, there was a legendary place that made teokbokki. It was in our neighborhood, and I used to buy rice cakes there. The sauce was on a whole other level. But one day, the local congressman's son came by. He was a wild, reckless kid who acted like a thug because of his father's influence. That day, he entered the shop and ordered food with his men standing around him. Since he didn't like the dish, he grabbed a stick and started beating people with his men, and they trashed the whole place. At that moment, I stepped in and stopped him, ending the fight between us after I beat them all up and became the hero who protects this restaurant. But that lowlife used his father's connections and threw me here in prison. But I don't regret a thing." So one of the guys there says he's back to talking his nonsense again. "Young, do you know what Namin's nickname is? He lies so much that they used to call him the Deceptive Sieve. He even got beaten for lying when he was in the old cell, and he's still lying even now." Namin replies, "What are you talking about? Everything I just said actually happened." One of them says, "Yeah, your imagination is still working overtime." "There's no way I'm believing that." Then our hero says, "Actually, it doesn't look like he's lying." Namin is shocked when he hears our hero's words and thinks about how there are two types of insects, aphids and ants, since the aphid gives the ant sugar and the ant protects the aphid. This is somewhat similar to the relationship with bullies, meaning a manipulative person who prefers to stay close to the bullies. And that was the life he lived in that way. That's why Namin sees that the real leader of the cell is Yong. He feels like he's impressed by his intelligence, and that if he becomes his right-hand man, his time in prison will be easy and he'll be able to live a pleasant life. Here we see him working in agriculture at the prison farm, laughing as he thinks these thoughts. Suddenly, the crazy man who hates filth comes along, approaches him, and says while putting his hand on his face, "What's this? Is there filth on my face?" Namin is shocked when he sees him and remembers when he was in the cell with him. Back then, that madman hit him and said, "I'm dirty now, and I'm going to clean your filthy mouth with my own hand." And we go back to the farm again. The madman says while scratching his face, "Insects and bacteria on my face." Namin is startled and says to himself, "This crazy devil with OCD. Why is he here?" He replies to the man, "I'm sorry. I'm so stupid for not looking behind me." The man asks him in a terrifying way, "Is my face clean now?" He answers him, "Yes, of course, it's very clean." He knows that if he tells him it's dirty, his day won't end well. And here, the man raises the pesticide sprayer and says to him, "Really? I'll forgive you this time." And he sprays the pesticide on Namin's face, who screams from the pain and burning in his face as the pesticide gets into his eyes. The man continues, "Honestly, I want to ask you for something. Number 7199. You're in the same cell as him. Namin sits on the ground and remembers that the owner of that number is Yong. The man says, that guy said my face was dirty. I mean, after all the suffering I went through to make it clean, and you know about that, don't you? So you have to do what I tell you. Purification. And he gives the sprayer to Namin, and a dragon tattoo appears on the man's chest. A little later, our hero is training in the cell, thinking about where the organization members with the dragon tattoos are. He wants to see one of them. But at that moment, Namin walks in and says, this exercise works the back and chest muscles and is considered an art. You must have been very tired before you came here. Here, drink some grape juice and finish your workout. You need to take glucose after every workout. Our hero stands up, takes the cup from him, and thanks him. He looks at it and says to him, hey kid, who gave you the stuff in this cup? We go back in time a bit to when Namin was in his old cell and his cellmates were holding him down. The crazy guy, the cell leader, says to him, how could you do this? Because of your lies. My face is now filthy, and your mouth that speaks such filth must be cleaned. That's why it needs to be purified. He opens a bottle of bleach and pours it into Namin's mouth, who gets poisoned and faints. The crazy guy sits there asking himself, what should I do now? This situation has turned bad. The floor has become so dirty. Of course, this cell, everyone, was nothing but a living hell for Namin. We return to our hero's cell after he asked him about the thing he brought him. Namin answers, no one brought it for me. I bought it with my own money, of course. His cellmates gather around him, and one of them says, you're acting suspicious. Don't tell me you've put contraband or something like that in there. I think you should drink from it first. Our hero replies, why are you giving me this all of a sudden? Namin is terrified, wondering if our hero has started to suspect him. But this is normal because our hero heard from his cellmates that Namin deceives people. It's just his nature. Suddenly, our hero puts the cup to his mouth, drinks it, and says, it tastes good. Thank you. Don't forget, everyone, tomorrow is cleaning day, so everyone get ready. Namin is shocked and says to himself, what just happened? If I had known he'd drink it right away, I would have put the pesticide in the juice. But then he remembers when our hero said he doesn't lie, and he feels like he was about to make a huge mistake. Time passes, night falls, and we see a hero drawing a picture of a dragon in his notebook. Namin approaches him and says, you draw really well. What are you drawing? Our hero tells him he's drawing a dragon surrounded by red roses. Of course, Namin tries to get close to our hero so it won't look later like he was the one who poisoned his drink. He decides he wants to analyze his psyche to find a way to give him the pesticide without anyone knowing. Here, Young continues, I want to see all the dogs who have that tattoo. Do you have something you want to say? Namin replies, to be honest, I've been curious for a while. Young, why do you trust me so much? I mean, you should be suspicious of liars like me at first. Because trusting people so recklessly like that will get you into trouble. Of course, Namin is surprised by what he's saying. So Young replies, since you're good at deceiving people, that means you're smart. And a smart man wouldn't want me as an enemy over a stupid lie. Guys, I'm turning off the lights. Everyone needs to go to sleep. Namin keeps staring at him. Then he looks at the drawing and says, a smart man just like you said. The next day, we see the guards standing in the hallway, and one of them says, they said the Ministry of Justice is coming to inspect today. I want you all to clean thoroughly. The prisoners cleaning the hallway all reply, yes, sir. We go to the bathrooms and see Namin standing there, terrified. The crazy guy is standing in front of him saying, you said you'd do it. You promised me you'd purify him. And now you're backing out. Namin thinks to himself that he shouldn't have said that to the crazy guy. He answers, I asked Young, and he's very sorry for calling you, that word. He's a bit introverted, so he asked me to apologize to you. The man gets angry and says to him, you're lying again. Haven't you had enough of lying? And he punches him in the stomach. Namin hits the wall and falls in front of the crazy guy, who continues, I cannot forgive. 7,199. I can't forgive him. And I won't forgive you either. He hits him while he's on the ground in the face and steps on his head. He says, well, in that case, I'll have to purify you myself. He opens the bleach bottle while stepping on Namin's head, who is slumped over the toilet. Water is pouring over his head, and he's struggling to say, help me. With his head underwater and unable to breathe, he feels like he's dying. At that moment, our hero, Young, enters the bathroom and says, what are you doing in the bathroom, you filthy man? Did you hear me? You are very filthy. The crazy man looks at him, wide-eyed and in total shock. Namin tries to call out to our hero, saying, why did you take so long? Let's go back a bit before this. Our hero was working in the hallway cleaning up. At that moment, Namin approached him and said he had something to report. So our hero asked him what that thing was. Namin answered him, someone threatened me and said I must make you drink this pesticide. But I was born a man and I can't betray a friend who is close to me. I don't care about any threats, even if the outcome is terrible. I'm going to go and refuse right now. Of course, he opens the pesticide bottle and throws it on the ground. He leaves our hero and walks away, but then stops and continues. I forgot to tell you that the dragon tattoo I drew, I think it was on the body of the man who threatened me. Our hero is shocked as soon as he hears this information. And of course, Namin intended to tell him those words. This is because our hero considers him to be smart. Now we go back to the bathroom. Our hero responds to Namin saying to him, "Look how dirty my hand has become. But you know, being smart is a cursed problem." Our hero approaches the man and wipes his hand on his clothes. The man goes crazy and says, "You germ-filled animal, you 7,199. I'll finish you off, cut you into pieces, and dissolve every part of your body." But here our hero grabs him by his shirt, lifts him up, and throws him to the ground. He says, "You're really annoying, aren't you? And you send someone you're threatening just to finish me off. But I'm very lucky, and now I'll hit you without feeling any guilt." Of course, our hero wants to hit him because this man has a dragon tattoo on his body. The truth is, folks, there was once a rising star in martial arts with very unique moves. This star was able to grab his opponent by the body and squeeze him. Because of this move, he could stop the opponent from moving his hands so much that he couldn't surrender or escape. But the opponent couldn't take it and vomited on him. Since that day, no one has ever seen that move performed again. You see, the rising star who did those dirty moves had a serious weakness for a wrestler, germophobia. We return to the bathroom where our hero is sitting on top of the man, that same rising star. He says, "Hey, you obsessed kid, are you just going to lie there and do nothing? Tell me about this dragon story." The man replies, "The floor is filthy, it's full of germs. My body is touching it. What is this filth?" He tries to get up, but our hero hits him in the face, knocking him back down, and continues, "Are you worried about this story?" Namin is hiding behind the door, watching everything that's happening. He thinks our hero is hitting the man like he's swatting a fly, and he's glad to be on his side. The man replies, 7,199. I will finish you. Young says, "It seems you don't understand. I don't like this situation either because it's very disgusting. But I think I have to use the shock therapy method. Open your mouth and say, ah." Our hero puts his hand in the toilet water and brings it near the man's mouth, who is shocked. He remembers a time when he finished training, all sweaty and wanted to shower quickly, so he opened his locker. And right then, trash falls out of the locker onto the floor. The man screams at the top of his lungs, "This is trash!" Then a man appears behind him, grabs him, slams him down, and says, "Remember me, you animal? They said you have a germ phobia and that you can't control yourself at all because of it. And since you can't get out of this situation, then it must be true. Do you know the humiliation I felt after what happened in the ring, you piece of trash? Open your mouth, kid. I'm going to shove my hand down your throat." The wrestler who returned picks up a piece of trash from the floor and is about to put it in his mouth. But then the man gets angry and says, "No, this is filthy, and it'll make me filthy too." I won't let him. I'll keep hitting him until his whole stomach is knocked out of place. We see him saying this to our hero, and he actually manages to grab his hands, lift them up, and flip him. Then the man locks his legs around our hero's waist, who can't seem to take it anymore. The man leans in close and says, "Now, I'm going to keep squeezing you until you explode." And indeed, our hero is struggling to endure it. Namin looks out from the bathroom where he's hiding and thinks to himself, should I help him? But if things keep going like this, but before he can finish, he hears our hero say with difficulty, "This reminds me of the old days." And of course, everyone, we know that our hero's father used to always choke and beat him. This happened every single day, with or without a reason. Because of this, our hero learned to fight, as his father choked him so hard he almost broke his bones. And here, our hero Young continues, "Seriously, this memory is disgusting." He twists his arms, escapes, grabs him, and pins him down. He pulls him to the ground and says, "But really, thanks for that memory. I'm used to fighting with my hands while I'm on the ground. And you know, I'm also annoyed, and I really need to use the bathroom." Our hero twists the man's arms, pulling harder while pinning him with his legs, and continues, "So, who's going to explode first? Me or your spine snapping in half?" He presses even harder. A crack sounds from the man's back, and he screams out loud. The man taps our hero's body, and our hero is surprised, asking, "Are you tapping out to surrender? But you know, nobody ever taught me about that." The man looks at him in shock, not knowing what to do next. We return to the prison hallway where the inmates are busy cleaning. In the bathroom, the man is tied up. Namin puts a funnel in his mouth and says, "Stay still, Young. This idiot is still resisting. Why is it so hard for him to understand what we're saying? Aren't we all around the same age? It seems shock therapy is the only solution and we have to do it." Our hero puts his hand to his head, sighs, then reaches for his pants and says, "I really didn't want to. But of all the things I could do, this is the one with the strongest shock value." Our hero stands before the man, preparing to relieve himself into his mouth. Namin grabs the man by his head and tells him, "Open your mouth and say, ah." Our hero says, "I wonder what it tastes like." And the man screams, but he can't do anything. And after a while, Namin removes the funnel from the man's mouth and tells him, "Now we can communicate well." Young continued, now you'll be able to talk and answer my questions. Tell me everything you know about the dragon organization. The man starts telling everything he knows and tells them that when he was getting the tattoo on his body, there was a girl who was tattooing him. She told him this tattoo is done using a needle that we put under the skin and inject the ink. Look, rookie, I heard you have a phobia of germs, so don't worry, this needle is sterile, and I'll draw a very beautiful tattoo for you, which is the dragon with the red rose. Do you know the reason why a huge organization accepts youngsters like you? Because the dragon represents strength and durability, and the rose symbolizes vitality and life. But it doesn't matter how beautiful the roses are when they bloom, because in the end, they will wither and fall to the ground. As for the dragon, it looks for the seeds that will grow and become the new generation. The youngsters and rookies have potential that the adults don't have, because they depend on the environment and the experiences they go through, and they can grow in a great way. We discover these talents early, and we take very good care of them, and we plant them inside an organized garden. Then the seeds will grow this way and bloom and become beautiful roses for the dragon. And we go back to the bathroom, and the man says, this is all I know. I'm just a low-ranking member in the organization. Please let me go now. Our hero thought that this is the reason why his father gave him all this terrible training since he was young, to make him a rose that blooms early and also bloom quickly before anyone else. Namin approaches and calls out to our hero, but the man continues speaking. But why are you asking about the organization? Is it possible you want to join the dragon organization too? 7,199? Are you daring to challenge the dragon organization? Or maybe that's the reason why you're being so easy on me. If you join the organization through me, I can put in a good word for you. Our hero smiles and grabs him by the neck, startling the man who says, why are you doing this all of a sudden? I told you everything. Our hero replies while hitting him, shut up, man. I've run out of patience. Now we go to the hallway and see the prisoners still cleaning. And our hero has gone back to cleaning with them, and the area he's cleaning needs some bleach. He looks back to find Namin bringing him a bottle of bleach, bowing before him and saying, here you go, young. So our hero asks him what's up. He replies, thank you for finishing off that crazy animal with the phobia. I think I can sleep in peace now. Our hero answers, I didn't finish him off. Besides, when you were in the last cell, he was torturing you with this bleach. Usually those tortured with bleach die, right? But you stayed alive. Namin gets flustered and says, no. Those who are subjected to bleach torture have foam coming out of their mouths. That's why I tricked them and put soap and water instead of bleach. Honestly, I lied about that because I wanted to go to another cell and had everything ready from the start. Because the idea of that man being crazy or getting angry was honestly terrifying. Our hero is shocked by his words and says, anyway, no need to thank me because you helped me find the tattoo. Namin continued, yes, you told me you were looking for the tattoo, but I found out that this tattoo belongs to a terrifying organization called the Dragon. Why are you looking for information related to it? Young replies, I'm going to finish them all off. And now I've finished off too. And very soon, I'll be able to find the rest. Namin tells him, there are many people in the juvenile prison and many of them have tattoos. But there's something special about these people. Our hero thinks for a bit and says, so these two were the cell leaders. In that case, we must look for the leaders in every cell. Namin replies, there's no need to do that. Next week, there will be a meeting between all the leaders because it's the day of the leaders gathering. Our hero is surprised by this name, and Namin continues, you don't know about this day. Every 3 months, the leaders gather in a wing to strengthen their relationships, but the real reason is the things that happen inside the prison and the illegal activities. And this meeting is known as the criminal gang meeting. And if you go there and gather with all the cell leaders, you must be very careful. So our hero asks him why. So he says to him, you haven't forgotten, right? These young criminals are from every country and are gathered here. And also, one of them is considered the most dangerous. So don't go to this meeting. A week later, we see the leaders gathered in the wing, and one of them, with white hair, says, the Kid-chan and the OCD animal were defeated, weren't they? I heard that the person who did that to them is someone named Young. Now I'm very curious to know him. Another one replies that he's also curious to know him. The third says, we must teach him a lesson. Let's beat him like a dog. A huge guy holding a book smiles and says, please, brother, control your anger. Let peace prevail. At that moment, the door opens and our hero enters, grabbing the shovel next to the door and saying, it turned out to be very easy to see you guys, because I went through all this trouble for nothing. Here, our hero breaks the shovel and jumps quickly among them, reaching one of them and pointing the broken stick at him. And of course, everyone present is shocked by what just happened. So our hero says, what are the men's seeds doing here? I'm going to deal with all of you right here. We go back a bit in time, where the prisoners are working on an excavation near the prison. Our hero and Ji-yoom are sitting together with Namin, who says, Ji-yoom, today is our friend Young's day because he's going to the leaders' meeting. Say something to encourage him. Ji-yoom is surprised and asks about what Namin is saying, and our hero replies, I don't have any knowledge of the details. Namin laughs and continues, all right, let me explain the situation to you. This leaders' meeting is a gathering where information is exchanged between the leaders. And of course, it's directly approved by the prison warden. I'm sure you've seen this kind of thing in movies. But these aren't just ordinary thugs. I've heard they're like massive criminal organizations. Ji-yoom looks toward our hero and says, I hope you have a good meeting and take care of yourself. Namin is shocked and says, is that all you could say? Speak from the heart. Anyway, the place is dangerous with very dangerous people, and there's no way out, so don't cause trouble no matter what. We return to the leaders' meeting, and the man our hero is threatening speaks. What did you say about the seeds? Young replies, I'm going to clean up all these filthy seeds. What are you doing? Come on, stand up and face me. Of course, everyone. This man has a dragon tattoo on his neck. He looks at our hero and replies, no thanks, I'm not interested. Our hero is surprised by his coldness, and the man continues, a cell leader can use violence, but under the pretext of maintaining order, and it seems from your actions that you're relying on that method. But it seems you've missed the most important part. In the recent fights where you faced the three leaders, you crushed them all. And there might be reasons that justify accepting those fights. And that's usually referred to as a justification. Do you understand me? I mean, a fight between us now would have no benefit or reason for me, so I have no justification or answer for your request and question. Nevertheless, if you insist on acting recklessly with your hands and violating prison rules, then the other leaders from the other cells won't let you leave here alive. So, are you still thinking of stabbing me with what's in your hand? Our hero thinks that if he acts recklessly, he'll indeed become a target for the other leaders, and that's exactly what he expected. If he makes everyone turn against him in prison, his chance of getting out safely will be very slim, not to mention the idea of controlling the place, which would be ruined. He realizes afterward that this approach was reckless, but he had to try to be sure about it. The man stands up, approaches him, and says, So, are you done with this embarrassing farce? You weren't planning on stabbing me from the start, were you? It's clear from your actions that you're an enemy of the Dragon organization, but don't you know your place? It's truly disappointing. He then walks away, leaving our hero behind. At that moment, the meeting begins, and a man wearing glasses and carrying a notebook enters saying, All right, let's start the leaders' meeting. First of all, unfortunately, some people didn't show up for the meeting, namely Sung, Chan, and Jeon, and all three of them have serious injuries. The large man says, That's truly unfortunate. The man with glasses continues, and the cause of all these incidents is Young, the new leader of cell number 36. One of the leaders asks, So this is the person the rumors are talking about? He looks decent enough? I wonder which gang he belongs to. Our hero looks around and sees that there are 15 leaders gathered here. At first glance, he doesn't see anyone with a dragon tattoo except for one person, the one who attacked him as soon as he entered the wing. And here the guy with glasses approaches him and says, Young, do you have anything to say as the new cell leader? Young replies, What's the big deal about being a cell leader? I want to see what it actually means to be a leader. One of the leaders gets angry and says, This filthy guy is so rude. The guy with glasses continues, Okay, let's talk about the second topic. The sources of income managed by the cell leaders inside the prison, known as the shops. A portion of the profits from these shops is handed over to the prison warden. But there's one person who hasn't paid the required amount for this quarter. And that's Juan, the owner of the gambling shop. Juan, the one with the dragon tattoo, replies, It seems there was a mistake regarding my portion. I'll make sure it's delivered by the end of the day today. The guy with glasses thanks him. Then, the white-haired man approaches Juan and says, By the way, there's a strange rumor going around that all the high-stakes games in the gambling shop, which are supposed to be based on trust and fairness, are actually a scam. Juan replies, Everyone knows what would happen if I were caught doing that. I would never do such a thing. And if it turns out there's a scam happening in the gambling shop, then you can have my head. They then continue talking about the rest of their business dealings. Time passes and the meeting concludes. We then head over to the gambling shop, where people are busy playing. This shop, everyone, is located in the vocational training center for car maintenance. We see a guy named Yoon Ho, a dealer at the shop, saying, Is this your first time at the gambling shop? The games here are simpler than in regular shops, and each table has a different game. But since it's your first time, I recommend the easiest one, which is dice. You'll find it quite fun. Our hero, sitting across from him, replies, Really? So, maybe I could try a round of dice? Of course, he thinks this game isn't fun at all, and at that moment he remembers Juan telling him he'd be the one getting hurt if he tried to stab him. But those words had the opposite meaning. especially since Juan said if there was a scam in his shop, they'd have the right to take his head. This means our hero needs a justification to crush Juan or take his head. And with just that justification, our hero can do anything. Here, he slams the dice on the ground with his hand. Yunho is shocked and asks, "What are you doing now?" Young says to him, "Don't you see? There's a magnet inside this die, you scumbag. This is a scam." The truth is, everyone, this is supposed to be a juvenile detention center whose mission is to rehabilitate young criminals so they can become good members of society. That's how it appears to the outside world. But since Seyok took over as warden, the place has turned into a crime hub because of the income sources managed by the cell leaders, known as the shops, inside the prison. A portion of these profits goes to Seok, and in return, the cell leaders gain far more privileges and freedoms than the other inmates. No one imagined there would be a criminal syndicate inside a juvenile prison. And of course, one of those shops is the gambling shop. We see someone playing, and he says, "There's a way you can keep going. We can lend you money, but you have to provide us with collateral." He pulls out a paper for him to sign as a promissory note and smiles in his face. The young man replies, "Why are you telling me this now?" Of course, everyone, all the young men who enter this gambling shop get addicted immediately. We return to our hero after he's thrown the die and claimed there's a magnet and that there's scammers. People start looking his way and Yunho replies, "A scam? What are you talking about?" Our hero picks up the rest of the die, pulls out a metal ball from inside and says, "There's a magnet inside the die. That's how you're able to manipulate the outcome." And this is where people start talking, wondering if the gambling den is cheating them. Our hero continues, "Do you think I'm saying something wrong? The magnet is right here in my hand, and when you throw the dice, the number you want appears, right?" Yunho replies, "That's not true. This ball is just a weight to balance the dice and keep it centered using gravity. And what I have in my hand is the magnet. Bring the ball close to the magnet." And indeed, our hero brings the ball close to it. But when he lets go, it falls to the ground. Yunho continues, "If the ball were a magnet, it would have stuck immediately, right? But it fell, as you can see. And look, this is a real magnet. But the ball isn't." Of course, Yuno has some pins that he sticks to the magnet. And here, people are saying, our hero made all this fuss for nothing, maybe because he lost money. So Yuno smiles and says, "Okay, now how about we start the game over?" Juan notices our hero is there, and our hero actually plays. After a short while, we see Yunho smiling and saying, "Great, you're very fast. You've lost all your money." Our hero, with his hand on his head, thinks he's sure there's a 50% chance of winning, and he wonders if he just has no luck. Then Yunho asks him again if he's gone broke. Young answers, "Just a second. I had a bill here or somewhere." Yunho tells him, "But you play hard for a beginner." Suddenly, someone comes out shouting, "This is a scam. You guys are a bunch of scammers. Do you think you can fool me that easily?" Our hero looks toward the shouting young man and sees him holding a screwdriver, waving it in people's faces, and he continues, "This game doesn't count and I'm not giving you my money." At this point, Juan approaches him, grabs the hand holding the screwdriver, and makes him drop it. And he says to him, "You were happy when you were winning. And after you lost, you start making these scenes. It seems like you have a lot of problems." Then he punches him in the face, grabs him by the head, pins him against a car, and says, "You say this is a scam. Well, do you have proof?" The young man replies, "This probability doesn't add up." Juan continues, "So you're saying it's just a feeling? If you're going to make this fuss without any evidence, we'll have a problem because you're distracting the others." The young man apologizes, and Juan lets him go, saying, "I did that for the safety of the others. So please be generous and forgive me. And now you can continue and enjoy the game." Listen up, guys. Many of you are new here, so play well if this bothers you. One laughs afterward, while our hero keeps watching him. After a while, our hero returns to the cell and sits with his cellmates. Namin asks him, "Yong, how's the gambling den?" He replies, "I lost all my money and couldn't find any proof they're cheating." "What did you guys do?" Namin tells him, "We managed to steal their cards. You were acting great and everyone was looking at you, so stealing them was really easy. So what do you think of my plan?" "Genius, isn't it?" Our hero tells him. "That was really embarrassing. Anyway, if they're scamming people, we must find something on these cards." We go back to the gambling den, where a car is running and its wheels are spinning. A dealer who works at the den has his head near the wheel and is screaming loudly, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." Juan, who is holding the dealer's head under the wheel, replies, "The gambling den is a place for scams, and people like you are the reason these meaningless rumors spread. And as you can see, I'm in trouble." He presses his face against the wheel, and the dealer starts screaming even more. Then Juan leaves him lying on the ground. Yunho approaches him and says, "I am sorry for letting Young cause such a scene in my place." Juan takes the towel from him and replies, "It's no problem. It's not your fault. Don't worry. Keep working and give it your best for the gambling den." Yunho agrees immediately. After Juan wipes the blood off his hand, he says, "That boy named Young, I don't know why, but he clearly has a deep grudge against the Dragon organization, of which I am a member. I don't care if he's looking into me, but I can't let him cause trouble for me in the gambling den. And if he causes trouble again, I'll have his head." We return to our hero's cell, and here Namin says, "That's it, I found it." Yom asks him what he saw. Namin points to the card and says, "Look here on the back. In the regular circular pattern, there are 2 circles of different sizes. This is marked. You can tell what the card is from the back." Guillaume replies, "That means they were actually cheating." Our hero takes the card from him, looks at it, and says to himself, "Now I've found my justification. By the way, everyone, I wanted to tell you that today's episode's password is Juan." Time passes, and we see a man named Gong leaving prison. Someone is waiting for him at the gate, holding a bag and waving, saying, "Congratulations on your release." Gong is surprised and asks who he is. The man replies after putting his hand on his shoulder, "Take this tofu to celebrate." "You were happy inside, right?" Gong is puzzled and asks him, "Happy how? Were you on a trip or something?" The man continues, "Oh, stop it. You were gambling and having a great time, weren't you? Look, are you going to keep pretending to me that you didn't do anything in there? The truth is, everyone, this Gong is the same guy who signed the promissory note or the guarantee." Indeed, the man pulls out the receipt and says to him, "Here is the guarantee you signed, which is your consent to sell your body organs. You are 174 centimeters tall and weigh 64 kilograms. You don't drink alcohol or smoke, and you don't have any serious illnesses. Your health is excellent, you're in top shape. And more importantly, your blood type is O. I've been waiting for you for a very long time." They take the man toward a van with 2 nurses inside and throw him in. Time passes and we return to the prison where this man is visiting Juan, saying, "They are all so active and full of life. That's why their organs are truly fresh. The business has become very successful. Look, I even have a new tooth, and it's all thanks to you, Juan." Juan laughs and says, "It's nothing. We're not doing anything difficult." Of course, everyone to the organization, Juan is an organ trafficking agent sentenced to 2.5 years. And we all know he runs the gambling den in the prison. The man continues, "But how much longer do you want to keep doing this? Because someone might follow this story and look into you. And if the prison warden leaves, he might pin everything on you. Then all the responsibility will be on you alone." Juan answers, "Even if the worst case scenario happens, it's fine, because there's no problem in the world that can't be solved with money." We return to our hero's cell as he looks at the card and says, "The difference is very small. I understand why no one has been able to notice it until now." Namin says, "See, Guillaume, even Sherlock Holmes wouldn't have been able to spot the difference. I have hawk eyes, and you know I found the difference." "But this whole thing scared me." Young continues, "Now I have the sword with which I'll take Juan's head. And tonight we're going to gamble." And indeed, we see our hero entering the place, and people are sitting there playing. Of course, our hero's mission is simple. Just sit and play at the card table, and in a bit, in front of everyone, he'll reveal how they're scamming them. Indeed, Yun-ho is at the card table and says, "Yong, you're back?" Our hero approaches the table and asks, "This is the card table, right?" Yun-ho tells him he's right and asks him to have a seat. As soon as our hero sits, Juan calls out to him and says, "Welcome! I've been waiting for you. How about you and I play a round?" Our hero is surprised to see Juan sitting at the table, who continues, "I'm curious to know why you want to reach the Dragon organization." Our hero thinks, why does he want to face him? What is he hiding? He answered, "I won't share my personal business with you." Our hero replies, "Fine, if you can win, I have no problem." People gather around the table, surprised that the manager is playing around himself, and that this is the first time they've seen him play. And here Juan says, "You can choose the game." Young replies, "I tried the dice game, and I'm thinking of trying cards, since I haven't tried them before." Yunho puts the cards on the table and says, "Well, in that case, how about a beginner's game anyone can enjoy, which is matching pairs? This game is very simple. You just have to flip the card and try to match as many as possible. And if you get 2 cards that look alike, your turn continues. But if you make a mistake, it's your opponent's turn. Most importantly, remember the locations of the cards you've seen." Our hero agrees to this game, thinking that since they know the marks on the cards, there's no way they can lose this game. And if he didn't know about the mark on the card, he would also lose easily. Yunho spreads the cards on the table, and people are surprised by Yong, talking about him being the same person who wanted to finish off the remaining cell leaders. Guillaume and Namin are standing among the people, and Namin says, "Guillaume, do you see what's happening?" Our hero looks at the cards and sees the marks have disappeared. Namin continues, "Are the marks so small we can't see them?" Guillaume says to himself, "No, these cards don't have any marks." And here one smiles and says, "The pattern is beautiful on the cards, right?" because our gambling den uses very high quality cards, as you can see. And we also have many games for beginners. And since you find traditional games difficult, we can start with something simple and light, like Catch the Thief. Our hero realizes that Juan turned out to know they stole the cards. Yunho looks at him and asks if he's ready, and asks them to put down the money they'll play for. So Juan takes out a large amount of money and says, I'll start the round with this amount, since I don't play much, being the boss and all. And let's not make the game boring. What do you think? Our hero looks at Yunho and tells him he doesn't have money. Yunho replies, no problem, even if there's no money, you can play if you have collateral. All you have to do is sign here. Just check the price of the body part to know the amount you want to bet. Go ahead now. He takes out the organ collateral paper. Our hero looks at the paper in shock. People talk about hearing rumors about this story, but no one imagined it was real. They see it as madness because of what's happening inside the prison. And here Juan says, what's wrong? You're afraid. Guillaume thinks that there's surely a scam happening in this game too, and Young has no chance of winning. And it's good they found out about this before he placed the bet, and now he can back out of the game. But they're all shocked when they see our hero actually signing the paper and saying, I can play without money since I signed the collateral, right? Namin says, what is he doing? So GM tells him that he must have gone crazy. Our hero continues speaking. I could never say no to something like this. And from my head to my toes, I'm ready to risk everything. Juan agrees after our hero signs the collateral, and Namin and GM think they'll definitely cheat. But our hero has bet all of his body parts. They wonder what he could possibly be thinking. And here Yunho says, the first round will be yours, Young. Our hero reaches out and reveals the first card, and it's an 8. He reveals the next one, and it's a 9. So Yunho says that they're different. Juan replies that it's his turn. He reveals a card, and it's a 9, and he reveals the card our hero revealed last time. So our hero is shocked that he revealed a card on the first try that was just like one he'd revealed a moment ago. And so Juan wins the first point. Young says, looks like you're lucky from the start. I mean, as they say, gambling depends on luck and nothing else. Juan looks at him and says to himself, you say luck. It's not about luck at all. I know where every single one is. Exactly where every card in every match is. Because I figured out exactly where the dealer would put them and memorized their locations before we even started the game. And since there's no evidence and what I'm doing is very simple, it's the most perfect way to cheat. And you'll just sit there not knowing what's happening around you. And there's no way for you to win, and I'll take everything from you. Seriously, you turned out to be quite pathetic. And of course, Juan plays one and wins it and loses the next one. He goes back to play the one after that and wins and loses so as not to draw attention. He remembers himself when he was young, and back then his father asked him why he admired him. And Juan answered, why are you asking about something so obvious, Dad? Because you make a lot of money, of course. His father jokes with him. Oh, you rascal, is that what you say to your father as he's going to work? It seems I have no choice. I have to work with all my effort for my son's sake. Of course, to Juan, his father was the most trustworthy person in the world, or at least that's what he thought. And then he found out that his father wasn't going to the company every day, but was going to the casino instead and ended up with 50 million in debt to a moneylender. And because his father was stupid, he didn't know the truth that the game system was deceiving him. And he's not stupid like his father, and he believes he has to be the deceiver. And he says, it seems luck is on my side today. I can't believe I've collected all these pairs. One of those present says, Young hasn't been able to collect a single pair yet. His luck is not good at all, and it seems that at this moment the game is over. Tomorrow he'll cry like a baby when they remove all his organs. He won't even have eyes to cry with. And here Young says, do I have to show people now that this game is just a trick? Juan is surprised by his words, and our hero reveals a card, and it's the Queen. And he reveals the second one, and it's also the Queen. People are shocked and say that maybe luck has started to play with him, or it could be a coincidence, but he plays the second round and reveals 2 5s together. He continues, it seems luck is standing by me. Of course, people think he'll still need a lot of time to collect 16 pairs of cards, but he reveals the cards one after another, and they're all pairs and they're all correct. And he keeps collecting pairs and has almost reached the last few cards. And Juan is worried because only he and the dealer know the locations of the cards. He looks at the dealer in surprise. We go back in time and see the dealer tidying the rug he was playing on, and he finds a rolled up paper on the floor. He remembers our hero threw this paper after he ran out of money, so he opens it and finds a note to meet behind the toilets. The dealer Yunho actually goes to meet our hero and asks him why he wanted to meet. Young tells him, I know you guys have swapped the cards. Yunho is surprised and asks him what he means. At the same time, he realizes that he must be the one who stole the cards, but they have already replaced them all now. Young continues, you most likely swapped the cards, didn't you? And now the cards are new and have no markings on them. And that's the reason why I told you to come here. I'll get straight to the point. Look, I'll save you and those working in the gambling den. Everyone working for Juan owes him money, right? And they've surely signed over their organs as collateral. I'll pay off that debt for you, but you have to help me this time. Yunho is shocked when he hears this and says, "You're talking nonsense. If I side with you and something goes wrong, Juan will finish me off." Yong continues, "I heard that your debt is very large. Are you sure you can pay it off before you leave here? Because you only have 1 week left before you're released, and I'm willing to bet that as soon as you're out, you'll head straight to the operating table. Your task is simple, like a game of dice when everyone is watching. You'll tell the truth and say that these games are just a scam and a fraud." We return to the game again. Our hero says, "It seems my luck is good today, or my memory is good, since I memorized the position of all the cards. Alpha, beta, pons. And this is the plan that you and the dealer had prepared from the start." The people are surprised when they hear this. And here Yunho says, "That's correct. All the gambling games here involve fraud and scams, and I can show you all the tricks we use in every game." The people are shocked by what was said and start talking about whether they were really deceived and lost a lot of money because of it. Or if everything was a scam, then they must get their money back. One says, "Are you trying to say that my gambling den is scamming people? That's ridiculous. I could never do such a thing. You're calling me a scammer. What is this nonsense?" At that moment, our hero attacks him, punches him in the head, knocks him to the ground and says, "I think that's enough justification, isn't it? And as I said, when there's a justification, I'm going to take your head off now." Juan remembers when he was at home, and the man who lent his father money came, knocked on the door and said, "Open the door. You're running away from me now after you wasted all your money on gambling." Juan is shocked, looks at his father and says, "Dad, what gambling is this man talking about? Say something, Dad." His father is sitting on the floor like a child, sucking his thumb, and replies confusedly, I didn't do anything wrong. You said you love money and love seeing your dad make a lot of money." The truth is, because of the debts that piled up on Juan's father due to gambling, he fell into a state and became bedridden. And it stayed that way all the time. At that point, Juan realized that if he didn't have money, he wouldn't be able to protect his family. We return to our hero, who is holding the table and telling Juan he'll take his head off, and he actually throws it at Juan with all his strength. He looks where Juan was, but he's gone. He says, "Now you're running away." But suddenly Juan attacks from behind and replies, "I'm certainly not running away." He hits our hero, sending him flying, and our hero falls to the ground. Juan approaches Yunho and says, "You dealer, when you try to betray me, that's not enough. And now you've made me look like a fraud, so you're going to have to pay the price." He then grabs him by the neck and lifts him into the air. So Yunho replies, "Are you kidding me? What evidence do I have that proves you're a scammer?" Juan interrupts him and says, "Evidence? And where is this evidence you're talking about?" "Here." Yunho notices another dealer, a colleague, with the bag on his shoulder, about to leave the place. And Juan continues as he slams him to the ground. "The one who should be angry right now is me. So you think you can conspire with an outsider and slander this gambling den? Is this your big idea to pay off the debts you owe? Money always controls people." And here our hero attacks him and throws a punch. But Juan throws Yunho at our hero, and he falls. Juan quickly approaches both of them, raises his hand and says, "I don't want to criticize you, but I have no intention of forgiving you either." And Juan lands a terrible punch on Yunho's face, saying, "I didn't know he'd go down that fast." And here Young comes from behind and kicks him, saying, "Of course I won't go down that fast." We see Juan tumbling on the ground from the force of the blow, hitting the side of the car as money flies in the air. Our hero continues, "I don't want to run away, and I won't let anyone else run away." Juan remembers sitting next to his father. A man wearing a hat is sitting next to him and says, "It seems your father's condition hasn't improved yet." "I never imagined he'd reach this stage." Juan says to him, "Maybe it's because of the gambling den and the games they played that my father ended up like this. How much I was upset with him, but I'm sure he was carrying a heavy responsibility, because the debts he had from gambling were all paid off through gambling." Of course, when Juan's father was in bed, he understood then that a person without money cannot protect his family. The man in the hat replies, "If anyone heard this, they'd think your father made his own decision. You animal, you sold yourself to me of your own accord. That's why there's no point in raising a kid. But now you've paid what you owed me, so why do you want to take care of your father?" "Because of that family love they talk about." Juan looks at him and says, "Why? Does that make money?" Juan stands up again and says, "Don't worry, I'm not leaving without taking the money with me." He attacks our hero and throws a punch at his face. But our hero dodges and replies, "I was wondering why you keep talking about money. But you're clearly a failure at fighting, aren't you?" Of course, as our hero dodges the blow, he lands rapid punches on Juan, messing up his face. Juan continues, Is fighting really that important? Our hero is very surprised by him. Juan steps back and kicks our hero in the chest, knocking the wind out of him. Then Juan delivers a very powerful punch that sends him flying until he hits the car's windshield. He says, "People like you end up working for me and paying off their debts. Do you really think fighting is the most important thing?" Our hero doesn't respond, and we see half his body through the car's windshield. One of the bystanders says, "Look, guys, he's acting with incredible power while talking." The one next to him replies, "Is the other kid dead?" Namin is worried about our hero and wonders what happened to him. Then Juan says to them, "I'm sorry, everyone, for the disturbance I caused. As you saw, this was a small incident with a customer. There are no issues with our games, and we'll reorganize everything soon." But suddenly he hears our hero's voice saying, "It seems I was wrong. As I said, your gambling shop doesn't rig games, and there's no reason for me to finish you off." Juan replies to him, "Even if you regret it now." But our hero interrupts him and says, "No, I won't need any justification at all. This place is ultimately for playing. And from now on, you and I will play a game of hide and seek. So hide well or your hair will show. Hide well or your hair will show." Juan is surprised by what our hero says as he pulls his head out of the car, covered in blood. He continues, "As soon as I catch you, you'll die instantly." Of course, everyone is shocked by our hero's words, and we see Yunho lying on the ground, crying. Here, our hero raises his hand, wipes the blood off his face, and says, "I'm coming to get you now." Our hero gets out of the car and stands before Juan, who looks at the ground and says, "I can't believe this place. Everything in it I worked with all my effort to achieve, and there's no way I'm running away and leaving everything behind now." Juan reaches for the table, takes the dice, and attacks our hero, striking with the hand holding the dice, but our hero catches it, and the dice flies out of his hand. Young replies, "You still don't understand the situation you're in. Everything you worked for and built will turn to ash." He twists Juan's arm, and our hero kicks Juan in the head, slamming him to the ground. He continues, "I hate this game of signals. How about we play dice? I see it landed on 3, so you'll take 3 hits." And indeed, our hero punches him 3 times, and Juan immediately falls to the ground, saying, "Do you dare to knock me down using force? I'm not like you. I'm not the type to strike first and then think about the consequences. I have ambitions and plans much bigger than this." Here, our hero throws the dice again in front of him, and it lands on the number 6. Our hero says, "You might have plans and ambitions, but it seems luck isn't on your side at all." Juan gets angry. Enough of this nonsense. But Young attacks him here and hits him 6 times. And here, Juan remembers when he entered the tattoo parlor. The girl says, "You got permission from your mom, right? These days, crab and goblin tattoos are the most popular among school students. Do you want one of those 2 tattoos?" Of course, the girl is practicing by drawing on a pig. So Juan, who is carrying a bag, replies to her, "I want the exact dragon tattoo you have." The girl, who has the dragon tattoo on her chest and neck, continues, "Where are you looking?" Juan answers, "I know everything. And I know you're the scout for the dragon organization. Please, I want to join the organization. Because if I have the organization's support and my plans move quickly, I could make a lot of money." Adi Duwaisi. He opens the bag and it's full of money. The girl looks at it while playing with the tattoo machine between her fingers and says, "I don't know, but I like a man who risks his life more than money." Juan reaches out and takes the machine from her, saying, "As you wish. For money, I can put my life in danger more than once, no matter the situation." And he goes and stabs the tattoo machine into his neck. The girl grabs his hand and says to him, "You're accepted. Now, what do you want from the dragon organization?" He tells her, "First, I want you to send me to juvenile prison." And we return to the car maintenance training center in the prison. And we see Juan running and shouting, "Everyone get out of my way, you disgusting dogs. Clear the path. No one stand in my way." He continues to himself, "This is truly infuriating, but I have to retreat now. All the evidence proves the gambling shop is cheating. It must have been destroyed by now by the one who got out. And you, Young, and the other cell leaders will come soon after." But before he finishes, Guillaume appears before him and says, "I brought the evidence that proves the entire gambling shop is a scam." He throws the bag into the air and hits him with it, knocking him to the ground. The people there are surprised and say that the things in the bag are just dice and cards, which are just things used in normal games. Guillaume replies to them, "Look closely. The dealer who just left took these things with him. And this is the evidence that proves this whole place is a scam. Juan, you're finished now." Namin approaches him and says, "Guillaume, you turned out to be very useful." The people are shocked by the scam and wonder about the money they lost in the shop. They want to get their money back. And of course, Juan is lying on the ground. He starts crawling and gathering the scattered money, saying, "I won't let you take it from me. This money is my money that I collected myself." Our hero approaches him carrying a gallon of gasoline and starts pouring it on Juan, saying, "It's not over yet. There's still one last game we have to play. Understand? And the name of this game, let's just say it's Electric Shock." We see him holding jumper cables and striking them together, creating sparks. Our hero continues. You lost. So now it's your turn. Juan is terrified of our hero and says, wait, there's gas on my money. Don't do it. I'm telling you to stop, you animal. Young replies, I told you that everything you built would turn to ash. The people are shocked by what's happening. And here our hero is surprised to see that Juan has lost consciousness. So he says he's passed out and defeated, but that's not a problem right now. Then the white-haired cell leader enters and says, pick up the money from the floor. I don't want to see anyone here. This money is mine. This is what was expected. I knew everything here was a scam. Juan, you won't be able to run the gambling shop now. A year passes and we see Juan leaving prison thinking that he might have failed in prison. But of course, big thanks to the man in the hat who was picking people up at the prison gate to sell their organs. Juan thinks he's learned from what happened to him and is planning something bigger, starting over once again. And here the man raises his hand and says, how are you, beloved Juan? You've had a very rough time, but well done. Come on, please, I've brought some tofu with me. Am I not the only one who takes good care of you? Juan replies. I'm sorry I couldn't send you things from inside lately, but I'll set up my place outside quickly and I want you to wait for me for a little while. The man continues. Yes, of course, you can make a place for yourself, but before that, the money I lent you for your old plans, we have to settle that matter first. Juan tells him, you know I don't have any money right now. The man laughs and replies, what money? We're professionals. Don't you worry about that part. You know better than anyone that there are other ways. The van with the bed and nurses is open in front of Juan, who is shocked as soon as he sees it. The man continues, let's do the math. The money you've borrowed up until this moment. If we calculate the legal maximum interest rate, the amount will be 1,238,000,000 won. Now let's go because the customer is waiting. The man pushes Juan into the van, takes him, and they drive away. We return to the prison and see our hero and his friends walking in the hallway, and Namin says, Juan is finished. Of course, all thanks to my observation when I found the mark on the card. Ligium replies, but I'm the one who brought back the evidence. Then our hero intervenes and says to them, well done to all of you guys. Our hero then opens the cell door and goes inside thinking that so far he's finished off 3 of the Dragon Organization seeds and the next target. But before he finishes his thought, he's surprised to find someone standing inside their cell, so he asks who he is. And what is he doing here? The man, a white-haired cell leader holding a photo of our hero and his girlfriend, says to him, is this the girl who died in the car accident? She looks like... But before he finishes, our hero attacks him, grabs him by the face, pins him to the ground, and says, get me a pillow. Naaman is surprised and asks him why he wants it. Of course, our hero has covered the man's mouth with his hand and says so he can't scream loudly and fill the hallway outside with his voice. And we go back a bit in time, and we see the white-haired man sitting on the floor somewhere, looking back and counting the insults written on the wall. There are people around him, and he says, how boring is this? Don't you have anything more interesting than this? I want something to boost my dopamine. And we return to the cell leaders meeting when our hero bursts in, breaks the shovel, and attacks Juan. And of course, the white-haired man was watching what was happening and heard him when he was talking about the dragon seeds. At that moment, he said, great, this is the dopamine I'm looking for. And we go to our hero's cell now after he asked for the pillow, and he's holding the white-haired man by the face, covering his mouth. Of course, the white-haired man tries to speak, so our hero says to him, you don't understand what I'm saying. You're so annoying. Our hero raises his hand to hit him. But at that moment, the man holds up the notebook where he'd drawn our hero's dragon tattoo, puts it in his face and says, surprise, the dragon tattoo. This is what you're looking for, isn't it? How about I help you with this? Of course, the white-haired man moves away from our hero, steadies himself on the floor and continues, if you want to finish off all these dragons one by one, no problem. But there's a misunderstanding. Let's clear it up first. This photo fell out of the notebook and I have no bad intentions. So take it easy on me. I'm just a well-wisher who wants to help you. Of course, the white-haired man picks up the photo from the floor and gives it to our hero, who takes it quickly and says, get out of here. The man smiles, approaches our hero, and says to him, I thought you were smart, but it seems you're stupider than I expected. You're a cell leader and free to fight as much as you want. But if you keep acting this recklessly, you'll be the one falling into the hands of the other leaders. This juvenile detention center has more dragons than you can imagine. What, you still don't want me to help you? Our hero thinks he shouldn't trust him because he appeared suddenly and is acting very strangely, and now he's offering help. Our hero doesn't know what the white-haired man stands to gain from this. And of course, we see him grabbing the window bars and breaking them, so Naaman says to him, that's going to cost our cell a fee. Our hero looks at him and asks, what is your goal in all this? What are you looking for? The man replies, what am I looking for? I want my dopamine to explode. The next day in the juvenile detention center hall, we see all the prisoners sitting and happy. Because on this day, the temple has sent girls to the prison to pray for the inmates. And of course, since the guys have been in prison for a long time, they see the girls and can't believe it. and we see the girl singing. And our hero is staring at the temple's name. And here he remembers a time when Yoon was walking in the temple playing hide and seek with him, looking for him until she finally opens a door and says, "Found you." Of course, here Yoon was only 17 years old. We see our hero sitting on the floor, motionless. And Yoon continues, "I knew you were sleeping." He replies, "Yeah, and you're the one who woke me up." Yoon says to him, "I told you it would be cold at night." As they talk, they hear the door. Our hero asks if someone came with her. Yoon tells him, "No, no one. But could it be Yuna?" Indeed, a girl named Yuna enters, calls for Yoon, and says the sister said we must return to the orphanage now. If you're late, she'll punish you. Yoon enters the room where our hero is. He's surprised and asks what she's doing. Yoon whispers back, "Stay quiet. If we're caught now, they'll make us clean the temple for a week." After our hero recalls these memories in the hall, he looks at the girls and hears a classmate say, "Did you see that miracle? She's glowing, her voice is lovely, and she's so beautiful." The guy next to him asks who he's talking about. The first one points to her and says, "Over there, look how beautiful she is." Our hero looks at the same spot, surprised, and says, "Yuna?" When Yuna hears her name, she looks toward the sound, shocked, and says, "Young? Is it possible?" A bit later in the prison cafeteria, the girls are working on the meals they'll serve to the inmates. One of them says, "Sister, we came here to offer hope." The one next to her replies, "But I don't see any hope at all in this place." Of course, some inmates are looking at them in a terrible way. We see the girls serving the food on the tables. Naturally, the inmates start harassing them verbally, and the girls just look at them, not knowing what to do. A short-haired girl says, "Why must we volunteer for trash like them? They should just rot in hell." The first girl replies, "You're being way too loud, sister." The second one continues, "This rice is wasted on people like them." At that moment, the massive cell leader arrives and says, "Thank you, Lord, for providing my bread today, though I am a sinner." "Thank you, sisters. I wish you the best always." The girls are surprised to find a religious man among the inmates, but they're even more surprised when he performs different rituals and leaves them completely confused. Then the first girl says, "Anyway, why is Yuna so late?" She said she was going to rest for a bit. Elsewhere in the prison, in a small room, we see our hero with Yuna, who says the place is tiny and it's very hot. He replies, "I'm sorry, but there's nowhere else we can meet without being seen." Yuna continues, "It's okay, but these temple clothes really make you feel the heat. It's been a long time since we talked like this, and I find the whole thing quite strange. The three of us used to always talk and have fun together. Since Yoon left us, look, I know you and Yoon were together, and that was a long time ago. So this whole situation must have been very hard all this time, right? And you surely felt lonely, didn't you?" Now Yoon puts her hand on our hero's neck and leans in close to him. We flash back to school days and see Yuna walking down the hall while students talk about how beautiful she is and that it's their first time seeing her. One says her name is Yuna, a freshman, and they wonder why she's on the second floor with the sophomores. They ask themselves, who is she here to see? Yuna enters our hero Young's classroom, stands before him, and asks, "Young, why aren't you answering me?" Young replies, "Sorry, I apologize, but what's going on?" Yuna continues, "You haven't even looked at the messages. I still have many gift coins from my birthday last year, and I can't use them all by myself. Can you help me?" He tells her, "Sorry, but I have projects with Yoon today. I'll help you tomorrow." "Sorry, Yuna." And here, our hero takes his bag and leaves the classroom, leaving Yuna looking towards the door and thinking. And we return now to the present time, and our hero is shocked by what Yuna is doing as she says, "You were very lonely lately, right? I know how it feels when someone is alone in this world. Young, you're not alone, I'm here for you." She holds his hands afterwards, so our hero is surprised by what she's doing and saying, and he's about to speak, but she interrupts him and says, "You didn't answer my messages." Young says to her, "It's just that I had things I had to do. Anyway, did something happen?" Yuna laughs and plays with her hair and says to him, "You haven't changed as usual." "You know, Young," suddenly they hear the sound of the guards outside talking, and one of them says, "You haven't eaten until now, right? I heard they're serving food. Let's hurry so we can catch the food." So his colleague tells him that he's really hungry. Yuna gets startled and says, "I forgot lunch. I was taking a short break, but it's gotten long now. Anyway, I'm glad I saw you after all this long time." Young replies, "I'm also glad I saw you, Yuna. And in 3 years, I'll see you outside." Yuna continues, "Young, I'm coming next week, and our temple will organize visits every Sunday starting from now. It's a very nice idea for us to see each other often, isn't it?" After a while, we see Yuna working in the restaurant and cleaning the place while she's happy and talking to the prisoners, and the girls are surprised by the way she's acting. And our hero is sitting in the restaurant and hears one of the girls saying she went back to flirting with the guys again. As usual, this girl is very bold. How can she act this way with criminals? It seems the rumors turned out to be true. The one's talking about Hotel Yuna. She's definitely a saint, but the saint commits many sins. After a while, the high priestess is standing on the stage in the hall and praying with the people. And of course, the prisoners are bored. And here the priestess says, Today you are free. I want you all to confess your freedom and everyone will dance. The prisoners are very happy. And you see the girls wearing dance clothes, and we see them dancing on the stage in front of the prisoners who are very happy and going crazy over them. Our hero hears two people talking about going to the girls' room after they finish this party to harass them. And indeed, after the party, the girls are in their room changing their clothes. And we see the two who wanted to come to the room standing by the door listening to the talk inside. And they decide to open the door to see the girls while they're changing their clothes. And as soon as they open the door, our hero appears behind them and says, I bet the view now won't be like before. They both get startled as soon as they hear his voice, and our hero hits them and throws them to the ground. And here the huge cell leader comes and says to them, you shouldn't commit any sin. You are sinners and won't be forgiven for what you did. The girls hear what's happening outside, and Yuna comes out and sees our hero, asking him what's going on. But when she sees the two lying on the ground and screaming, she gets scared and holds our hero's hand and hides her face behind him, and he says, what, were you scared of this sight? A week later, the temple group is in the prison as well. The high priestess is praying with the people. And in the donation warehouse, we see our hero working in it and saying, moving donated goods is a very difficult matter. But what's going to happen now? He looks behind him and finds three people standing there holding switchblades in their hands. And one of them says, you only just noticed we're here now? You're way too late, you idiot. The three of them attack him together and hit him with the switchblades. He says, heaven might punish you for what you've done. You're ruining the donated goods like this. Now it's time for you to take a bath. Of course, our hero blocks the knives with the water crate and throws the bottles at those three. Here, our hero circles behind them, quickly knocks them down, pins one of them, and continues. You're definitely not doing this on your own. Who told you to do this? Suddenly, he hears someone outside opening the door. And we find the guard opening the door and saying, what's that noise? What are you doing in the warehouse? And what's going on here? We see Yuna sitting at the back of the warehouse with our hero a bit away from her. So he's surprised when he sees her. And here the guard continues, what are you doing here? Don't tell me he did something to you. Yuna points at our hero, covering her body with some of her clothes on the floor, and says, he's the one who did this to me. Going back in time a bit, we see messages between two people agreeing on something for money. It also clarifies that they'll meet at 7 o'clock. Indeed, at 7, we see an old man in a hotel room and Yuna is there with him saying, don't go back on your word. You'll give me the 500,000 won in cash, right? The man replies, of course, I have plenty of money. By the way, you're very pretty without makeup. We should thank heaven for this situation. Yuna is surprised by his words, so the man continues, would you like me to explain what I mean? Okay, come and sit next to me. Yuna approaches him and the man reaches out to take off his robe. But then someone enters the room. The old man is shocked and asks, who are you? The man who entered replies, an illicit meeting, isn't it? And not just anyone, it's the priest himself. The priest says, are you threatening me, you low-life amateur? I know the police commissioner. But before he finishes, the man punches him in the face and Yuna then holds up a bag with a running camera. You're the temple priest. Surely you can handle this video being leaked and come out of this unscathed. The priest replies, no, please don't do that. The man continues while holding him by the head. Don't worry, priest. We can agree on a suitable price now. We go to the prison and see the guard putting our hero in solitary confinement, saying, Young, you'll stay here for 10 days. You're such a lowlife. How could you do something like that during a visit? I know the warden treats you specially, but since an outsider was involved in this, you can't leave solitary at all because of the incident. Also, the Ministry of Justice is now monitoring the place via surveillance cameras, so that's an additional reason preventing me from letting you out of here. The guard leaves him in the cell, walks down the hallway, and continues, of all places, this disgusting story had to happen here in the juvenile prison. Of course, our hero stands before the door, remembering when Yuna pointed at him and said he did that to her. He says to himself, Yuna, why did you do that? The truth is, folks, on the same day during prayer in the prison hall, the massive cell leader is sitting with Yuna on the bus in the prison parking lot, and he tells her, meeting again like this, it must be our destiny. It's been a long time since we met, Sister Yuna. Yuna, sitting next to him, replies, I know there's corruption here, but is a prisoner really allowed to go wherever he wants freely? He replies, the cell leaders here pay the warden monthly, which gives them a certain degree of freedom. So don't worry, even if it weren't like that, as long as I'm with you, I can handle anything. Because when I'm with you, I remember the old days when we used to pass judgment on heretics, even though my methods were a bit harsh. Of course, everyone, this huge cell leader's name is Joseph. And this Joseph is the same one who used to work with Yuna and blackmail people for money. When Joseph, at that time, used to beat them, and of course, he's imprisoned for 12 cases of assault and intimidation. And he also has 18 cases that haven't been discovered yet. Joseph continues his speech. You were always very helpful to me. That's why I'm going to leave this matter to you. You're the one who must judge young. And we go back to our hero in his cell thinking that he couldn't understand anything that happened. Because according to the circumstances, someone wanted to trap him, and the men who tried to hurt him were just a trick to waste his time. But the real goal was to exploit Yuna and frame him for a sexual assault case. But Yuna, after the guard came and approached her and she told him that he was the one who did it, she changed her story and said that he was the one who saved her, and that those 3 unconscious prisoners were the ones who brought her here by force and then tried to attack her. But our hero saved her, and here the guard tells his colleagues to take them all outside. So our hero wonders who could be exploiting Yuna, and why did she change her mind at the last minute? And did she really save him? Our hero stands up, looks through the door, calls the guard and says he wants to request something. The guard stops and approaches the door again and says to him, "What's the story? Since there are cameras, we shouldn't draw too much attention." Our hero answers, "I know, but I want you to talk to someone." And now we go to the bus and see Yuna and Joseph, who says, "On the first day you came here for a prison visit last week, when you saw me, you hid behind someone else. That's when I knew you were infatuated with that heretic. That's why I gave you a chance to bring justice to him with your own 2 hands. But why didn't you do it?" Yuna replies while trembling. "Is that what justice means to you? Can I stop it now? I did everything you told me to do outside the prison." Joseph replies, "You seem to have forgotten that I have all the videos, and you are doing a great job, honestly. You must continue helping me, and you'll work now and in the future as well. And then your mother..." But before he finishes, Yuna gets angry, stands up and says to him, "I'll report you to the police. I'll report all the crimes you committed outside the prison." At that moment, Joseph stands up, grabs her, breaks the necklace around her neck, and throws her to the ground, then says, "It seems you've become more corrupt than I expected, you heretic. Don't worry. I'll take this opportunity now to cleanse you of your sins here. You can scream and cry until you're tired, because right now there's no one near us and there's no one but the 2 of us." Of course, they're both sitting inside the bus in the prison parking lot, and everyone else is in the prison hall. At that moment, the bus door opens, so Joseph and Yuna look toward it, and someone gets on and stands at the front of the bus. And here Joseph says, "How did you do it? How did you manage to get out of solitary confinement?" "Sorry, could you wait a minute? Because there's a matter here I need to finish first." As you can see, the person who got on the bus replies while closing the door, and it turns out to be our hero. "Do whatever you want, because I'm also going to do whatever I want." Let's go back in time a bit. After our hero spoke to the guard and asked to speak with someone, we see then that our hero asked for the white-haired cell leader to come to him. We see him standing at the door saying, "What's this? You have your own cell. I'm so jealous of you. It looks very comfortable. I want to be here too." And we see him holding the door bars and pulling them left and right. Our hero replies, "I didn't ask you to come here just to talk. And I said before that we must work together and that you'll help me. I want you to prove that now and show me that you'll be useful to me." The white-haired guy looks at him and says, "What's the story? How can I help you? Tell me everything." And we go back to the bus. Yuna is looking at our hero and calling out to him. So our hero says, "Get away from Yuna right now." Joseph replies, "Please don't take this the wrong way. I'm performing a religious ritual." Our hero continues angrily, "I told you to get away from her." Joseph approaches him and says, "And I told you I'm performing a ritual. But this is to be expected. It's hard for someone like you to understand this." And here they attack each other. Our hero punches him hard in the chest and says, "Stop the nonsense you did to Yuna. What you did to her is a crime, and you deserve to be punished until you die." Our hero keeps hitting him all over his body. After he stops, he looks at Joseph, who stands up normally, his shirt torn from our hero's blows. Joseph says, "You know how to hit well. I've never met anyone who strikes pressure points so directly. Who taught you to fight like that?" Our hero kicks him in the side and says, "None of your business." Joseph, "Well, as for me, I didn't learn from anyone else. The only thing I have is that my body is blessed. And this blessing came from heaven. I am heaven's messenger, carrying out its orders, and my mission is to punish the heretics. Don't you agree, Sister Yuna?" And here, Joseph suddenly attacks, punching our hero and knocking him to the ground. We go back in time to when Yuna was at a temple camp. She's sitting with a group of people in the garden, telling them her story and how she doesn't live with her mother because of the family's debts, but she wishes she could live with her mother again. People gather around her and understand that her mother works to pay off the debts her father had borrowed. They all pray for her. And we see Joseph sitting and listening to this story. After he finishes reading the book in his hand, Yuna is walking in a hallway inside the temple. Joseph calls out to her, and she's very surprised, looking at him and asking if she can help him with anything. He answers her, "My name is Joseph. I was with you at the temple camp last week and overheard your story. And honestly, I was very moved. But you know, I think I can help you with that. I know a way to get rid of all those debts, and quickly." Yuna asks him, "What is this way?" He tells her, "You will take on a mission from heaven, which is to punish the heretics. And I see that you're the best person for this job. Of course, everyone, you understand that Joseph wants to catch people, film them, and blackmail them for money after exploiting Yuna's body. And we return to the bus in the present, seeing Joseph holding our hero by the leg, lifting him up and saying, "Young, you're a vile and evil heretic. You were trying to seduce Sister Yuna, and now I'm the one who will punish you." Joseph raises his hand to strike him, but at that moment he takes a blow to the head, and Yuna, who hit him with the umbrella, then says, "Stop what you're doing right now." Joseph looks at her intently. Then he looks back at our hero and says, "All of this is happening because of you, young." Then he throws our hero to the front of the bus, slamming his head into the glass. Joseph then looks at Yuna and slaps her across the face, knocking her down, saying, "It seems you're rejecting the blessing. But don't worry, I will now cleanse you of your sins." He starts to approach her, but suddenly feels a pain in his chest. He puts his hand over the pain and continues, "Why isn't my body responding to me?" Suddenly he coughs up blood, shocked by what happened to him. We find our hero standing behind him, saying, "You said it yourself. My attack was targeting your vital points. Even if your body is blessed, you won't be able to withstand these internal injuries." What do you think?" Joseph answers. "It seems you're not in good shape either," our hero replies while holding a bottle in his hand. "This is nothing compared to the pain Yuna was enduring. And I've decided that people like you who commit sexual crimes must be punished physically and chemically, and they must lose their manhood completely." We go back in time a bit and see Yuna sitting with our hero in a fancy restaurant. He says to her, "Yuna, isn't this too much? I never imagined myself eating in a place like this. Thank you." Yuna replies, "Actually, I've had a coupon for a while. Enjoy the meal, Young, and eat." Young continues, "But you don't look happy. Is there a problem with the food?" She answers him, "No, it's not like that, but I was looking around and thought that everyone here has a mother except me." Young looked at her while trying to swallow the bite he was eating, and he said to her, "I don't have a mother either. Are you making fun of me or what?" Yuna is shocked when she finds out and tries to justify her words. There's a boy who heard our hero, what he said, and he tells his mom that this man was saying he doesn't have a mother. So his mom silences him, and our hero asks her if she was upset because of this story. So Yuna tells him, "No, of course not. She promised me she'd come back for me, and this tattoo. Do you know what it says? That I'll keep waiting for you, mother." And we go back to the present time on the bus, and our hero says, "Yuna, wait a little longer. Everything will be over soon. And I'll make sure that this man in front of you won't be able to do any of his dirty deeds." Joseph gets very angry, removes the headrest of the chair, throws it towards our hero, and says, "You animal, these aren't dirty deeds." But you know, that's not important now. Let's finish this story here. He aims a blow at our hero's face, but our hero blocks his punch. Suddenly, Joseph feels pain and spits blood. He puts his hand on his chest, so our hero says to him, "You still haven't understood that the more you move, the more the damage will increase." He attacks him and punches him in the face, and at the same time, Joseph punches him back and says, "But my attacks should have a much bigger impact on you than what you've done." Our hero continues, "Try to test that theory if you can." Joseph throws punches at our hero, who dodges them instantly and moves away from Joseph, who thinks this approach, won't work because his body can't take anymore and there's no way forward except to use Yuna as bait. So our hero says to him, "You told me your body was blessed, didn't you? But in the end, this is all you can do, taking a hostage as well." Our hero jumps, leans on the bus seat, and brings his foot down on Joseph's face, knocking him to the ground, and continues, "It's been a long time since I fought someone your size, which is why you took up more of my time. But compared to your body, you're nothing against what I used to face." Our hero asks Yuna and stands her behind him, so Joseph sits on the bus floor and laughs. Here, our hero asks him how he dares to laugh like that, so Joseph says to him, "I still have the recorded videos of all the crimes and these crimes I did with her, and she was my partner in them. I'm thinking of sending them to her mother, and when she finds out her daughter was doing shady work to collect money while blackmailing people too, then I'll be waiting to see what her mother's reaction will be." Yuna gets scared and cries a lot, and our hero looks at her and replies coldly, "Well, go ahead and do it. There are 5 cases of sexual assault, 9 attempted assaults, and 4 harassments. Aren't these the crimes you committed? These haven't spread, but I'll publish them all." Joseph is shocked and starts trembling and says, "How did you know?" Our hero cuts him off before he finishes and replies while pointing the stun gun at him and says, "If you wanted to threaten someone, you should have been more prepared than this." Joseph continues, shocked. "A stun gun? Wait a second, what do you want to do?" And here our hero shoots the gun below the belt and starts electrocuting him and says, "I told you I'd make sure you wouldn't be able to do the dirty things you used to do, and it was a good idea to bring it with me. Anyway, I'm speaking from experience. That's why I hit you there. And after that, you won't be able to use that area for the rest of your life. What could we call this? Taking your manhood from you, for example. And here Yuna approaches our hero and says to him, Young, are you okay? I'm sorry, you got hurt because of me. Young replies, this isn't the right time to worry about me, but why didn't you tell me about this before, that this man was threatening you? Yuna replies, oh Young, how did you know about this? He tells her, it's always your habit when you want to say something and then hide it. You start playing with your hair. I should have noticed this much sooner. Anyway, I'm sorry, but come here now. You were hit in the face, right? Yuna gets embarrassed and says to him, no, it's fine. It's just a scratch. It's nothing. Young continues, I can't believe you hit someone his size with just an umbrella, but from now on, don't do anything dangerous. Understood? Yuna looks at him shocked and says his words are understood, and suddenly they hear the sound of the bus starting, so they look towards the driver, and it's the white-haired guy who says, how are you, lovebirds? You two look so cute, and I'm very jealous of you, honestly. Our hero is surprised by him and asks him why he started the bus suddenly, so he replies, which one is the brake pedal? This one, right? I don't actually know. Fine. I'll just step on anything. And this is for all the single people in the world because I honestly hate people in relationships. And he steps hard on the gas and drives the bus at a terrible speed towards the prison wall. In another place, we find a person tied to a chair and Kang's bodyguard, the head of operations in the Dragon organization. His name is Joe, and he tells him there are many ways for gangs to hide bodies. Some bury them, some throw them in the sea, or even burn them. But all these methods aim to hide the evidence. However, we don't worry about that, because our organization keeps everything fresh just in case we need to use them again. For example, do you have anything else to add? Of course, the man tied to the chair has many tattoos on his body, but among them is not the dragon tattoo. So he says, did Kang tell you to do this? You won't last long even if you keep finishing off your allies just because you won't share what you have. If you don't stop what you're doing now, someone will surely come and ruin everything for you. Joe continues, well, I hope you find a nice place in the next life. And he pushes him into the water along with the chair he's tied to, and the man drowns. Then the phone rings. It's a call from the prison, so Joe answers and asks what's going on. He's surprised by what he hears on the phone. We go back to the bus and our hero, who stands shocked at what the white-haired boy is doing, who says, let's go to freedom. Get ready to see some real driving. And indeed, the bus reaches the wall and crashes into it. Our hero asks Yuna, who fell to the floor from the impact, if she's okay, and she says she's fine. He looks toward the white-haired boy, who was driving and had the airbag deploy in his face, and says to him, what were you thinking? We could have actually died, he replies. Get out of here, quickly! Indeed, the boy gets up, gets them off the bus, and they start running as the guards are coming toward the bus. After a while, they hide among the trees, and after the guards leave, the white-haired boy says, the guards are all gone, right? Great, now that big idiot will take the blame for trying to escape from prison and also for causing damage to the place. Young replies, did you do that to pin it on Joseph? He answers, yes, he won't be able to use the security cameras to prove his innocence, especially after what I did. By the way, what do you think? Great idea, right? Now, goodbye. I'll leave you lovebirds together. The white-haired boy quickly leaves. Our hero looks at Yuna and says, the priestess must be looking for you now. You must go back quickly. Yuna replies, okay, but wait, I almost forgot about this. I think you should take this. She takes something out of her pocket and gives it to Young. It's a keychain in the shape of a small bear. Our hero looks at it and remembers when he, Yuna, and Yun were at an arcade. Back then, Yun was trying to grab these keychains from the machine, and she actually managed to get 3. Our hero says to her, didn't you say you weren't good at this game, Yun? She says, yes, but I guess I managed to get them. Our hero plays the same game, and Yun is cheering him on, so he gets flustered and says, I didn't know it was this hard. After they finish playing, Yun gives each of them a keychain and says, each of us will take one. Here's the papa bear, the mama bear, and the baby bear. They're perfect for us since we don't have a family. Think about it. As long as we have these, we'll always be together. Young is surprised and says, stop with the embarrassing talk, Yun. Yun gets angry and tells him to shut up. And of course, Yuna really likes the keychain. Our hero looks at the keychain. Yun continues, by the way, don't you think they look like us? And we return to the present among the trees where our hero is staring at the necklace. Yuna says, I found it while cleaning Yoon's room. Our hero remembers Yoon's words about them always staying together. Yuna continues, her story. It was on the table, so I found it easily. Our hero looks at her, remembering when Yoon said these bears look like them. Yuna says she's leaving now, and he tells her to take care of herself. Yuna runs off, And our hero wonders why she's in such a hurry. As she walks, she says to herself, I can't tell him after all this. But Uni, did you see that? I tried to be a good friend until the end, but from now on, I don't want you to be mad at me because I like Yong. Yuna reaches the priestess who asks where she was, and Yuna apologizes. A bit later, in solitary confinement, the white-haired guy is in one of the cells and says, Did you hear what happened? That fat pig who acted all religious completely lost his manhood. Where exactly did you aim that stun gun? I get it now. You hit him in a sensitive spot, didn't you? Yong replies, What are you doing here? He answers, Nothing much. Just did something a bit naughty because I wanted a room of my own. Our hero goes to ask the next question, but the white-haired guy cuts him off, saying, Whoa, what's this? Are you interrogating me? I'm so excited. Yong continues, How did you get out of solitary? The guard said the place is monitored by cameras. And you still managed to get me the stun gun. How did you get info on Joseph? Who exactly are you? The white-haired guy replies, That's not important at all. Anyway, I think I've proven myself, don't you think? Our hero agrees and tells him they're now a team. The white-haired guy is thrilled and punches the wall next to our hero, saying these are punches of happiness. Our hero continues. So tell me now, how are you going to help me? Are you listening? Don't tell me you fell asleep. Indeed, the white-haired guy is asleep and snoring. Our hero looks out the window at the sky, grips the necklace in his hand, and squeezes it. Now we go to another place in the forest and see a car driving along. After it stops, a girl gets out and says, That was such a long trip. I don't understand why. He decided to build this villa in the mountains. By the way, guys, this girl's name is Yu. She's close to Kang and is the scout for the Dragon Organization. The place she's reached now is Kang's villa. After going inside, Yu says he could have bought a luxury apartment in the city. After all, he's the right hand of the Dragon Organization's leader. He really has strange taste. She opens the room door and says, I heard you wanted to see me, boss. I was looking forward to seeing you too. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were training. Kang is standing in the middle of the room after smashing the whole place. Joe is also there, pouring tea into the cups and says, He just finished now. Kang looks at her and asks, How did you find your way here? Yu replies, It's lovely. I like the fresh air. Kang continues, Glad to hear that. So, Joe, you said there was something you wanted to tell me. Joe replies, Yes, boss, I have news about Yong. A while later, we see them sitting on the balcony by the water. Kang says while drinking tea, So tell me, what's the news about my son? Joe replies, The young master got into conflicts with the cell leaders in prison and of course managed to defeat them. Some of them were the seeds we planted in the prison. He's progressing faster than anyone I've ever seen. Yu says, Some of them were promising young men, but the young master still managed to finish them off. I feel embarrassed, honestly, but you should be proud of him. He's growing and will be a pro fighter. Kang replies, I expect more from him than that. I want my son to bloom like a flower. At the same time, he hasn't reached the flower stage or even the bud. He's just a leaf that's only now starting to spread its roots. He's been in prison for a while, right? But despite that, he managed to handle and crush a group of leaders. But since he's my son, he has to be better than that. I'll find a way to make him bloom like a flower as soon as possible. The next day in prison, a group is taking out the trash, and one of them says, Do you know what Suk told me when I got locked up? His friend asks about Suk, and the first one replies that he's his father. The other replies, No respect, huh? So what did he say to you? He told me I'm useless and that he hoped they'd beat me up bad in prison. The others reply that one's mom said the same thing, and the other says his uncle said that. The first one says, They didn't even know about this place. It's the opposite of what they expected. The second one replies, True, I mean, it's come to the point where the warden here takes bribes. I even started smoking cigarettes when I got locked up. The first one says, In my opinion, everyone here is trash. Maybe I should burn this whole place down, especially since I've been through so much. But then the world might think I did something great. Just imagine if I burned this whole place down. Then a fourth person comes up and says, Then try it. Go ahead, burn the place down. Of course, this fourth person is named Taek, and he's the leader of Cell 37. They approach him laughing and scared, and the first one says he was joking and knows he can't do that. Taek replies, Just talk, but nobody actually does anything. Idiots like you make me really angry. The truth is, guys, Taek was just like anyone else in school. But he was a heavy-duty bully. He used to bully the teachers a lot. We see him after he beat his teacher and threw him on the ground, standing by him smoking and saying, You talk way too much without actually doing anything. It's better if you just keep your mouth shut because I can't stand your talk. And the truth is, guys, Taik grabs those kids, beats them up, and throws them in the trash. Then a huge guy comes up to him and says, Taik, I have news about the new prisoner named Young. After the big guy tells him the news, Taik replies as he throws his cigarette in the trash. So he thinks he's the king of the jungle here? Fine, I'll show him his place. We go back to our hero's cell 36, where Nam-un is talking to his cellmates and telling them to stay kneeling on the floor because our hero is back and that he's returned from the dead. Our hero actually walks in and finds them all on the floor, so he says, that's enough, guys. Stop doing that. We see Yum sitting to the side reading a book. He looks at our hero and says, you look like you're in good shape. Young replies, you too. What's the news? Did anything happen while I was away? Nam-yun answers him, not at all. I kept a good eye on them. Our hero looks at someone in the cell and says, I think this is the first time I've seen you. Nam-yun replies, yeah, he's a new cellmate. He just got here, but he's a good kid. At that moment, a guard comes and stands at the window, calling out to the whole cell. He tells them they'll be working outside this afternoon and they need to get ready. Within 5 minutes, we go back to Kang's villa and he says, long ago they made something called the poison vase. They would fill this vase with all sorts of venomous insects and let them devour one another. The last insect standing is deemed the most venomous of them all. And as you can see, we've placed the venomous insects inside the vase, which is this prison. My son is forced to face these insects and consume them to become the strongest. Yu replies, regarding the venomous insects, do you mean? Kang Ho cuts her off and says, yes. I made sure to place the strongest one of them there. Back at the prison, we see a shocked Taik asking, are they working outside today? His cellmate replies, yes, everyone from Yong's cell is working behind Building 5 right now. Taik continues, great, I'm sick of him acting like he owns this place. I have to put an end to this. The man asks what he's going to do and Taik replies, I don't care if he's a cell leader or not. I won't bother justifying my actions, but he's dying today. Now we go to the work site of our hero and his friends where we see him on the ground, covered in red liquid. A shocked Namen calls out to him, Yong, what happened? Why is he bleeding like that? Our hero stands up quickly, startling Namen, and he replies to him, this red paint doesn't come off easily, no matter how much you wash it. Namen tells him that he can wash those clothes for him if he wants. And Gayom asks him how he fell. Time passes, and we see them returning to their cell after work. The guard says, that's enough for today, but we have work tomorrow as well, so be ready. They walk down the hallway, complaining about being tired. One says he'll report their treatment to human rights. But suddenly, they stop when they see red paint on the floor. Namen asks if that's just paint. Our hero replies, wait, this isn't paint. Namen is shocked and says, what is the leader of cell 37? We see Taik lying on the ground in a pool of blood, completely motionless. We return to Kang, who is standing by a tree, saying, I'm waiting for you, my son, to bloom like a flower as I imagined, and make me proud. But you must be careful so no one uproots you before you fully bloom into a flower. Let's see, my dear son, if you can survive this time. And of course, the venomous insects Kang mentioned and the one he planted referred to the new prisoner in our hero's cell. We now see him standing behind our hero, staring at him in the hallway after they found Taik on the ground. Oh, right. By the way, everyone, the password for today's episode is Taik. We go back to when the new prisoner entered the cell. The guard tells them, listen, cell 36, I know you just got a new cellmate, but here's another one. The prisoners stand there, amazed at how huge and strange he looks, wondering why he arrived while Yong is in solitary. One of them even remarks that the new prisoner looks like a gang member. Namen approaches him and asks, what are you in for? Violence or murder? But the new prisoner doesn't speak. Instead, a whistling sound is heard. They're all surprised, and one says he's very strange. But it's not the prisoner whistling, it's a bird that emerges from his clothes and perches on his hand. Namen asks how the bird got there and where it came from. The prisoner replies, I saw it on my way here. One of them asks him why he decided to bring it along. He replies, I felt bad for him. Maybe his mother left him. Another prisoner chimes in and tells him that this cell is no place for birds. Suddenly, the bird flies toward the locker, so the prisoner runs after it, and Namjoon says, what's this? He seems really stupid. Of course, Guillaume is sitting to the side, watching him, feeling very suspicious of him. The bird lands inside the locker on top of our hero's belongings. Naturally, the new prisoner sees these things, examines them closely, and stares at them. We go back to the hallway where Taik fell. Our hero and his friends stand shocked at the sight, while the new prisoner stands behind our hero, watching him. A bit later, we see them in the showers, and Nam Yoon says, "A lot has been happening since Young left solitary." The guy next to him replies, "Do you know how many fractures they found in his body after taking him to the hospital? They say there are 23, and it looks like he'll be there for months until he heals." The other one replies, "They don't even know who did it because there weren't any cameras in that hallway. I wonder who could do such a thing." At that moment, Guillaume is watching the new prisoner as he starts changing clothes, thinking there's something strange about this man. When they were painting the wall outside, this prisoner disappeared for a while, and when he returned, there was something on his sneaker. But that thing wasn't paint. He notices scratches and wounds on his body, wondering if they were from a fight with the leader of Cell 37. Our hero taps him on the shoulder and asks, "Why are you just standing there?" Guillaume replies, "Nothing. I was just thinking about something. Look, I need to tell you about a matter." But suddenly, Namjoon says in shock, "What's this? Look at him, guys. His whole body is covered in wounds and scratches. Are you involved with gangs or what? What kind of life were you living?" The prisoner replies, looking toward our hero, "These wounds and scratches are from my father." Our hero looks at him and remembers when he was in school. Back then, the students were going to the gym to change clothes, and they were surprised to see those wounds and scars on our hero's body. They started talking about how his father beats him every day because he works with gangs. They also wondered why our hero doesn't call the police to end this problem, but they could see he was too afraid to do so. The prisoners start showering while talking to each other. Of course, Guillaume is still watching the new prisoner, thinking that maybe his suspicions are wrong. Here, our hero gives the new prisoner a bottle of shampoo, and the prisoner responds, "Are you feeling sorry for me or something?" Young answers, "I'm in no position to feel sorry for anyone. In my view, both our lives have been trash. See you tomorrow." Our hero leaves the shower, and we see him drying his hair with a towel. Then the new prisoner comes out and stands near our hero. He says, "Can I ask you a question? Where are the rest of the people?" Young replies, "I told them to go back to the cell. But it's strange, isn't it? I mean, you and I have the same scars on our bodies." The new prisoner is about to respond, but suddenly he attacks him, grabs him by the neck, and slams him against the locker behind him. He says to him, "Don't you dare tell me this is a coincidence. I know exactly who caused those scars and wounds. At first, I couldn't recognize you because you don't have a tattoo, but you were sent here by Kang, weren't you? Fine then, stay quiet. But I doubt you'll be able to stay quiet forever. Life, everyone. Back in the day at Kang's villa, we see you standing and talking to Kang, saying, 'What do you think of these kids, boss? I've checked every single one of them to make sure they're decent and that none of them belong to any organization. I think these guys have a future. Of course, the organization doesn't know anything about this, so you can choose freely.' The kids are surprised when they hear this, and Kang says, 'They have a future? These guys are all useless. Not a single one of them is capable of finishing off another man. I want hunting dogs who can tear the prey to pieces. Let's see, I want the biggest one here. And throw the rest out.' Kang stops as he's about to leave, and Yu is surprised, saying, 'Seriously, boss? This whole thing took me a long time to gather these kids.' But before she can finish, a sound comes from among the boys. Kang stops, looks back, and finds one of them, biting the other's neck and pinning him to the ground. The one on the ground is screaming, saying, 'Let go of me, this hurts.' Kang smiles and says, 'It looks like you'd make a good dog. Starting today, I'm your father.' We return to our hero, who's holding the prisoner by the neck. The prisoner tells him, 'I'm just his hunting dog.' Our hero is surprised and says, 'I noticed you don't have a tattoo. Aren't you from the Dragon organization? I mean, is your loyalty only to Kang? Speak up. Why were you put in my cell? And why did you hit the cell leader who wanted to face me? Why are you still hanging around me when you could have attacked me multiple times? Tell me, why did Kang send you?' Of course, the prisoner remains silent, so our hero squeezes his neck and continues, 'So it's going to be like that. Fine.' Our hero grabs him hard and shoves him forcefully against the locker, running with him. Finally, he pins him to the ground, still holding his neck with blood dripping from his head. He says, 'See, I'm in a terrible mood because you reminded me of how much that man beat me my whole life. Talk, and don't make me angry.' Our hero continues to squeeze harder and harder on his neck, choking him, but the prisoner doesn't say a word and remains silent. Suddenly, he loses consciousness and faints. Our hero is shocked, lets go, and says to himself, 'Is he dead or what? But why didn't he do anything? He had so many chances to fight back. What did he want? Or no, not him. What did Kang want?' We go back a while and see the prisoner feeding a bird on the window. Of course, the bird eats and chirps in the cell while the prisoner stands watching it. One of his cellmates comes and tells him to stop bringing it food because the bird is too noisy. Of course, during this time, our hero is watching him every day and notices nothing suspicious about this prisoner. Even once in the cafeteria, Namin accidentally spills a tray of food on him, getting it all over his clothes. But the prisoner remained very calm without getting upset or angry. He just went on with his life as if nothing happened, showing no reaction. He kept his strength hidden after that. Another time, our hero was sitting with Guillaume on the stairs, and Namin was joking around with Guillaume, splashing him with water. But the water hit our hero's face. Namin argues with Guillaume because he moved out of the way and let the water hit Young. Of course, our hero told them both to calm down while the prisoner stood at a distance watching them. Time passes, and one night they receive an order for the four of them to go out and clear the grass in an area near the prison because construction work. But will start the next day. However, the strange thing was that only the four of them went out to perform this task. Our hero wondered why the guard asked for just the four of them. Especially at that time, he felt something was wrong. They started working on the grass, and then the prisoner came and approached Guillaume. He said, "You're a very close friend of Young's, right?" Guillaume asks, "What kind of weird question is that?" The prisoner continues as he stabs Guillaume in the stomach. "To me, you two are very close." And here comes Namin calling out, saying, I think I was in the area with more grass. How about we swap?" But as soon as he arrives, he's shocked by the scene before him. Meanwhile, our hero is a bit further away. He hears the screaming, so he runs quickly toward them and asks what happened. The prisoner is standing there, holding a knife in his hand, and replies to him, "You're very late. Can you understand now why he wanted me to come here?" We go back in time a bit to when Kang was sitting with this prisoner and telling him, "I think your fangs are ready now, so you can slit the victim's throat." The prisoner answers, "I'm ready to finish off anything for you, father." Kang continues, "Yes, of course you will. There's something I want you to do for me first. First, I want you to get among the people, Yong's people, and then make sure that no one interferes between you. Second, keep your eye on Yong, and I want you to find out who his closest friends are. And finally, I want you to finish them off while Yong is watching." And here the prisoner continues after having explained to our hero what happened. All of this was but our hero cuts him off. He says to him, "So I'd become stronger, right?" Suddenly, the prisoner hears a voice from behind him saying, "But this isn't a normal relationship between a father and son." The other one standing behind him says as well, "How can you take orders from someone like that?" The prisoner looks at them and replies, "But how are you two still alive? The wounds I gave you should have finished both of you off." Of course, those two, everyone, are Namin and Ji-yoom, and we see them removing the things from under their shirts, and Ji-yoom says, "It had to be pigskin because it smells really bad. He thought he'd finished us off. I told you, this stuff looks just like human skin." And here, our hero Yong says, "I know what Kang wanted, but I was wondering how far he'd go and what he'd do in his mission to make his son stronger. At first, I didn't think he'd repeat the old experiment. It gives you a ready-made reaction. And I can't take any more of this." And here, our hero lands a hard punch to his face, sending him flying. And we learn the prisoner's story, how everyone abandoned him when he was a young boy. See, at first his father suspected his wife, doubting he was his son, and told her to get rid of him. So she went to an orphanage and handed him over. And also, the orphanage director abandoned him because he saw him as a gloomy boy who started affecting his peers. Even the gang he was with were going to sell him to someone. But no one wanted to buy him because he was so thin and in poor health. They thought whoever bought him would sell him to someone in China or Korea. But this time the boy escaped. He managed to break the chain tied to his leg and fled to the street. And there he decided he was ready to do anything to not stay in that situation. We see Yu telling this story to Joe as they're driving back in the car. She tells him, "He was wandering the streets like a dog until I found him and brought him to the boss." Joe replies, "I see he's very loyal to the boss because he doesn't want to be thrown out on the street again." Yu continues, "This has become very interesting, don't you think? Because it's going to be a battle between two kids that Kang raised himself." And we return to our hero after he hit the prisoner, telling his friends to go back and tell the officer. So Ji-yoom asks, "You want us to call for help?" Namin continues, "But why? We can handle him on our own." Yong tells them, "Right now we're playing chess, and this game was set up by the prison director on Kang's orders. I'm sure they'll cover up anything that happens to us here today. So go and tell the officer to come here and take his body. And we go to Yuzkar, who says, in your opinion, who do you think might win between them? Joe replies, both of them were raised and trained by the president. And indeed, guys, the fight between them begins, and we see both of them. They are landing blows on each other at the same time, and both of them retreat in the same manner. They even kick each other with the same method and technique. And the powerful punches happen at the same moment, to the point that the impact is the same for both of them. Joe continues, at first, their techniques will be very similar to each other, as if they are both looking in a mirror. You asks him, do you mean that they are at the same level? And we go back to our hero and the prisoner, who tells him they are very similar. The prisoner throws a punch at our hero, who grabs his hand and pulls it, breaking it for him and pushing him against the rock, saying, not at all. It's true we learned from the same man, but that doesn't mean you're at my level. And here, our hero lands a blow on his face, causing the wall behind him to shatter from its force. The prisoner gets angry, grinds his teeth, and grabs our hero's hand, trying to break it too, and says, it seems he taught you very well. Our hero looks at his arm and says, so you're going to use this technique now to impose your strength, but this won't work on you. And here, our hero is shocked when he hears the sound of bones. Who in his fingers. He finds the prisoner biting his fingers, making them bleed. Our hero is in great pain and kicks the prisoner in the stomach. Then he holds his injured hand, and the prisoner says as he attacks him, I don't care if I use my strength or my techniques. My only goal is to carry out my father's orders and finish you off. But before he finishes, our hero grabs him by the face, slams him into the ground with terrible force, and tells him, don't mention that man ever again unless you want to. Die in pain. And here, our hero kicks him hard with all his might, sending him flying. We see Yu has parked the car, gets out, and lights a cigarette, saying, yes, indeed, I don't think this orphan boy is capable of defeating the young master in a battle. Joe tells her, yes. Of course, as long as they fight with their hands, but everything could change as soon as one of them holds a weapon in his hand. And indeed, guys, the prisoner picks up the daggers that were on the ground and attacks our hero with them, cutting his face, and says, my father once told me that I am very talented in using weapons, and he gave me this knife to learn with, and all the scars and scratches on my body happened while I was learning how to use it with my father. I don't care how strong or talented you are, or even that you're my father's real son, but today you're going to die at my hands just as he wanted. Of course, here the prisoner starts playing with the knives and attacks our hero, dealing him many blows, which he tries to dodge with difficulty. And in the end, he trips over the toolbox and falls to the ground. He looks towards the prisoner who's playing with the knives and preparing them to attack our hero, who then stands up holding a saw and says, I warned you not to mention that man again if you didn't want to die in pain. I told you that 4 times. Now you're calling him dad, and you've said it 4 more times. Do you think he didn't teach me how to use a sword when I'm actually his real son? What do you think of this? It'll perform beautifully. This saw will make you suffer as it cuts through you. It won't spare anything. Not your skin, your muscles, your nerves, your blood vessels, or even your bones. I just hope you're excited about the idea of me cutting you into 4 pieces with this saw. The truth is, guys, there was a man named Miyamoto. This man was the greatest swordsman in Japan, known for winning over 60 battles. The sword art he used was called the dual sword art. This technique used to scare many swordsmen because it was a very powerful technique. The battle begins between our hero and the new prisoner, who attacks with 2 swords and strikes our hero with terrible speed. He thinks that this prisoner is using the dual sword art, seeing that his movements are very fast. Just by using the dual sword art, it causes intense psychological pressure because the opponent has 2 weapons. So our hero knows that the situation will be very dangerous. Indeed, with a quick move where the prisoner strikes with the sword, we see him cutting off some of our hero's hair. But our hero manages to block the attack with the saw in his hand. And here the prisoner says, this saw is a tool they use to cut wood. And this is something no one has been able to use in a technique against swordsmen and defeat them for 1,000 years. He then attacks our hero, striking him quickly from the right and left, to the point that our hero retreats quickly while blocking his fast strikes. The prisoner continues, since I was young, I have been training in sword skills, and these 2 swords were given to me by my father. Of course, the prisoner finishes his words at the moment he strikes our hero with the sword and wounds him in the chest. We go back in time a bit to when the prisoner was still young and training under Kang. At that time, Joe was giving them a lesson on the weak points in the human body. He tells them that these points, once stabbed, will cause the victim to die immediately, and that they are currently training on games. But in real life, they will face people, and those people will defend themselves fiercely, meaning they won't be able to focus well on these points while in battle. The solution is to distract the opponent through combined attacks, and they must never hesitate when finishing off their opponent. because the fate of a hunting dog that can't get the job done is to be abandoned and thrown into the street. And he tells them at the end that the lessons are over for today. Tomorrow is the test day, and they should go rest now. We see the boy sitting alone in the room, and one of the kids comes and tells him, "There's a very loud sound coming from your stomach saying you're hungry. You're the rookie our dad found in the street, aren't you? I made this food for myself, but you can share it with me if you want. You know, kimchi and fried rice is the dish I make best." The boy leaves the plate in front of the prisoner, who starts eating from it. So the boy says to him, "Looks like someone is really hungry. Take this spoon. I guess you're here because you don't have a family. You can consider me your brother from today on. And if you crave any kind of food, just let me know right away." The next day, everyone, we go to the test and see this boy lying on the ground with the prisoner sitting on top of him, stabbing him with a dagger and finishing him off while the other kids stand around them. And Kang is watching what's happening and says, "You passed. You all saw that the most skilled boy among you died in the test because he hesitated. The one who wins in this battle must be ruthless. He must never hesitate. And that's how he can become a hunting dog. Take these, boy. From this moment on, Ed, these two swords will be your fangs." And he throws him the two swords that stay with him until this moment. And we go back to the present time in the battle between our hero and the prisoner, who tells him, "My family abandoned me. Even the orphanage threw me into the street, and the gang I joined left me too. But my father took me under his wing and then gave me a second chance at life. He really is my father in every sense of the word. I finished off my colleagues whom I used to eat with and sleep next to, and I also finished off the strangers. And all of this for my father. And today you'll join the list with them. I'm going to sink my fangs into your neck." Of course, the prisoner keeps launching quick attacks on our hero, moving nimbly, using the two swords and dealing blows to our hero, who blocks them with the saw in his hand. And here, the prisoner continues. "Strange. It's clear that you are my prey. And even the fiercest predators retreat under pressure. But why, young, does it look like you're trying to hunt me?" Our hero remembers when he was young, and his father is training him holding a knife in his hand, and Kang says to him, "Do it now, stab me, young. One strike will be enough. You can play with the sword a lot. But all of this is useless if you can't find the weak points. Look, son, if I ever faced you as an opponent, and he had a sword in his hands, remember that this story has nothing to do with how many times you strike. The most important thing is to focus on avoiding the fatal blows. And wait for the right moment when the opponent gives you an opening. And here you'll find a flaw in the opponent's defense. Stab him there. Don't forget that your sword must drink blood as long as it's in your hand. And if that doesn't happen, then your opponent will stab you in the heart and finish you off." Of course, here Kang hits our hero's hand and knocks the knife out of it. So our hero cries from the terror of the situation. And we go back to the battle. The prisoner is then swinging the sword in front of our hero, who attacks him quickly and blocks his blow with the saw. And here the prisoner aims the two swords at our hero, who blocks them quickly while looking at him. So the prisoner is surprised and says, "It seems you're waiting for something while blocking my attacks." But that's useless, because this is where it ends. Young replies, "Actually, I am waiting for something. I was waiting to see your weak point, and I've already found it." Our hero attacks him with the saw, landing a heavy blow to his chest. The prisoner falls to the ground, and our hero stands over him saying, "I was waiting for your final attack. You're right. Handling a saw wasn't comfortable. If I had a sword, I could have cut your throat with that attack." Of course, our hero remembers his father's words, that the sword in his hand must drink blood. He looks at the saw embedded in the tree next to the prisoner's neck and says, "You know, there's still plenty of room to use this saw. Imagine these jagged edges sinking into your skin, then reaching your bone and slicing through it. Imagine your arteries and nerves all getting mangled together. You know, that's something a sword can't do." He grabs the saw and starts moving it through the tree toward the prisoner's neck, who replies to our hero, "So, you think you can actually do it? You've never finished off a man before. You think you're going to finish me now? Go on, drive this saw into my neck, but if you can't, I'll finish off everyone you know. And then I'll rip your heart out with my bare hands." Our hero pulls out the saw and holds it to the prisoner's face, saying, "You're starting to annoy me." Then our hero strikes the tree with the saw and it breaks. He continues, "How embarrassing, the saw broke. Anyway, I don't see any reason to get my hands dirty with you. I was sure you'd keep bleeding for the next few hours." Our hero then leaves him and walks away. The prisoner is puzzled, wondering why our hero, after pulling the saw and facing him, broke it and left him instead of striking his neck. We now go to the prison infirmary, where Naman is sitting with his stomach bandaged, saying, "Doctor, this hurts so much. I'm telling you, a new kid stabbed me in our cell." Ji-yoom is sitting next to him and replies, "The knife didn't even reach you." Naman gets angry. "Shut up, Ji-yoom. My feelings are crushed, okay? And now I want to go to the private wing of the infirmary." Ji-yoom continues, "Why didn't you say so from the start? That's what you really wanted all along." Naman says to him, "I still can't believe he attacked and beat us after everything we did for him." We see our hero, his body wrapped in bandages, sitting on the bed. Ji-yoom looks at him and says, By the way, did you hit him that hard? I heard he was rushed to the hospital because his injuries were critical. Our hero looks at the floor, thinking that the boy didn't bleed to death and survived. But after this battle, our hero now knows what Kang wants and is planning. He knows he'll eliminate everyone around him and those he cares about just to make him angrier. Secondly, he wants a state of chaos around him by putting the people nearby in danger. And thirdly, he wants his hands stained with blood so our hero turns into a monster. Even when our hero was capable of finishing off the prisoner, he hesitated when he saw him so desperate for death. He says to himself, I think Kang still wants to treat me like a toy, even while I'm in prison. And that's just disgusting. Namin approaches him and asks, Are you in pain? You really scared me, honestly. Are you okay? Want me to tell them to take you to a more comfortable room? Ji-um responds by telling him to be quiet. Our hero is holding his arm, pressing down on it as it bleeds. He says to himself, You can think whatever you want, but I'll play this game by my rules because I'm the king in this prison. And the day will come when only my rules will apply. Outside the prison, an ambulance is taking the prisoner to the hospital. And here, the prisoner starts saying no repeatedly. He remembers when he was young, there was a dog in front of him, and two men were holding it, wondering why it was acting so strangely. One of them says, I think even the dumbest dog knows when it's about to be abandoned. This dog was a hunting dog when it was young, but now it doesn't do anything, and our job now is to take care of it. Later, the prisoner as a child hides behind a wall and hears Kang telling one of the boys, So you failed. I didn't think this mission would be so difficult. You've disappointed me. And I have no use for a hunting dog that can't get the job done. Throw this kid out. Of course, all these memories show the prisoner that as soon as he returns to Kang, he'll be cast aside and abandoned. So he says, No, it's better for me to die than to be abandoned. He pulls the IV out of his hand and runs to the car door, trying to open it, saying, If I go back now, my father will throw me away. Why won't the door open? Then the nurse in the car says to him, How dare you try to escape from the Dragon organization? A dog that tries to escape will be watched constantly and caught quickly. Do you have any last words you want to say? Of course, everyone, this nurse reveals his face and we find out he's Joe. As the prisoner approached, a sword was plunged into his back and came out the other side. The prisoner answers with difficulty, Thank you for finishing me off before anyone could abandon me. Joe looks at him in surprise. After a while, the car pulls over and Joe gets out and calls Kang, saying, Yes, boss, I finished this, but I saw he had many wounds as soon as he got into the ambulance. But those wounds weren't enough to finish him off. Of course, Kang is in a meeting and answers Joe, Yes, yes, my son. Understood. I'll talk to you later. After Kang hangs up, one of those present asks him if he has any problem with his son, so Kang laughs loudly and the man continues. It seems the news you received is good. Kang looks at him and says, Does it show that I'm in a good mood? The man gets confused and apologizes to him, and Kang continues. Raising a child is a very difficult thing, isn't it? I mean, imagine I handed him the prey on a silver platter, but he didn't finish it off. I have to find a better way to train him well. And here the phone rings, and it's the prison calling him. So he answers and asks what happened. So the director answers, You have to hear this, sir. Young. I mean, Mr. Young is doing things that don't make sense. Kang is surprised by his words, and the director continues, Your son is doing crazy things now. And of course, we see in the laundry room a group of armed men beaten and thrown on the ground. After that, we see our hero's colleagues standing at the window and looking shocked at the courtyard. And Kang asks the director about the crazy things he's talking about and asks him to tell him the details. So the director answers, Your son is in great danger now and might even die. We see our hero standing in the courtyard in front of a group of prisoners who all look like gang members, preparing himself to fight them. And we go back in time several years. And on a winter day, Kang was traveling to eastern Siberia to buy weapons from the Russian mafia. And of course, this area cannot be monitored by the government. But when he arrived at the place, there was nothing in front of him but the mutilated bodies of the mafia. Then a giant bear appeared, which was the one that had mutilated all these men's bodies. At that moment, Kang knew as he faced this horror that he couldn't move in front of it. And of course, this story was being told by Kang to our hero, who was saying, I mean, this bear skin. Kang interrupts him and says, Yes, I'm the one who finished it off with my own hands. Our hero continues, I can't believe this. You said the bear finished off all the mafia men. Kang replies, I was able to finish it off because of my ability that I learned myself. Look, my son, you'll be in this high school soon, and the time has come for me to teach you how to transcend human limits. And I call this method the mutation. We return to our hero in the laundry room, saying Kang, my father, wanted to make me stronger on his terms without putting me in real danger. It would be very upsetting for him if his only son died or was seriously harmed. But I'd rather die than be a toy in his hands. One of those present replies, What are you talking about? The one next to him replies, Listen, kid, tell us where you put the money you stole from the stores. Young continues, So I decided to do something he'll hate and put myself in great danger. Of course, our hero is sitting on the running washing machine with a small box next to it. And here one of them replies, "Wait, don't tell me you put all the money in the washing machine. Are you crazy? We have to pay this money to the prison warden. And if we can't pay him all at once, then all the stores will stop." Our hero says he knows. And one of them continues, "Enough talk. Get this kid, let's beat him up and take him to the bosses." They hit our hero in the face and he tells him they can come to me. So all the men attack him from everywhere. But our hero, with quick moves, beats them all and says, "You're a bunch of rats. I want the bosses." One of them replies to him, "You animal. Do you think you can order the bosses to come here?" Our hero runs and punches him in the face, slamming him to the ground after they've all been beaten and thrown down. Someone stands at the door and says, "I guess you're one of the bosses, right, guys? We're all going in now." There's a group of prisoners standing behind this man. They enter the laundry room, and after a while, we see the whole place covered in blood. And all the prisoners are lying on the ground, our hero says. I don't think anyone will feel threatened when surrounded by a bunch of idiots. But that's not enough. Our hero goes towards the door and leaves the room. And here we see the white-haired guy coming out of a box in the room saying, "I stole the money from the stores because he asked me to." But the rest of the bosses won't be involved in what happened. I wonder what he'll do next. And how is he planning to save himself? I can't expect anything from him, and I wish someone would tell me how this story will end. After a while, we see our hero sitting in the prison yard alone, and here someone approaches him and says, "Are you here, Young? I heard you put all my money in the washing machine." Of course, this man, guys, is named Juwan, and he's the boss of Cell 21. Our hero replies to him, "Yes. Haven't you heard of money laundering?" Juwan continues, "Young, you have no idea who you've stood against. Do you think I'm the only boss who lost his money because of you?" Of course, at this moment, a group of cell bosses approach and stand around our hero, and one of them says, "I watched you for an hour from the boss's meeting, and I knew you'd do something stupid." Of course, this is Gyosang, and he's the boss of cell number 4. Another boss named Sigun approaches and says, "This story is very cool. I like strong men who are unpredictable." Two bosses come, one named Jihuan and the other named Jion, and they say they didn't like our hero. Another one named Hyunsu approaches and screams loudly like a madman saying, "Give me back my money." And here there's a huge guy named Ryu. He approaches our hero and says, in this case, all the stores will close. There's a boss wearing glasses named Lee, and he replies to them, "This kid's family looks rich. How about we make you pay us 3 times our loss?" And we see our hero's colleagues standing at the window, and Namin says, "Isn't that Yong?" Jihum replies, "Yes, and the rest of these are all bosses." Namin continues, "This situation is very strange. They don't have a meeting today." Jihum says, "You're right. I'm also uneasy about this meeting." Namin continues, "Yes, indeed, it looks like they want to finish him off." And here, a guy named Min Chel, the leader of Cell 1, approaches and says, "Young, this is your first and last chance to say why you did that." Our hero replies, "You want a justification, so everyone standing here is going to wait to hear it." And indeed, 2 of them attack him then, saying that people who cause trouble must be destroyed immediately. The 2 of them reach our hero's face and are about to strike him. And we go back to Kang after he told our hero he'd teach him about the mutation. And at that time, he told him there are 2 parts related to this matter. First, one must transcend their limits through their emotions, because in this mutation, all your abilities will increase. Watch closely and see what happens. And indeed, Kang strikes the stone table in front of him, shattering it to pieces, and continues. And in this way, you will have reached the final lesson. And we return to the arena and see our hero taking a breath, jumping into the air and striking the 2 who attacked him, slamming them into the ground with incredible force. The rest of the leaders are surprised by his strength, and his colleagues are standing at the window, unable to believe how he managed to finish off 2 of the leaders. Of course, the white-haired guy is standing at a distance watching and says to himself, "What is this?" I was thinking about how I would find a way for him to get himself out of this mess, but it seems he was planning from the start to finish them all off. And here our hero says, "I didn't intend to use the power he planted inside me, but I'm forced to use it now." Of course, guys, in America in 2003, there was a housewife who managed to flip a car to save her daughter who was under the wheel. And in 79, specifically in North Korea, there was a person who escaped the dictatorial rule in the country and kept swimming in the sea for 12 full hours. The sea was very, very cold at that time until he reached safety. As for 1732 in Africa, there was a man who managed to fight with his spear for 47 seconds after his heart stopped. And of course, he was fighting against a rival tribe to his own. These stories, guys, have continued to happen all over the world. And these were considered like supernatural phenomena to the point that humans transcend their natural abilities. But this isn't just a coincidence or a miracle. Rather, these things happen because of emotions like fear, anger, and despair. And all these emotions reach their maximum limit to the point that they affect the body itself and become known as the mutation. And this mutation is the only way through which a human can transcend all the limits imposed on them. And of course, all of this was happening with our hero because the emotions that grew inside him brought him to the state of mutation. And the reason for these emotions was the immense anger towards his father, Kang. We then see the prison director looking out the window and saying, "What's happening here? Isn't that Young with the cell leaders? I don't understand what he's doing." Our hero is standing in the arena and says, "Believe me, I didn't want to do this. But you see, in the event that I use this power he planted inside me, then I must make sure that he is the only thing I'm thinking about." At the same time, I feel disgusted because I'm thinking about him. One of the leaders approaches him and says, "Do you think you're a hero in a cartoon series or a movie? Stop that nonsense you're talking about. You're all alone here, you animal. And I'm the only one here who's always been alone." And this boss, Hyun-soo, attacks our hero. And of course, guys, when Hyun-soo was young, he hated hearing kids playing and laughing because he had no friends. So he decided to silence those kids in his own way. But people started treating him like he'd done something truly terrible. And the moment our hero arrives, he hits Hyun-soo with incredible speed, knocking him to the ground. The other bosses are shocked by what happened, and our hero says, "No one asked you what or who you are." Then Lee attacks him, holding small daggers in his hand, and says to him, "I have to cut your Achilles tendon." I wonder what kind of sound it'll make. The truth is, guys, this crazy Lee loves hearing the sound of tendons and ligaments snapping. He gets a real thrill whenever he hears it. People used to call him a genius when he was young because he connected so quickly with musical notes and sounds. But everything changed overnight, and it completely altered Lee's state of mind. Of course, our hero raises his leg with incredible speed, kicks Lee in the face, and slams him to the ground. We see Lee's face is completely smashed from the blow. Our hero's friends are watching from above, and Namin says, "What is this? What's going on?" Guillaume replies, "He managed to take out 4 of the bosses." Our hero looks at Lee and says, "Stop wasting my time." Then Ryu attacks him, landing a punch that sends him flying back until he hits the fence. And he says, "Fine, I won't waste your time. I'm already sick of your nonsense anyway." And Ryu, guys, has never known the taste of defeat in his entire life. He just can't accept it. Because he always protects his people, so he has to win no matter what happens. But here, our hero attacks him, punches him in the face, sends him flying, and knocks him to the ground. Everyone watching from the windows is stunned when they see what happened. And our hero says, "Didn't you hear me? None of you should bother me while I'm using this ability." But suddenly, the 2 brothers, Ji-hwan and Ji-won, attack him, and they tell him together that their mother didn't love them. And of course, these 2 brothers saw that in their mother's eyes, even when they were newborns, because her gaze was so cold towards them. And over time, that gaze turned into brutal treatment. Of course, our hero hits them both with incredible speed and says, "Don't anyone mention their family to me again?" And the white-haired guy is sitting on the roof watching everything that's happening below when he says that's why he feels all this confidence, because he's turned the prison upside down and ruined everything. Then Sejun attacks our hero and says to him, "Come here, gorgeous, let's dance together. Wala, etalo tinaway elan elota." Of course, Sejun was always a shady guy. And the most important thing for him is that the people he's with must be strong, because these days everyone has their own taste and way of thinking. And as soon as Sejun reaches our hero, he grabs him by the face and slams him to the ground. Then the last boss, Min Cheol, says, "Excellent. You managed to defeat all 8 bosses with such ease. I'll face you with full respect as a member of the Dragon Organization." Our hero replies as he readies himself, "So the last one left is a Dragon member. Very nice." Min Cheol continues, "Now let's fight with all our strength." Of course, everyone is standing there watching, waiting to see what will happen. They both charge at each other. And after a while, we see our hero standing next to Min Cheol, who's lying on the ground, and he says, "That makes 9. But the story took longer than I expected. We see the prison director talking on the phone saying, "Honestly, this can't be physically possible. I've never seen anything like what just happened before." Kang replies, "Stop shouting and speak clearly. Is my son okay?" But before the director can answer, he sees our hero approaching and says, "Wait, why is he coming toward me?" "Stay right there." Our hero stands before him, and the director looks at him in fear. Then our hero takes the phone and says to his father, "It's been a long time, Dad." On the prison roof, the white-haired guy stands clapping and says, "Bravo. That fight deserved to go down in history. I wish I had my phone so I could have recorded it. What I just saw makes me feel so glad to be alive. I've witnessed something truly great. I never knew I'd find this level of excitement in a juvenile prison." We return to our hero after he told his father it's been a long time. Kang replies, "How are you, my son?" "I hope they're treating you well." Young continues, "Yes, they're treating me well. I mean, I get hot showers and even have time to train. Actually, I think I'm happier here than I was at home. Except for one thing, the only downside here is the boring routine. But don't worry, life's more fun now, especially after the gift you sent me." Kang says, "I'm glad you're doing well. But may I ask why you're acting so recklessly?" Our hero answers, "I want out. You control this prison however you want." Kang asks him if he wants to leave. Our hero replies, yes, I found out about that place. Kang is about to speak, but our hero cuts him off, saying, shut up. I suggest you write your will, because I'm coming for you soon. And our hero hangs up on him. Kang just stands there, frozen in place. Later, in the director's office, the guards are on the floor with their hands on their heads. He says, all these guards, and not one of you could stop a single cell leader? Do you all want to be fired? They all apologize in unison. The director continues, this is a disaster. I can't believe that animal upended the whole prison, even though I have the best guards here. The guards apologize again. The director stands and walks to the window, saying, this is out of my hands. We can't keep him here. Argo Sancho. One guard asks, sir, do you mean you're sending him somewhere else? The director continues, this must stay a secret. If Kang hears about it, he'll finish me off instantly. No father in the world would agree to send his son to that place. Now to our hero's cell. He's sitting there looking at the food he ordered, saying, guys, I'm starving. Maybe it's because I've been moving around so much lately. What are you waiting for? Let's eat. The whole cell gathers around the food, happy because there's so much of it. There's a variety of things like pizza, chicken, and meat. They express their heartfelt gratitude to our hero for the delicious meal, calling him their big boss and saying they'll pray for him every single day. Namin replies, listen, you two, don't act like you're close to him. I'm his right-hand man. Got it? Anyway, Sir isn't just any cell leader. This is the best cell leader in the prison. He's the leader who managed to take out 9 leaders in a single fight. One of them replies while he's eating. That means our cell is the top cell in the whole prison, and no one can stop us anymore. Ji-Yum is holding a slice of pizza, and Namin asks him, what do you think of the pizza, Ji-Yum? So Ji-Yum tells him that the pizza tastes good, but he looks toward our hero who's sitting in front of the locker and asks what he's doing there. Namin calls out to him and says the food's going to get cold. So our hero replies, you guys eat because it'll be hard for you to order food from outside again, so you should eat now while you still can. Namin gets startled, approaches him and asks, what's the problem? Did something happen? Our hero gives him some books and says, take these, you can use them if you want. Because you're really good with the ideas you come up with, and that means you're very smart. And now you can look at these books when you're bored. Namin is surprised by his words and says, how did you know I was smart? In that case, watch out, because I might get into the top university at this rate. Ji-Yum is watching him, surprised by what's happening. So our hero approaches him, gives him notebooks, and says, take these. If you think about it, they'll be useful. I always used to see you sitting in the corner doodling in your notebook. Try writing a letter to someone in your family or something like that. Maybe your parents are worried about you right now. Ji-Yum replies, as for me, I don't have anyone to write to. But what's the story? Why are you acting in this strange way? Namin continues, wait a second, why are you really acting like this? First you ordered food from outside for us. And on top of that, you're giving us your things and saying these nice things. It's like you're leaving. Yong is silent for a moment and answers, you're really very smart and you catch on quickly. At that moment, the guard arrives at their cell, looks through the window, calls our hero and says, I hope you said your goodbyes. Come on, prisoner 7,199, pack your things because the time has come. They're all shocked by what happened and Namin says, said our goodbyes. What's going on? Are you going back to solitary or are they moving you to another cell? Yong replies, you guys won't be able to see me here again. And that's because of what I did last time. Don't forget, there's something I have to do here. And this is the best option to reach my goal. Namin stands up and says, wait, Yong, I didn't even get to say goodbye to you. Our hero looks at him after reaching the door and says, thank you guys for keeping me happy. And I can say that I've had a really good time here. I hope when we meet again, it'll be outside of a cell. Namin cries and says to him, thanks for everything, Yong. Take care of yourself and don't you dare die, okay? Ji-Yum replies, and I'll say what I said before. I'll be here for 20 more years. You can come back whenever you want, and I'll be waiting. Our hero smiles at them and leaves the cell, saying he'll see what happens. We go to Kang's villa and see him standing outside, saying that being a father is a very difficult thing. Why can't he understand that I'm simply trying to look out for him? He's not ready yet to break out of the cage and leave. All that will happen is he'll find himself in a bigger cage filled with even more poisonous insects. This might be the greatest challenge of all the challenges you'll face in your life, my son. We return to the prison and see the guard walking at night with our hero by the fence asking him, do you know where we're taking you? This matter is top secret. But I think now that we've arrived here, I can tell you where we're going. We have another prison, but no one on the outside knows anything about it. Our hero looks at the sign hanging on the fence and finds it says the second wing of the prison. And our hero remembers when he was in the laundry room thinking he must find a way to escape his father's control and attack him sooner. Then the white-haired guy comes and says to him, do you want to hear something funny? So our hero says no. So the white-haired guy continues, look, it's just a legend they talk about, nothing more. But the word is that there's another prison here. See that forest over there? There's another prison right after it, and the people in there are the worst people you could ever meet in your life. This idea is crazy, right? But don't think about it too much because it's just a story. He says that to Yong. All right, then, I still have a request I want to ask of you. I want you to take all the boss's money and give it to the prison warden. And we go back to our hero and the guard who says we've arrived. This is your new place. And the prison here contains the most violent and out of control people. Welcome to the second wing of the Juvenile Detention Center. We see Yuhi in the bathtub drinking wine and saying, when one takes a shower in the Hakone Yumoto hot springs, it's a very great thing. But I'm upset because I'm enjoying myself while Mr. Young is suffering somewhere else. I'm really worried about him because the second wing of this juvenile prison is full of sharks. And we go back to the prison and see the guard opening the door and saying, this is the second wing. I heard you were making a big mess in the first wing. Let's see if you can do that here. Our hero enters behind him, thinking that this wing is reserved for people they can't control. And of course, our hero Young is ready for any situation. They are walking in the hallway, and one of the prisoners appears in front of them and says, we have someone new. You look like you're very good, don't you? The guard answers him, where are you going? Stop right there, 4,889. Of course, here our hero sees that he will find out for himself now why no one can control his cellmates here. The prisoner passes by them normally, puts the mask back on his face, and says, I'm going to the infirmary. I told you this morning, you forgot. The guard says, it seems I forgot. Let's go. He and our hero continue walking, and there are prisoners cleaning the hallway. So our hero says to himself, strange matter, I don't see any of them who could be considered out of control. They even seem like they're all normal. And here one of the prisoners says, guys, does anyone want to submit a request for personal items? Our hero and the guard continue their way, and our hero keeps asking himself, what's happening here? The guard says, you're shocked because this place is very normal, aren't you? Don't worry, you'll find out for yourself very soon. The secret in this place. Let's go. We've almost reached the director's office. They pass by a picture of a shark biting a sea lion, and inside the director's office, whose name is One, we see him standing in front of the fish tank saying, fish, coral, sand, and the temperature between 24 and 28. Humidity from 50 to 70%. And light reaches it for 8 to 12 hours. Water acidity is 6.5. And when we add 5 to 7 oxygen, one can create the perfect environment in this tank. He'll have a complete ecosystem in his hands, and it will be very harmonious and beautiful. When I look inside this tank, I feel like a king. I created the system in this wing after being inspired by this fish tank. I wanted everything to run with order and beauty. The average number of incidents in prisons during the year is about 20%. But in this prison, the rate is considered next to nothing. Impressive, isn't it? Because when you think that this place houses the most violent prisoners yet runs with such order and peace, it's truly remarkable. I'd like to know the thoughts of our new prisoner. Young replies, I have no idea what you're even talking about. One continues, oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes my words are a bit complex. Let me simplify it further for you. In this tank, there are all kinds of fish, but they don't attack each other like they do in the ocean or the sea. On the contrary, they maintain the peace between them. Do you know the reason behind this? Imagine with me that this tank is isolated from the outside world, and there's a terrifying predator at the top of the food chain, which is the shark. While the ocean is a vast place with no end, in this tank, the fish have nowhere to escape. As for the predator, the shark, it has the power to intimidate any fish there and prevent them from attacking each other. It's strange that the predator is the sole reason for peace, isn't it? Now I'd like to hear your thoughts as you're the new shark in my fish tank. We return to you after she finished her shower. We see her sitting and saying, the director of the second wing in the juvenile prison was a famous social and criminal psychologist. He had a presence at international conferences, but everyone was shocked when he suddenly returned to Korea and started working as a director in a juvenile prison. This man was a huge headache for me, because the director of the first wing was easy to buy with money or even blackmail. But nothing worked with One. The only thing he cares about is the social system he created in the juvenile prison, which he called the shark paradox or something like that. But I wonder what the government is thinking to accept something like this in prison. I think this director has another side to his life, and that side will show once he removes the mask of the scientist he works as. It will be a big challenge for you then, Mr. Young. We go back to Director One's office, and our hero replies, you think I'm a shark in a fish tank? One replies, yes, of course. All the prisoners I've met here are just fish, coral, sand, and temperature. I won't go through the whole list. But amidst all these conditions and their integration, this prison has become the fish tank. And your only job is to swim as you please as the apex predator in this environment. Young says to him, I still don't understand your idea, nor do I understand what you're even saying. And I'm also completely uninterested. If you're done talking, I'd like to be excused. A hero walks towards the door. One replies, as a scientist, I always get excited when explaining my theory to people who don't understand it. Suddenly, he attacks our hero, grabs him by the neck, slams him against the wall, and says, now allow me to help you understand. Folks, one was a dual citizen, holding both Korean and American nationalities. He taught social psychology at one of the most prestigious schools in America. All of his research received immense recognition from the academic community in the States. Even the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development and the Tech Institute's Research Center offered him positions, but he chose to return to Korea instead. Despite all that, we see him sitting in a restaurant with two others, saying, this is the scent of Korea. It's truly wonderful. One of those sitting with him replies, Doctor, it's a great honor for us that you chose Korea. Allow me to express my gratitude to you. One continues, there's no need to talk about that. The man says to him, we requested this meeting today because we have some concerns given your appointment as the juvenile prison director. As you know, some inmates who committed violent crimes can't be contained by a regular juvenile prison. Even the existing prison system in Korea can't control them. And you proposed a social correction experiment. After much effort, we managed to get approval for this to create the juvenile prison wing number 2. But if the experiment fails and we can't control the inmates in the second wing, the man suddenly goes quiet when he sees one unbuttoning his shirt and saying, I'm sorry, excuse me. The food here is very spicy. Of course, folks. The reason the government agreed to one's idea wasn't just his research and achievements, but also his immense military capability, which allows him to suppress violent criminals in emergencies. You see, one was a former member of a special operations unit in the army, and also a sociologist. We head back to the prison after he grabbed our hero by the neck and pinned him to the wall, saying, a sociologist's duty is to discover the phenomena that occur. I wonder what kind of shark are you, Young? One raises his hand and strikes our hero with incredible force, shattering the wall with the impact. But we see that our hero managed to escape him. One continues, I must satisfy my curiosity now, and I think it's time for us to have a discussion. One moves with incredible speed, and we find him behind our hero, who's looking at the wall in surprise. Then one strikes him, sending him flying until he hits the desk and says, right now there are 4 sharks locked up here, and I've organized each of them into different groups, and now you've become the 5th shark. So tell me, what kind of shark are you? Of course, as he speaks, he's striking him left and right, and our hero tries to dodge his attacks until they reach the sink. Here, our hero blocks one strike, and one looks at him in shock, wondering how he blocked it, and says, what? I can't believe it. Wonderful, beautiful, truly great. I've never seen anything like this. Naturally, Young is puzzled by the director's words, who continues, Guard, bring them here. In this wing, we have a classification called special prisoner, but I personally like to call them sharks. But the higher-ups didn't approve of that name because they're very serious people. This black tag is now yours. In a regular juvenile prison, an ordinary criminal gets a white tag. A dangerous criminal is given a yellow tag, while those whose crimes involve contraband get a blue tag. As for those sentenced to death, their tag is red. Oh, yeah, nah. But here we have the white tag, which is for general prisoners, and the black tag for special prisoners. I'm sure you'll learn the meaning of these classifications as time goes by. The guard takes our hero from the office and leads him out. The warden remains standing, staring at the tank, and says, I attacked him 21 times. And that means Young had more opportunities to counterattack. I don't understand why he was acting like that, as if I were nothing to him. This kid is truly a massive mystery. And this is the first time I've met a fish I couldn't classify. I want to use every possible method to uncover his identity. But that's not how a researcher should behave. For now, I have nothing but observation and analysis, and to wait until I reveal his identity. In one of the cells in the second wing, we hear someone saying, we're all gonna die. His cellmate replies, what's wrong with you, man? What's going on? The prisoner continues, what a stupid question. They're putting a shark in the cell with us, his cellmate asks. So, you're scared? Don't worry, sir. I have a plan in mind. First, we'll try to blind him, then we'll strangle him with a rope, and when he's dead, we'll dump his body down the drain. The prisoner replies, someone get me out of here, please. His cellmate continues, think about it. This is the only way we can protect ourselves from the power of evil. But before he finishes, our hero enters the cell and says, this is the cell, right? Now, they're both shocked, looking at our hero and thinking to themselves, that's the shock. Step 1 is that we have to blind him. But one of them gets up and sits on the floor in front of him, saying, I'm your loyal pet, and my name is Tisan. Welcome, sir. His cellmate whispers, but we didn't agree on this. I'm so sorry. Please just finish me off now. No, let me finish myself off for you. And of course, the other one also sits on the floor in front of our hero. His name is Eon. Our hero looks at them and thinks these are the fish the warden was talking about. He looks around because this cell will be his new home. He says, "Good, not bad. Where's my bed?" They both get startled. Teisan goes to the bed and says, "Right here, sir. I've prepared the bed for you. Would you like to try it? The mattress is very comfortable." Our hero replies, "Not now. Let's wait until after the inspection and exploration." "What time is the evening roll call?" They're both surprised by the term evening roll call. One of them says, "We don't have those things here, sir. You won't see many guards around either. You can enjoy your freedom here." Our hero is surprised by the idea of freedom inside a juvenile prison. He wonders how incidents inside the prison are so rare, given there's no tight security. Time passes, night falls, and they're asleep in the cell. Taysan talks in his sleep saying, "Hydrochloric acid is very useful when someone wants to get rid of a body." I'm joking, I'm joking. Eon has his face covered with the blanket, also talking in his sleep while shivering, saying, "Mom, I'm so scared. Please, I want to be a little kid again." As for our hero, his eyes are closed, then he suddenly opens them, gets out of bed, and thinks to himself, in the second wing, incidents are almost non-existent. Even the guards do nothing to control the prisoners. And that can happen when there are 4 sharks in this place. But really, sharks? I must meet them soon. Our hero reaches for the door, pushes it, and says, "It's locked? I thought it stayed open." So the guards don't intervene directly, but we're still kept locked inside our cells. There's still a lot I don't know about this other wing. I need to gather more information. The next morning, our hero's cellmates wake up and Eon whispers, "Look, the shark is still asleep." Tai-san replies, "Let's dispose of his body in the drain now. Believe me, this plan will work. I'll hold his head while you tie him up." Eon continues, "Do I really have to do this?" "Okay, I'll try, but I don't know if I can succeed." Just then, our hero opens his eyes to find them both standing over him, ready to strike, so he says, "It's morning already." But as soon as they see he's awake, they drop to the floor instantly, and Tae-san says, "Good morning, sir." Young replies, "I'm feeling a bit hungry. Will they let us out for breakfast now?" Tae-san answers, "I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you mean. You can go out whenever you want. The door is open." Our hero is surprised the door isn't locked and says, "But this door was locked just a few hours ago." Tae-san replies, "Yes, because these doors open and close automatically based on the time. But generally, you're free to do as you please as long as the doors are open." Our hero stands outside his cell, thinking that everything here is different from the first wing. Back in the first wing of the juvenile prison, we see a luxury car parked in the prison lot. The man arriving at the prison says, "It looks like you're injured." The prisoner sitting with him in the car replies, "Yes, sir, but it's nothing. It was just a minor incident that passed." The man continues, "No matter. After all, young men your age are always fighting and getting into trouble, right? But you're a low-level person whose name I don't even know yet you call me and ask to meet. Do you know what that implies?" This prisoner, everyone, is Chan, whom our hero beat in the yard, and he says, "I didn't know you were coming. I expected you'd send someone else." The man continues, "Now, this boy named Young you're talking about has really caught my attention. And what's the story with this kid?" Chan answers, "Young was seeking out challenges from all the cell leaders in the prison. At first, I thought he was just some idiot until I noticed something strange. Every single person he fought in prison was a member of the Dragon Organization. And then I overheard the warden on the phone during the fight between the leaders and Yong. That's when I realized Yong's father is Kang, the second in command of our organization." The man is surprised and asks, "Are you certain about what you're saying?" Chan tells him that he is absolutely sure. The man opens his cigar case, takes one out, lights it, and continues. "So you're saying Kang's son is targeting Dragon Organization members inside the juvenile prison. But to me, this doesn't seem like it's just a coincidence. So, where is Kang's son now? Where can he be found?" In fact, this man, everyone, is the CEO of the Dragon Organization, and his name is Ong. We head to the prison's second wing, where a group of inmates are in the hallway, and one says, "That must be him." The one next to him replies, "Yeah, it has to be. He's the new black tag holder on our floor." Our hero is walking down the hall with Tai-san, who says, "Can you feel how much they fear and respect you, sir? I think you should crush these small fry under your feet." Young replies, "I don't like that kind of talk. But yo, what, where are the other black tag holders? I've only seen those with white tags around here. Are they too shy to come out or something?" Eon answers, "Not at all, sir. But the 4 black tag holders, or sharks as the warden calls them, are spread out, one on each floor. So you could say each floor is a shark's territory and your territory is the first floor, sir." Taysan continues, "I wanted to say one more thing. There's an unspoken rule that prisoners on each floor aren't allowed to enter other people's territories. As for those with black marks, they've never once entered anyone else's territory. I'm sure you can take care of yourself, but please stay alert. Of course, our hero turns away and continues on his way, thinking about how each shark has its own territory. Back in the car, Ong says, "So, Young has disappeared from the prison?" Chan replies, "Yes, sir. I heard he was transferred because he caused a lot of trouble, but that's all I know. I was going to finish that animal off as soon as my arm healed. I can't believe I let him slip through my fingers." Naturally, Chan gets angry and hits the car door with his casted hand. Ong says, "Have you forgotten who you're sitting with right now?" Chan answers, "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to raise my voice, But before he can finish, Ong tells him to get out of the car. And Chan indeed follows the order. When Ong is left alone, he says, "This is quite something." So Kang is secretly raising a little dragon here behind the organization's back. Maybe he wants to train him in prison so his son can be the new leader of the dragon organization. Quite intriguing, honestly. But since he's no longer in this prison, he must have been moved to the other wing. There are 4 sharks swimming in that tank. Each one is an apex predator. And they were all groomed by the dragon organization. In that case, Kang will be picking up his son in pieces once those sharks are done with him. We see our hero standing before the stairs saying, "So, the only thing I need to do is go up and meet the sharks. I guess there's no other way." And indeed, everyone, our hero, begins to climb the stairs. 2 hours earlier, our hero is in his cell's bathroom, washing his face and looking in the mirror, thinking, "This is very strange." I mean, the warden's goal is to investigate these phenomena. But the warden and the guards don't interfere with any of the prisoners. So how is he watching us? Here, our hero notices that as he looks in the mirror, he's appearing on a screen somewhere else. That place is where the warden is, with many screens in front of him. And this is the surveillance room. The warden is sitting there singing Baby Shark while writing in his notebook saying, "Excellent. 38 hours and 56 minutes have passed since the new shark entered the tank. And no unusual behavior has been noted so far. But his behavior is different from the other sharks. He's very ordinary, and that's why he's special." He's drinking his hot chocolate. He bangs the cup on the table, splashing his clothes, and continues, "Ugh, I've stained my tie again." Then a woman in a police uniform enters, approaches him, takes the tie, and asks, "Would you like me to clean it for you, Chief?" The warden replies, "Yes, please. Sorry to trouble you." The girl, named Soya, who's a manager in the other wing, continues, "What would you do without me, Mr. One?" "How about another cup of hot chocolate?" He replies, "Yes, please, but make it with skim milk." Soya looks at the desk and finds our hero's file, which has the 5th shark written on it. She's shocked when she sees that. On one of the screens, one of the 4 sharks is lying on a chair in the yard with a tattoo on his leg saying, "A 5th shark, huh?" And on another screen, one of them appears inside a cell as well with a tattoo on his hand, and he says, "Look, another colleague from the first wing has arrived." On a third screen, we see a group of prisoners sitting at a table with one of the sharks, and he asks, "I wonder what he did to end up here." And we see the 4th shark standing in the hall next to a chair, leaning on it with his hand and wearing glasses, saying, "Something really exciting indeed." Now we go to another place and see 2 people fencing, and one of them is executing fast strikes, moving quickly, and manages to defeat the other with total ease. So the second one sits on the ground after losing, and the first one takes the glove off his hand. And we see the tattoo on it. After removing the mask, he speaks in French and says, "It was an excellent match." Of course, this man is Ong, and here Suya enters the place, clapping and saying, "Bravo, it was a really great match." Ong replies to her, "Are you going to keep wearing your work clothes everywhere now?" Suya answers, "I actually went out on a mission, and if anyone saw me here, it would be a huge mess." Ong approaches her and says to her, "Something funny, isn't it? It's funny that the director of the second wing in the prison has no clue that his closest employee is a member of the Dragon organization." And of course, at this moment, Ong moves quickly and strikes the stocking she's wearing, so the tattoo appears on her leg, and she says, "What's this? You never told me before that you liked these things." Ong replies, "Did you finish the matter I told you about?" Suya answers, "Yes, of course, I brought him here with me." But the idea of getting him out of the building without the director noticing was a real headache. Anyway, as you can see, Kang's son is now in the second wing. She pulls out our hero's file and shows it to him, so Ong replies, "Okay, this second wing is a place completely isolated from the outside world, meaning no visits or phone calls are allowed inside. And it's also a place full of talented young people who don't have a sponsor from the Dragon organization yet. And I'll get you into that place so you can recruit them when the right time comes." This was an unexpected opportunity. Anyway, what is this boy planning? Suya answers, "So far he's acting normally and hasn't done anything. Because in the end, the second wing is a very peaceful place, And the director once told me why the sharks don't fight each other, meaning even if one of them had to eat his opponent after a long bloody battle, he would be defenseless then because of the injuries he sustains after the battle, and the result would be easy prey for the rest of the sharks. Ong says easy prey. And that's very nice. And we return to the present time, and our hero is going up the stairs while remembering when he was in the cell, and at that time he was putting on his t-shirt, and here Tyson tells him, I'm so happy because you're a good person. You don't even have any tattoos like the rest of the sharks who are from the Dragon organization. We were walking on eggshells every day, and all of that because of the Black Marks group. You're really better than all of them. But suddenly, he grabs our hero by the neck and slams him against the wall. So Taisan is terrified by what happened to him, and On says, while terrified, I didn't say anything. So our hero asks, did you just say the Dragon organization? And we continue with our hero on the stairs. And as soon as he reaches the second floor, he says, so the 4 sharks are members of the Dragon organization. We see him standing in front of a cell door on the second floor, and in another place, Ong is in the car, smoking his cigar and saying, Kang has always been the second man in the organization. And of course, it doesn't take a genius to know why he's doing this. He wants to use his son to become the gang leader. Finally, there's something I can use against him. You're trying to hide it, Kang. Anyway, whatever you want, it doesn't matter what you do, because I'll personally make sure you and your son hit rock bottom. We go back to the other wing as the intercom system crackles to life. The prisoners in the hallway are surprised, wondering if those are the speakers or what. Naturally, the warden is baffled by what's happening. And here, our hero starts speaking, saying, test, test. Is this thing on? Now listen up, you black-marked ones, or should I say sharks? I'm Young from the first floor, and I'm the son of Kang, the second in command of the Dragon organization. I'm sure you all know what that means. Whoever gets to me will get a reward from the organization. So come on, boys, come and get a piece of me while you can. Our hero sees that while he's currently in a peaceful fish tank, there are still sharks in this tank. And because of them, there's a state of balance and tension. So he decided to disrupt the peace, even if he had to use himself as bait. Warden 1 is shocked, saying, am I dreaming? It's as if he just said he'd face every shark in the tank. He laughs like a madman, dunking his head into the tank in his office. Something like this has never happened in this wing before. I can't wait to see how my new shark will change the ecosystem here. Now to the hall where the shark with glasses has a prisoner in a chair saying, so he's the son of the second in command, right? I wonder how it feels to be the son of such a great man. The prisoner Aeon smiles and says he must be proud to be his son. Aeon starts laughing, and Jay, the second floor shark with glasses, replies, yeah, that's what most would say, but I could hear how angry he was. Then Jay pushes Aeon, knocking him and the chair to the floor, adding, that's gotta hurt. Are you okay? You don't look okay. Come on, sit back in the chair. Aeon looks at him, stunned by what he just did. Now, outside the prison, we see Ong's car next to Kang's. The two of them are sitting there, having a drink. Ong says, as he fills Kang's glass, I can't remember the last time we sat down for a drink together. We used to drink here every night back when we were young. Kang replies, yeah, but that was a long time ago. We were just reckless kids then, having just joined the gang. Ong continues, exactly. Who would have thought one of those kids would become the second in command? Or rather, the only one who became the second in command. Kang is drinking but stops and puts his glass back on the table when he hears Ong's words. Ong goes on, your son is in high school, if I remember correctly. He must be busy studying for college applications. I heard private schools, but Kang interrupts him while filling Ong's glass. So you know my son is in juvenile detention right now. Ong answers, of course I know. The Dragon organization is basically a conglomerate now. And our boss still believes the strongest in the group has the right to lead the gang. And I'm sure why you decided to use your son, of course, so he can reach the highest level. And because you know you'll remain the second in command for the rest of your life. Your decision was to send him to prison to train away from the organization's eyes. He asks Kang, so what are you going to do about this situation? Ong is shocked and replies, don't you see that I can report this to our boss right now? Then Kang stands up and says to him, you think you found my weakness? That's why you're still the executive director and you'll stay that way. You can finish your drink at your leisure. Kang then puts on his jacket and is about to leave the place, so Ong says to him, I heard he was moved to the second wing, and I have no problem waiting longer to witness your downfall, but I wish I could watch your son being torn apart by the sharks before he can grow up and become a dragon. Of course, Kang remains standing and listens to this, then he leaves without a single word, and Ong starts laughing loudly and continues. how intense the situation was because the great Kang couldn't respond with a single word. Suddenly, Ong hears something breaking. He's surprised by the noise that happened and goes outside to find his car smashed. Of course, Kang drives away in his car without even looking back. And we go back to the prison and see Soya in the monitoring room saying that was truly something very surprising. This person is completely unpredictable, just like his father. Honestly, I'm starting to like him, but I'm sure nothing will happen in the second wing. Wait a second, what brought this person to the first floor? The prisoners on the first floor are standing in the hallway, surprised as they look at the person who entered, and the person says, "Sorry, I'm looking for someone." And here our hero approaches from behind him and sees him coming after looking back and continues. "So you're here, the shark of the first floor?" And we go back a bit in time and see a prisoner holding a picture of his wife and daughter. He's thinking that children are the ones who bring happiness. And he was able to understand this when he was 18 years old. But at the same time, he felt then that the whole world was against him. He was trying to be a good father. And of course, now he knows that all the money he was earning from temporary work, which was a very large amount, turned out to be illegal. And of course, because he was working to pay the house rent and for his family, he sees himself as stupid and says, "I hope my daughter is in good health. I wonder if they're okay and able to pay for food and bills?" Sigh. And here Jay enters and asks who was sighing. So the prisoner replies, surprised that he was the one who did that. So Jay continues, "This sighing is natural. It's a natural reaction from the body due to stress. But it's not a good thing because everyone has the right to live happily. Tell you what, come with me." And we return to the present time and see our hero's cellmates shocked. Taisan says that this person is one of the sharks. So Yoon covers his mouth and whispers to him to be completely quiet and not speak. And here Jay says, "What do you think of your new place of residence?" Our hero replies as he approaches him, "I can tell you that this place is a luxury hotel compared to the first wing." Jay continues, "Beautiful, it's very beautiful to hear that, because the atmosphere you live in affects your level of happiness." So Young says to him while rolling up his t-shirt sleeve, "Enough with the nonsense now. Get straight to the point." Jay is surprised and asks, "Get to the point?" Well, let me clarify something first. I don't like fights because they're the reason people get angry and unhappy. Of course, here Tai-san tries to speak, but Yoon keeps his mouth shut and tells him to stay calm. Our hero continues, "Well, since that's the case, why are you here then?" Jay replies, "When I heard your voice coming through the speaker, there was something very negative and it was showing through your words. But how could that happen? You're the son of the second in command in the Dragon Organization. What reason do you have that makes you so upset?" Of course, here Taizan manages to speak and says, "Sir, I'm not happy about what might happen and I don't know where we'll end up." Our hero says to Jay while grabbing him by his t-shirt, "Are you really here just to ask that stupid question?" But suddenly, our hero is shocked when he sees a terrifying aura in front of him, as if a demon had appeared. Our hero remains stunned, and Jay replies to him, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause you any offense. And honestly, I came here to invite you to something." Our hero is surprised by this invitation. Jay continues, "Yes, I want to invite you to the chair on the second floor. Because from my point of view, I believe everyone has the right to be happy. I'll be waiting for you on the floor above." And indeed, Jay leaves the cell and returns to his floor. A little later, we see Eun hiding under the blanket saying, while terrified, "What just happened is very scary. All I want to do is dig a hole and hide inside it." Taisan stands at the cell door and says, while looking out, "I think he's gone back to the second floor now, sir. Sir, can you hear me?" Of course, our hero is sitting on the bed, thinking that he felt something strange when he grabbed him by his t-shirt, and that this person is not like the other opponents he has faced before. Our hero remembers the invitation Jay told him about and says, "I have a question." Then Yoon comes out from under the blanket. Tyson replies, "Yes, of course, you can even ask me for my passport number." Our hero continues, "I want to know what's the deal with the chair he was talking about." "I mean, is there something special about this chair?" Tyson replies, "He might be talking about the happy chair. And this chair puts a smile on your face when you sit on it." I'm sure many people on the second floor consider this chair to be a nightmare. In the monitoring room, Juan is recording his notes while watching the screen, saying, "So, as soon as he arrived, he caused trouble and turned everything upside down. It seems I've brought myself something quite formidable. But I didn't expect the shark from the second floor to come for him, even though he's the one who hates trouble the most." True, nothing happened in the end. But here Soya interrupts him, asking, "Why does it seem like you want something to happen?" One replies, "I simply hope to observe a different set of phenomena." Soya asks if he'd like some juice, and the director accepts her offer, but she leans in to see the screens with him, thinking, "I'm a bit surprised that Young started provoking the other sharks, and it looks like he intends to take over the second wing as well. But now he'll learn why the sharks don't fight each other in this tank. And in the end, you won't be able to do anything young. Ayochi, At the prison gate, a woman holding a small child says to the guard, "What do you mean? You mean I won't be able to visit him?" The guard replies, "I'm sorry, but we've informed you of our new regulations." The woman, who turns out to be the wife of the prisoner who had her and their daughter's photo, continues, saying, "Can't we see him for just a few minutes? At least let him see his little daughter." The guard tells her, unfortunately, that's impossible. Then the little girl starts crying and her mother says, "I'm sorry, my princess. Did I wake you up? Let's go back this time." And I'm sure daddy is fine. Inside the prison, the inmate sits looking at the photo saying, "I hope you're well, my little princess. I'm so happy that you're my daughter. Your existence makes me so happy, happy beyond words." Of course, the prisoner is sitting on the chair of happiness that Jay has, whom we see standing behind the chair, pushing the prisoner off it onto the floor, saying, "What I'm hearing now is great. You've managed to find happiness." Aristotle once said that happiness is the primary goal and the purpose of human existence. And now, is there anyone else here who isn't happy? Who wants to sit on this chair? Naturally, the prisoner is unable to walk or stand. Two of his fellow inmates come to carry him out of the hall. All this because all the prisoners are afraid of the chair. But suddenly someone sits on it, and Jay is shocked when he sees him, saying, "This man," who turns out to be our hero. "So this is the famous happiness chair, isn't it? Come on, show me. Don't you want to put a smile on my face or what?" Going back in time, we see the prisoner on the chair, thinking his lips have dried up and are about to bleed, and his skin also feels like it's on fire. He asks himself how long he'll stay sitting on this chair. Then Jay approaches him and says, "What do you think now? Have you started to feel happy?" The prisoner is shocked and looks towards him, thinking that this man must be crazy. And he remembers when he came to him in the cell after hearing him sigh and told him then to follow him. He says to himself, "I should have known this from the moment he entered my cell and made me follow him just because I sighed." And how long have I been sitting on this chair? Almost half a day has passed, hasn't it? He hasn't given me any food or drink until now. This means that all the rumors about Jay turned out to be true. He's crazy and obsessed with happiness. And whoever sits on this chair is forbidden from getting up until they find happiness. And here the prisoner starts pretending to laugh and says, "I didn't feel it at first, but now happiness is present all the time. I feel like my endorphins and dopamine have increased a lot." Of course, the prisoner said this so he could escape from Jay, who replies, "Is that so? But in that case, you still have a long way to go to reach happiness. But don't worry, I'm sure this chair will help you find true happiness." And we go back to the moment when the prisoner was holding a picture of his wife and daughter. And here he started laughing like a madman, and Jay says to him after approaching him, "See? I told you this chair has an energy that makes anyone happy." The prisoner keeps laughing like someone who's gone mad and tells him that he's very glad and very happy. And he also looks at the picture and says that his little daughter is the reason for his happiness. After Jay threw him off the chair, Director One was watching the screen, seeing what was happening in the hall, and saying, "It seems the ecosystem on the second floor is stable as usual. I mean, these beautiful and happy smiles are enough. Truly, there's no better piece than this." And of course, these smiles are not natural to the people themselves, but they happen to them because of the happiness chair. The shark on the second floor is a very kind and friendly person, but he has a habit that makes unhappy fish go crazy because he makes them sit on the chair until they become happy. He might think their happiness is real. Truly, this guy is something completely different. But why is he obsessed with the idea of happiness? I want to watch him and find out exactly how he behaves. Here finally comes the shark, who will eventually be able to give me the answer to all my questions. And of course, Director One is referring to our hero sitting on the chair in front of Jay, who says, "I didn't expect to see you here so early. Anyway, I'm very glad to see you. Look around you. I think all these people feel the same way, don't they? Don't you think they all look happy?" Our hero looks at those present and is shocked by their appearance because they're all smiling, and among them is Tai-san, who whispers to Leon, "What are you doing here?" Leon replies, "You must be joking, right? When the shark says something, we have to do it. And if we don't, then our end will be in the sewers or something like that." The truth is, when Jay was in their cell, he told our hero he was waiting for him. Then he looked at both of them and said he was waiting for them as well. Now Tai-san whispers to Leon, asking, "Why are they all smiling like that? What's making them smile in the first place?" Leon replies, "How should I know? Shut up and let's just watch." So our hero sitting on the chair says, "So this is your definition of happiness?" Jay replies, "Yes, when someone smiles, it means they're glad and happy. Now let me show you how you can be happy as well." But before he finishes, our hero interrupts him and says, wait. You have talked a lot about happiness since the moment we met. I want to know why you're so obsessed with it. Jay is shocked by our hero's question and remembers when he was young. We see torn teddy bears around him as he sits on the floor holding one. Then his parents come in and say they've brought him a gift, which is the chair of happiness. They then ask him to sit on it and think about his feelings and the thoughts he has, and soon he'll be able to find true happiness. Back to the hall, and Jay replies, "You want to know why I'm obsessed with happiness? It's very simple. Because humans spend their whole lives seeking happiness. Once upon a time, there was a sad little boy, and that was me. And I didn't know what happiness meant, just like you now." Our hero tells him, "You don't know me." Jay continues, "No, but so far I can see the terrible shadow of your misery." Taisan whispers and says he doesn't see anything, so Aeon tells him to just shut up and smile. Jay then says, "I cannot help you. But I wonder, what's the reason for all this pain you have? The anger you have is suffocating. Who are you directing this anger at? Or let me be more precise. What is the root of this anger?" Our hero is shocked by his words and remembers Aeon and the accident that happened to her. Then Jay moves away and continues, "Did something or someone come to mind just now? I can understand how hard it is to forget something that was very important to you, but you must learn how you can let go of everything. Anything that might stand in the way of your happiness must be considered an obstacle." Then Taizan tells Aeon he's getting ready, so Aeon asks him, "Ready for what?" Taizan continues, "Look, the other shark has his back to us, which means this is our only chance to escape. They're talking about something serious, right? Don't you feel the silence and the suffocating atmosphere? If we run now, no one will be able to catch us." Aeon answers, "This idea might actually work." Taisan tells him, "Well, get ready to escape after I finish counting. 3, 2, 1. But here they're both shocked when they see our hero lift the chair and hit Jay on the back with it, breaking it. Jay looks at him afterwards, and our hero says, "You told me about the shadow of my misery, didn't you? You want to know what is making me nervous, and you also want to know what the root of my anger is. First, let me say thank you for reminding me of the bad things, you animal. And now you've made me very angry." Of course, everyone, when Jay was young, one night he was sitting in his room and his parents came in calling him, but he didn't answer, saying while holding a toy in his hand, "Don't worry, I'll make sure you're all happy because that's what happens when you smile, isn't it?" His father sees that Jay's condition has worsened, so he decides to take him back to the doctor treating him, who says, "You see, there's no progress, right?" I can say that Jay's case is considered one of the very dangerous cases of early childhood depression that I've encountered in my career. But since we're a bit lucky, I think we can find a solution. The father asks him, "What is this idea and what is the solution?" The doctor answers, "It's a kind of placebo effect. We'll try to help him so that his sense of happiness is linked to a chair. Every time he sits on it, he'll feel happy. And since he's still young, this is bound to affect him, and quickly." We return to our hero, who feels like he's standing on the surface of water. Of course, we all know about the mutation, how it heightens emotions in a certain way, allowing the person to unleash all their physical strength. But our hero really hates this state he's in because he feels like he's just a tiny bit away from drowning beneath the surface he's standing on. And naturally, after the chair was broken over Jay's back, he just stands there in silence. Suddenly, he says, "Everyone here, get out." The prisoners are startled, and Tisan asks, "Did he really let us go?" Yun replies, "Who knows, but let's go." Jay looks at the chair, now in pieces, and says, "Wow, you broke the chair of happiness. You've turned out to be much more violent than I imagined. But don't worry, I can always make another one. After all, it's just a symbolic thing." Our hero is surprised and asks him, "Atriyadi, aren't you going to cry or shout?" Jay answers, "I won't allow myself to experience any negative emotions over something as trivial as this. But it seems your anger is what made you break the chair. And someone was the cause of that anger. In my opinion, you should speak with them with complete honesty. Because when you let out what's inside, what you've been hiding because you're hesitant or forced," our hero interrupts him then and tells him to shut his mouth. Jay is surprised and continues, "Wow, are those people no longer with us? But it doesn't matter. There's always another way. You know how a smile symbolizes happiness? Why don't you try to remember the way they used to smile at you? Like when you'd watch a comedy together, or enjoy a meal, or do something that made you both happy. Think of all those beautiful things and memories. Now think of those people smiling even as their lives were ending, and now they're just a memory. What do you think of that? Don't you start to feel better when you imagine them smiling?" But before he can finish, our hero attacks him and throws a punch. But this time, Jay catches his hand and says, "What's this? You're still suffering from that anger of yours." Here, Jay looks at his shoulder, which is moving violently, and it gets dislocated. He's surprised by what happened. He looks back at our hero, who raises his leg and kicks him with incredible force, pinning him to the wall and says, "I told you to shut up!" Jay stands up, and we see him popping his dislocated shoulder back into place, saying, "That's why you were transferred here. Pointless violence won't bring you happiness." Young replies, "You know, you've been talking about happiness for a long time and nothing else. But it's obvious you're not happy at all, to the point where you don't even know what happiness feels like." Our hero approaches him again, grabs him by his shirt, and raises his hand to strike his face. At that moment, Jay remembers when he was young, sitting on the chair and saying to his mother, who was sitting beside him, "I have a question. What does happiness mean?" His mother is surprised, looks toward the chair, and says, "I think happiness is something like a big, bright smile." We return to the moment our hero raised his hand. And here, Jay starts saying the word happiness several times in a row. Our hero is puzzled by him and suddenly feels unable to continue his attack. He gets a severe headache that makes him pull away from Jay, clutching his head, unable to bear the pain. Tai-san, who's standing outside the hall watching, says, "What happened to him?" Yun replies to him, "Wait, I remember him saying several times that he gets headaches when we were in the cell." Tai-san continues, "What are you saying? But he's in the middle of a battle now." Of course, our hero is trying to soothe the pain in his head and is thinking, if this was a side effect, and maybe he pushed himself too hard. He remembers when he was fighting the other cell leaders because he used the mutation for a very long time in the first wing, and he sees himself again standing on top of the water, but this time he finds himself drowning in it. He sees many copies of his father's image all under the surface looking at him, and here he hears Jay telling him, "To answer your question, I know exactly what happiness is. If you can see yourself in the mirror, personally, I don't think you could be any further from being happy." And here Jay moves quickly and gets behind our hero, raises his leg, and hits him with terrible force, slamming him to the ground. Jay continues, "Please, I want you to bear with me because this is the only way I can wipe all the misery off your face and put a beautiful smile in its place." He approaches him and reaches out his hand to grab him by the neck, but our hero is holding a piece of wood from the broken chair and says, "You told me the misery on my face." So he attacks Jay and hits him with it on his face. Jay is shocked when he sees the large wound marked on his face. Our hero continues, "What's the problem? Let me see that beautiful smile now, come on." Tai-san and Eon are shocked by what our hero did, and Tai-san says, "I thought he was done for when he got the headache, but it seems it doesn't matter to him." Eon replies, "Yes, indeed, it's still too early to judge him." So Tai-san asks, "Why are they still here?" Eon says to him, "You mean you don't want to see what's going to happen?" At that moment, Soya arrives behind them carrying her cup and says, "Wow, a battle between two sharks. This will be something very enjoyable to watch." They are both surprised, and Tai-san whispers and asks Eon about her. So Eon answers him while whispering, "She's with the manager," but they call her an administrative manager. So Soya says to him, "I can hear you, by the way," and she takes a sip from the cup in her hand. Thinking that events have started to change quickly and that our hero is now facing negative consequences as he's been using the mutation for a long time. So they both look at her and Tai-san is afraid of her and she continues to herself, but he didn't account for the fact that he might face another shark. It seems he inherited Kang's power, but he's still a young cub. Our hero is standing in front of Jay, holding his head, and Jay is looking at him, putting his hand on the wound on his face, saying, "I don't like violence. It doesn't encourage happiness. But I must enter this suffering to reach my ultimate goal." Our hero is surprised by the words ultimate goal, and Jay continues, "There's nothing in the Dragon organization that resembles happiness, and it only contains criminality and violent crimes that are very miserable. That's why I plan to make every one of them a happy person." And here he runs very fast, reaches our hero, punches him in the stomach, sends him flying, and knocks him to the ground. So our hero looks at him, feeling wronged. And Jay approaches him afterward and says to him, "This is the reason why I joined them." First, Young replies as he gets up, "You can talk about happiness as much as you want, but in the end, you'll remain a criminal." And here our hero gives him a hard blow to the face, making him step back. But Jay composes himself and attacks Young again, grabbing him by the head and saying to him, "There is no good and evil. When you strive for happiness," our hero is then pushed with immense force and thrown far until he slams into the wall and falls to the ground again. Then Jay approaches him and says, "The only difference is whether you are happy or not." Of course, from the force of the blow, there's a commotion, and when it subsides, Jay looks toward the wall and doesn't find our hero, who appears behind him holding a piece of wood in his hand, about to strike Jay with it. But Jay turns quickly and blocks the blow. So Young says, "So you're saying that happiness is the reason you got imprisoned?" Jay remembers himself as a child, and we see him eating with his sister sitting across from him at the table. She says to him, "I feel like you're depressed today. Did something happen at school?" He replies to her, "My classmates said they don't want to play with me because I'm sad, strange, and lonely. They even said they hate looking at me because I make them feel bad things." Are people who don't know joy and happiness forced to live alone for the rest of their lives? His sister tells him, of course not. I think you'll be able to make friends. Jay is surprised and asks her, how? So she continues, when you go to your friends at school, approach them while smiling brightly. That will make them feel happy too. And then over time, you'll be happy as well. See, this happiness is something like the flu. And we return to the prison, and Jay says, while dodging our hero's attack, do you know why I love this place so much? Because this place is full of unhappy people. And I was looking for a way to make people happy after using them as test subjects. Of course, here Jay grabs our hero by the hand and strikes him hard in the stomach and then punches him in the face. Soya is watching this battle and is startled by the force of the blow. So the cup in her hand shakes and some spills on her clothes and on Taisan and Eon's heads. And she says, oh, now I'll have to wash my clothes again. Of course, both of them are surprised by her, but they whisper to each other that they can't say anything to her. As for Soya, she wonders if happiness is really the reason Jay became the shark on the second floor or what. Because his potential is undeniable, and he would be a very valuable addition to the Dragon organization. And of course, he hasn't used his skill until now. Our hero stands before Jay and says to him, I don't care about all that talk. I mean, the story about wanting to do an experiment or a charity with some criminals, I know that's not your real goal. Jay is shocked by his words, and they both attack each other quickly, landing blows on each other at the same time. And of course, they both feel pain at the same moment, and Jay is ready to strike. And indeed, our hero punches him again and then a third punch, but our hero blocks the blow again, and Jay says, are you going to keep hiding like a turtle inside its shell? Fine, let's finish this. And Jay attacks our hero to strike him, but his foot gets caught in the broken wood beneath him and twists because of it. Here, Jay leans forward, so our hero approaches him, grabs his head, and strikes it with his knee with all his might. At that moment, the glasses break and fall to the ground, and this blow hurts Jay very much. Our hero then says to him, you say you want to make other people happy, but you don't actually care about them, right? You're doing this only for yourself. Jay puts his hand on his face and remembers himself when he was young, smiling and saying to his sister, you know, sister, I have new friends today because I did exactly what you told me. I smiled broadly and asked them. But before he can finish, he hears his sister saying, I want to be happy. I want to feel happiness. I want to be happy. Of course, Jay's family sees how bad things are and wishes they could do more for their daughter because her depression has spiraled out of control and her condition is now worse than Jay's. As for her treatment, it's no longer having any effect on her. They're amazed at how she manages to pretend she's okay despite everything she's going through, especially when she's with her younger brother, Jay. And we go back to her saying, Jay, you have to be happy. You see, happiness is like the flu. Maybe I can finally be happy once you find happiness yourself. Inside the prison, Jay is sitting on the floor with his hand on his head, telling our hero, you made a nice offer, wanting to help others and make them happy, but you're just a despicable, selfish person. Our hero raises his hand to strike him, but Jay moves quickly and grabs him by the throat, saying, you're right. I don't care about helping anyone else be happy. I've suffered deeply from depression since the day I was born, which means I have never experienced what happiness feels like in my life. My existence in this life can only be described as pure misery. In the monitoring room, the warden is staring at the screen and says, this is the mutation. The idea might seem strange, but theoretically, it's quite simple. The truth is, scientifically, a mutation occurs through a neural and muscular reaction in the body, and the primary cause is a group of hormones, including adrenaline, which push the body to a level of strength so great that the person who reaches it can perform superhuman feats. Warden 1 is saying this to himself, and he continues, generally, this phenomenon is extremely rare for humans, and most cases of it are purely accidental. But being able to use this mutation is the first requirement for someone to become a shark. Unfortunately, I'm afraid this might work against Young, because Jay, the shark on the second floor, is the ultimate embodiment of misery due to the depression he was born with. This boy reminds me of a shark that lives in the dark depths of the ocean, the Greenland shark. This shark moves slowly and appears to be very calm, and you'll always find a cold look in its eyes, traits that make it seem uninterested in hunting fish, but it springs into action the moment it spots its prey, displaying its immense power to take down a large number of creatures in the ocean. After all that, scientists agreed that the Greenland shark is at the top of the ecosystem in the North Atlantic. We return to our hero and Jay, who has him by the throat and is lifting him into the air. Our hero is trying to break free from his grip. Jay says, you have no idea how terrible it is when you live in misery every single second of your life. Jay strikes him from the side, sending him spinning 180 degrees in the air, and our hero lands on the ground thinking Jay has become a different person and must know how to use the mutation. Then Jay raises his leg and brings it down hard on our hero's face, slamming him into the ground. He continues, "You won't be able to understand why I'm so desperate in my search for happiness." Young raises his head and thinks to himself, "It would be a huge risk to use the mutation right now. I have to defeat him another way." Suddenly, our hero is caught off guard as Jay's foot strikes his face with incredible speed, sending him flying, and he continues, "But on one fateful day, I finally discovered why bad luck exists and how I can truly be happy." We go back in time to when Jay was still young with coloring pencils in front of him. He says while drawing, "I'll try to draw the happiest face in the world, but I'm confused. What does a happy face look like?" He remembers his sister telling him about happiness being in a bright smile, and he also remembers her when she had an episode and said she wanted to be happy. And he wonders what his sister would look like with a real smile. After a while, he goes to her, calls her, shows her his drawing, and asks, "What do you think?" "I drew you because I have a drawing assignment. Look at this." Of course, Jay's goal was to make his sister smile for him, and he expected her to like the drawing as soon as she saw it. Here, he takes his sister's hand and is surprised because it's so cold, and she had also stopped breathing. To this day, he still remembers exactly how his sister looked sitting on the chair of happiness. She was more than anyone else in the world, looking for happiness, and the misery he had was nothing compared to the misery she had. But when she reached the point of death, she was smiling and literally had the happiest face in the world. We return to him in the present with our hero, who stands up and says, "Jay, on the day I discovered different paths to happiness. It's exactly like light. It doesn't exist without darkness. And how peace shines after war. You can't feel happiness unless misery exists." Here, our hero runs towards him, hits him very hard, and asks, "So you're a philosopher now, aren't you?" But our hero is shocked when Jay grabs his hand and blocks the blow easily. He continues, "My sister was able to reach the purest forms of happiness because the depth of her misery was so great, and I hope to walk the same path she did. And if you try to stand in my way, I'll have no choice but to finish you off." Of course, Jay twists our hero's arm and then hits him with his knee in the face. So our hero steps back and says, "I don't care about the story of your great journey to happiness. I'm basically sick of you and tired of all your crappy talk, and the story is over now." Jay is shocked by his words, raises his hand, puts it on our hero's face, slams him to the ground, and says, "I'm the one who's sick of this talk. You can take all the time you need and keep wallowing in your misery instead of looking for happiness." Of course, our hero stays on the ground and doesn't move, but he imagines himself lying in the middle of the water. And when he opens his eyes, he's shocked and says to himself, "I know exactly where I am. This place is where all my anger is, but I can't even move a single finger. And my body is completely numb, but I feel like my consequences are disappearing, and I'm drowning." He closes his eyes and lets himself go in the water he's in, which makes him sink deeper and deeper. And he asks himself, what is this strange place? Because he started to feel warm, so he decides to open his eyes. And as soon as he opens them, he's shocked to find Yoon standing at the bottom, reaching out to grab him by the head. And we go back to the observation room. And the manager is looking at the screen showing our hero lying on the ground, and he brings a fish-shaped cookie to his mouth and says, "Honestly, this is one of the fiercest battles I've ever seen." But no serious researcher would waste a single minute on it. What a waste. I was hoping for a beautiful show that would present a new model for my research. But unfortunately, it ended in a very big disappointment. Maybe I should stop trying to explore Shark 7199. And maybe I was wrong to see him as a shark in the first place. The manager heads toward the monitoring room door to leave, and we return to our hero's imagination, standing before Yoon underwater, saying, "I don't understand." Yoon looks at him, smiles, and asks him, "How are you doing?" He's really shocked when he hears her voice and says, confused, "I'm fine." Yoon continues, "I noticed you were enjoying your time, weren't you? But how could you do that? I'm here alone, shivering, buried under the ground. You don't deserve to be happy." At that moment, Yoon's appearance changes and she's covered in blood. Our hero is shocked when he sees her like this. Then Yoon screams, approaches him, and says, "I'm dead because of you." Here, Yoon changes, and our hero's father appears in her place, finishing the sentence. "All of this was for your own good. She died so that your true power would emerge." Young reaches out his hand to grab him while calling out to him, but suddenly he finds himself falling to the ground before him. Kang continues, "My life will reach its end and be complete. And all of this is because of you, my son. Thank you. You wish to finish me off and take revenge for your friend. Then you must become the king of this juvenile prison." Our hero looks at him, angry and lying on the ground, until he finds himself lying before him on the ground in a street. We return to the monitoring room as the manager is leaving, saying at the door, "It seems I must wait for the perfect phenomenon for my research. I'm thinking of going home now." Suddenly, he hears our hero's voice from the screen, telling Jay to stay where he is. The manager is shocked and looks trembling toward the screen, thinking that this is impossible. He can't believe our hero was able to stand on his feet again. In the battle hall, Jay stands and looks toward our hero, saying, "I don't understand. Your body must have lost all its energy by now, especially since you were suffering from the mutation's side effects. And you were also being beaten in the battle between us. What made you stand up again?" Our hero sighs, looks at the ground, and is about to speak. But here we see Jay attacking our hero, grabbing him by the neck again and continuing. "Of course, everything you say is no longer important." But suddenly Jay is shocked, and his hand starts to tremble because he couldn't even move our hero. He asks him, "Are you resisting? But how? This is physically impossible." Young tells him, "This won't be the end for me." Here, guys, our hero uses the rage mutation, and we see him land a very powerful punch on Jay's face. And then he hits him with another punch to his side, sending him flying. The manager is watching what's happening and says, "I've never seen anything like this in all the reports and papers I've read. How can a shark that was dying after all the beating he took return to clash again? This goes against all the forces of nature. Seriously, Yoon, you are unparalleled." Jay stands up again and says, "You're not the only desperate one here. I refuse to stop until I reach true happiness." And we all know, guys, that Jay's mutation is misery. We see our hero running after Jay and raising his leg in the air. So Jay looks at him in shock, and our hero brings his leg down on Jay's head, slamming him into the ground with incredible force. But Jay grabs our hero's leg and continues, "No, this won't be the end. I'm so close. You want to send me back to misery again? In that case, you'll go back before me." Jay tries to pull our hero's leg, but he can't. He looks ahead and sees a terrifying aura appearing behind our hero, and he's shocked when he sees it. Here, he gets angry and squeezes our hero's leg, who jumps into the air and is flying over Jay. He spins in midair and says, "Enough. I think we've wasted a lot of time." And here he drops his knee on Jay, hitting him very hard on his head, and then he stands before him and says, "No need to drag me into your misery because I'm already there." He says this while remembering Yoon, and the glow appears in his eyes. And Tyson is standing at the door, looking at the hall where the battle took place, saying, "I've just seen a battle between two real sharks. This is something one had to see and keep as a memory. But what happened here is like an all-out war, not a battle between two." Taesan hears Eon's voice saying, "No, please, I'm so scared. Someone get me out of here." Taesan asks him what his problem is now. So Eon says to him while hanging from the window, "Do you know what this means? There will be battles as long as Young is here. I don't want to get into these stories. If I could escape now, I'd be at the port tomorrow morning." Taesan taps his shoulder and says, "Don't worry, Eon. I'll handle this matter. Trust me. The solution is very simple. There are flowers here, and these flowers are poisonous, and I'll use them with hot water and give it to Young to drink. And as soon as the poison works, Young will be paralyzed. Then I'll get a knife," and Eon interrupts him and says, "We're definitely not doing that." Taesan continues, "Actually, it would be easier for me to just strangle him." Eon keeps banging on the window. And here Soya says, "So Kang's son himself. I can really see the resemblance. He turned out to be more serious than I expected. And he's also a very handsome guy."